Journalists asked the Pro League players a simple question: who do you want on your team? Every single one of them answered without a second thought: the genius midfielder, Song Yoo-jun. His entire life always revolved around football. Heck, his absolute favorite first birthday gift was literally just a ball. He trained like crazy. By elementary school, people were already calling this kid a total prodigy. His skills skyrocketed. By high school, he basically walked around as the undisputed football god on campus. Song Yoo-jun fully believed he was built different. So when he strutted into the Dongju High School team tryouts, confidence was practically spilling out of him. He was ready to flex, drop jaws, and completely steal the spotlight. But reality hit hard when he spotted another guy, someone phenomenal, ripping incredibly powerful, laser-precise shots. Tryout number 16, Young Min. Even the scout openly admitted his all-around stats and finishing touches were absolutely flawless. They knew right then he was the top pick. For the first time in his life, Song Yoo-jun tasted bitter defeat, a total gut punch. Young Min was just a freshman too, yet he clearly played on a completely different level. But Song Yoo-jun refused to break. He made a hard promise to himself: no way in hell was he settling for a background role. This rivalry lit a serious fire under him. From that exact moment, he started training every single day without fail, pushing himself from the crack of dawn until long after official team practice finished. Rain or shine, he never stopped. One single obsession. Fast forward 6 months now, 17 and playing central midfielder, he is completely outrunning his opponent on the grass. But his pass? Absolutely awful. He is playing alongside the team's striker, Young Min. Because of that sloppy mistake, the striker loses ball control. Song Yoo-jun quickly throws a hand up, apologizing for the screw-up. To make up for it, he kicks into high gear, taking full responsibility for shutting down the opposing team's vicious counterattack. The rival players are totally dumbfounded. They wonder how he can sprint so relentlessly, straight up calling the kid a monster. Just as he finally wins possession back, the referee blasts the whistle, signaling the end of a grueling first half. Kicking off the 15-minute break, Song Yoo-jun chugs a massive bottle of water, though he barely even looks out of breath. That is when Young Min storms over demanding answers, barking about what kind of absolute garbage pass that was. He swats Song Yoo-jun right on the head. "Practice your passing," he barks, "and use all that time you waste sleeping or slacking off to actually train." The bastard has no clue how much I already practice, Song Yoo-jun thinks. And ironically, Young Min is the exact reason he works himself to the bone. The striker then reminds his teammate of the ticking clock, barely 2 months left before the Under-17 World Cup selections begin. "If you really want a spot," he warns him, "you better train like an absolute madman." They are gearing up for the 2009 Nigeria World Cup, a massive, prestigious international tournament run entirely by FIFA. Young Min points out that shining there changes absolutely everything. The entire world would recognize their pure talent, but honestly, just thinking about drilling that pass over and over gives Song Yoo-jun a major headache. The whistle sounds time to get back on the pitch. Young Min practically shoves his teammate forward, urging him to go all out. "Do not mess it up this time. Play fast, play direct, and actually make something happen." Song Yoo-jun casually agrees, just riding the momentum. But watch closely here, an agonizing pain suddenly stabs right through his eyes, turning his vision completely blurry. He crumples hard onto the grass. Young Min sees him drop first, completely panicking as he screams for someone to call an ambulance immediately. Later, following the massive initial shock and a heavy battery of tests, Song Yoo-jun and his parents sit in the clinic receiving the worst news imaginable. The young athlete has a severely progressing case of color blindness. The doctor explains he is likely feeling the absolute worst of the immediate symptoms right now. He asks if his vision is completely black and white. It is tragically true. The boy can no longer perceive a single drop of color anywhere. The doctor tries to comfort the shattered family. At least he somehow avoided going totally blind. But he delivers a harsh warning. His vision will keep deteriorating rapidly, demanding absolute maximum rest at home. Any activity causing eye strain is strictly forbidden. Completely heartbroken, Song Yoo-jun asks the one question that matters: can he still play football? The doctor's quiet no shatters them. "Now prepare yourself, because we are jumping 15 entire years into the future." Young Min stares at his television in pure disbelief. "For God's sake," he grumbles, "how is a literal doctor going to make the national team?" Because that is exactly the kind of wild drama every football fan lives for. Meanwhile, Song Yoo-jun just peacefully sips his cold beer. He asks what a simple office worker like him has to do with that. Young Min just grumbles. He can hardly believe he used to play intense ball with a guy who turned into such a boring corporate suit. Song Yoo-jun immediately shoots back, "Hey, you chose to keep this friendship alive, so now you get to deal with it." The television displays a sick highlight reel from Young Min's recent season, with commentators praising him as the pride of South Korea, and I tease my buddy asking why on earth they were still broadcasting that old match. I swore that if it were me out on the pitch, I would have easily scored 5 goals by now. Youngmin called me crazy, but I just thought about how much attention this guy had grabbed from the whole world since our under 17 days. I always knew Youngmin was special, sure, but I never imagined he would actually become the captain of Tottenham. Then that inevitable thought crossed my mind again. If it just were not for my illness, things could be so different. I gathered my courage and finally asked him where did he think I would have reached if I kept playing. He wanted to know if I still held regrets. I confessed that I just needed to hear his honest opinion so I could finally move on for good. Youngmin just grabbed his beer mug and chugged the entire thing down at once. Then he stated firmly that I was a hell of a midfielder. My stamina and sheer grit were pure talent, and if I had actually continued playing, I would definitely be an absolute starter. I just smiled awkwardly. I told him I knew we were friends, but there was zero need to exaggerate the compliment. But Youngmin was dead serious. He added that if my passing were just a little bit better, I would be playing at a world-class level. I found the irony hilarious. I asked him what kind of midfielder does not know how to pass. That was just pure stupidity. Youngmin laughed at that. He joked that at least I had developed some decent self-criticism over time, but then he lamented our weird destiny, confessing that playing football with me was the most fun time of his life. I felt a sudden tightness in my chest. I honestly missed those times so dearly too. Right then I found out Youngmin had even begged the coach to let me play again back in the day. I playfully called the striker a total idiot. Noticing that my buddy was already getting pretty wasted from all the alcohol, I ended the night by putting the poor guy into an Uber home. I grumbled that he really should have just stuck to soda for being such a massive lightweight. Finally, left completely alone in the cold silence of the street, I just could not get what Youngmin said about me being close to world class out of my aching head. That sudden revelation only made the heavy weight of regret crush my chest even harder, while the dark sky broke out into a freezing downpour, and I could not help but curse my awful luck. If only my color blindness vanished. If I could just distinguish the different jersey colors on the pitch. If my eyesight was not so bad. And if the bright world around me had not slowly turned into that endless gray haze, everything would be completely different. Buried deep in these dark thoughts, right in the middle of the street, I ended up crossing the avenue exactly when a massive truck was speeding forward. I honestly do not know if the accident happened because I could not tell a red traffic light from a green one due to my vision, which makes complete sense. Or maybe the truck driver was just purely stupid and a genuinely terrible driver. But what actually matters is that right after the impact, destiny worked its crazy magic, and I somehow went straight back to the past. I woke up at the exact moment I had collapsed onto the grass years ago because of that absolutely unbearable pain in my eyes. Looking up, I immediately noticed the sky was a brilliant blue. I could actually see every single color perfectly once again. I stared blankly at Youngmin, standing right there looking way younger than before. I blurted out, "Why do you look so youthful?" He found the bizarre question entirely confusing. He replied that I had just dropped to the ground out of nowhere. Checking our gear, I noticed the crest stitched on our jerseys. It belonged to Dongju High School. I quickly recognized that this field belonged to the high school too. Could this just be one amazing dream? But the sharp whistle interrupted my thoughts. The referee announced the second half was about to start. Looking worried, Youngmin said he would tell the coach that I was not in any real condition to play today. But I firmly refused right there and guaranteed him that I was indeed going to play. I thought to myself, even if this whole thing was just a crazy delusion of my broken mind, it did not matter. Not as long as I could finally kick a ball again. The second I controlled the ball on the pitch, a massive wave of emotion hit me hard. I remembered how incredibly long it had been since I last felt that wonderful sensation. Thrilled to see the world in full color again, I got totally distracted by the awe and just froze, allowing an opponent to charge straight at me. Except, my pure instinct spoke louder. I masterfully dribbled past the marker, unleashing that explosive sprint only I could pull off. My whole body exploded with youthful energy that felt absolutely nothing like my tired previous life in my early 30s. Rival marking quickly tightened up on me, while our team striker was sprinting up ahead, calling loudly for the pass. Spotting my teammate, I thought about how insanely long it had been since I last saw Juchin. I found the perfect gap to send the ball. It was at that exact instant that something totally bizarre happens to Song Yoo-jung's vision. A massive pillar shining in a bright golden hue appears out of absolutely nowhere. Color blindness or pure madness? He isn't sure, but a sharp spark of intuition hits him hard. He just knows he needs to kick the ball straight into that light. Seeing the wild long pass, Ju Chen yells out, asking what he is doing that side of the pitch is a ghost town. But suddenly, their teammate Hyun appears shouting that he is right there. Hyun controls the ball beautifully, and Song Yoo-jung's jaw just completely drops. Thanks to that pinpoint pass, Hyun slots home a gorgeous goal, just perfectly executed. The young midfielder is absolutely radiant. All those years barred from playing flash by. Right now, pure happiness takes over. He celebrates like an absolute madman. He hasn't realized it yet, but that mysterious light, it's about to change his life forever. By sunset, the scrimmage featuring Dongju High School and Sushin High School wraps up. The players bow to each other, respecting a solid battle out on the turf. Leaving the locker room, a bunch of athletes are already making plans to hit up a LAN party, while others are totally wiped out and just want to sleep. Song Yu-jung walks a bit apart from the pack, grinning from ear to ear all by himself. He actually got to play. This real physical sensation is definitely not a dream. He really did travel back in time to save his football career. Seeing this, Hyun casually walks past him, asking why he is laughing to himself like a total weirdo. Song Yu-jung playfully shoots back, "Big bro is just happy." He gets a quick grumble in return, "Big bro, my foot." Even so, his teammate openly praises that wild play, wanting to know exactly how he managed to dream up such an impossible pass. Song Yu-jung thinks to himself that he doesn't even know the answer himself. The golden column vanished right after, but he brushes it off, saying his pure talent must finally be blossoming. His friend buys the excuse and moves right along. Song Yu-jung asks where he is rushing off to. Hyun replies that he is heading straight home for some real rest, since tomorrow brings another round of brutal training. The young midfielder almost completely forgot what his own house looks like, but he manages to track down his parents' apartment building, even after getting a little lost along the way. He digs into his memory for the door code, finally recalling it is his birthday. Stepping inside, he sees the home is exactly as it used to be. His mom and dad look so incredibly young. He greets his father in an extremely formal tone. The man finds it pretty weird and asks if his kid is sick. Song Yu-jung realizes speaking like that just became a totally automatic habit as he grew older in his past life. But his mother cuts the awkward tension short. She says everything is perfectly fine and tells everyone to eat. As she serves the table, the boy notices the massive pile of side dishes his mother always used to prepare. A familiar sight he completely lost the habit of seeing once he lived alone. But the exact moment he takes a bite, he confirms the flavor is still absolute garbage. His mother's total lack of culinary skills clearly remains 100% intact. Right in the middle of the meal, his father asks if he has thought about that serious talk they had regarding whether he will stick with playing football or not. Song Yu-jung remembers that back in the original timeline, his father wanted him to quit training, focus heavily on his studies, and eventually inherit the entire family company, which is exactly what he ended up doing in the past, right after he found out about his tragic illness. In the original timeline, he gave a vague, stalling answer. But watch this right here. The kid is completely decisive. He looks his father in the eyes and firmly states his mind is made up. He is playing football no matter what happens. He knows passing up the company is massive, but he is fully determined to live this second chance, exactly how he truly wants to. The next morning, the coach splits the squad up for another tough practice match, separating players into red and green pennies. Young Min ends up on the same team as Song Yu-jung, joking he is ready to carry his teammate today. But he admits if the midfielder repeats that insane pass from yesterday, it will be the exact opposite. Song Yu-jung just stays quiet. He remembers that golden column, really wondering if the bizarre light will show up again. When the match kicks off, the pitch looks totally normal. He figures the light was just a wild figment of imagination. The game flows on with the usual exchange of passes. He keeps his total focus on the ball, seeing nothing unusual. During an attack, Ju-chan controls the ball on his chest. He pushes dangerously toward the box, but gets firmly blocked by the defense. Annoyed, the striker complains out loud that the defenders just cannot stand to see him shine. Smartly, Song Yu-jung bolts forward, calling for the pass. He controls it, but things get extremely tricky fast. Song Yu-jung finds himself trapped by 3 defenders, 2 blocking the front and 1 right on his heels. He figures dropping back to reorganize is the smartest play, but right in that exact moment of heavy pressure, that golden column flashes in front of his eyes again. Only this time, the glowing target area is way smaller and tighter than before, meaning this pass will be highly difficult. He trusts his own raw potential without a second thought. Song Yu-jung takes the risk and fires the ball away. He knows he will never see the result unless he actually tries. The ball threads perfectly through a tiny millimeter gap, and right on cue, Hyun shows up in the exact spot to receive the gift. It takes an awkward bounce off the turf and pops up, but it hangs at the perfect height for Hyun to volley it straight toward the net. The rival keeper stays sharp and manages a solid save, totally frustrated by the missed opportunity. Hyun instantly complains about the terrible field conditions, but right as he watches his teammate take that shot, Song Yu-jung finally pieces things together. He figures out the actual purpose behind that mysterious golden column. Now pay close attention to how his new skill works. Following a fierce midfield scramble, the ball rolls loose, and Song Yu-jung steps right up to claim it. He realizes something big. If that earlier finish had landed perfectly inside the glowing zone, Min would have easily scored. He finally cracks the secret behind this light. Rule number 1, it only shows up when he actually has the ball at his feet. Just then, he spots Min already making a hard sprint toward the penalty box, completely ready for a forward pass. That exact run helps Song Yoo-jung figure out the second rule of this golden system. The marker only activates when a genuine scoring chance exists, the very second he launches a perfectly placed cross into the area. The third and absolute most important rule clicks in his head. If the ball hits that specific golden zone, it is a guaranteed goal. Song Yoo-jung cracks a quiet smile. Armed with a skill like this, he is about to become completely unstoppable. But he is not the only one noticing this upgrade. Someone else is quietly watching his performance from the edge of the field. This watcher silently praises the killer pass, amazed that the kid reacted the exact millisecond his striker made a run. It shows lightning-fast decision-making and an absolutely elite vision. The man taking notes is none other than Lee Jung-hwan. He is the head coach for the South Korean under-17 national team. He decides to keep a very close watch on Song Yoo-jung moving forward. Later on, the friends hang out to celebrate the red team taking the win. Min devours a corn dog and stares hard at his teammate, seriously asking if he is actually the real Song Yoo-jung. His passing game just leveled up in a totally absurd way, hitting tiers way above his usual standard. Song Yoo-jung laughs it off. He asks if it is really okay to throw wild accusations like that straight to his face. Min defends himself, pointing out that a massive skill jump like that does not just randomly happen overnight. The midfielder fires back, asking if he should just stop sending him the ball altogether. The striker instantly backpedals. He tells him absolutely not, because those new passes are turning out way too beautiful to waste. He happily demolishes 2 corn dogs at once after scoring a freebie. Meanwhile, Song Yoo-jung quietly reflects on the conversation. Looking at it from an outside perspective, his partner being suspicious makes total sense. Like Min just said, he always played as a standard box-to-box midfielder. It is a role where a guy basically has to run around like a complete madman, sprinting from their penalty area to the opponent's side, helping out heavily on both defense and offense. That heavy workload fit the old Song Yoo-jung perfectly. Having endless physical stamina to run non-stop was always his biggest weapon. So randomly turning into a genius playmaker with highly cerebral passes looks a little crazy to anyone watching. Things are about to escalate quickly. Min casually mentions that the under-17 national coach actually dropped by their school earlier today. The midfielder knows exactly who he means. Lee Jung-hwan is an incredibly famous legend in the sports world. Back in the day, this specific coach actually used to visit their campus almost every single afternoon. But his main goal was always keeping a close eye on Min. The striker suddenly hypes up his friend. He says if he keeps playing at today's elite level and catches the big boss looking, they could both make the under-17 national squad together. Song Yoo-jung immediately starts daydreaming about that massive opportunity. He promises himself he will give it everything he has. The very next morning, the team hits the field for a boring, basic fitness warm-up, which Min finds completely agonizing. But suddenly, their normal routine gets interrupted by a heavy bus pulling up. It is carrying the entire roster from the Seoul Youth Academy. None of the players got a warning about an actual match today, and the shock only grows when the legendary Lee Jung-hwan steps out right behind the visiting rivals. The Dongju High School coach walks over. The staff goes out to greet them, noting that a match against a powerhouse like the Seoul Academy is always completely welcome here. They take the chance to ask, did Lee Jung-hwan come all this way just to check up on Min again? To their absolute surprise, the national team commander says no. He reveals he actually came down to check out a few other things. Locking his eyes directly onto Song Yoo-jung, he admits this might be a rather last-minute request. His intention is perfectly clear. Soon after, the Dongju coach gathers the boys inside the locker room. He explains that standard fitness training is replaced by a high-stakes friendly against Seoul Academy, pointing out the starting lineup. It is set on the board. He tells everyone to start warming up, but Song Yoo-jung stays completely distracted. He chats in the corner with Min. He questions the real reason Lee Jung-hwan showed up, warning his friend to be extremely careful. He will absolutely be heavily marked all game, but Min just replies with a totally confused look. He says there is something very wrong with the lineup. When they double-check the board, absolute shock hits them. Min is not starting. The sheer absence of their star player leaves the boys totally baffled. They figure Dongju is screwed without their main striker. However, Coach Lee Jung-hwan analyzes the squad from afar. He thinks to himself he engineered this entire situation on purpose. His real goal is testing Song Yoo-jung's limits. He wants to see if the kid can deliver killer passes without the sheer brilliance and positioning of a star like Min. The commander wants the youngster to show his true midfield talent. He has to prove he actually has enough real grit. and the skill to claim an under-17 national team spot. Suddenly, the referee blows the whistle. The game kicks off tight and intensely physical between Dongju High School and the Seoul Youth Academy. The country actually has a specific organization built to scout and polish the next generation of football stars, the Youth Football Club. Countless academy teams are scattered around, but this Seoul U17 side led by Lee Jong-won operates on a completely different level. The exact moment Song Yoo-jung tries pressing forward, the ball ends up spilling right into the Seoul team's midfield. It falls directly at the feet of a player with superior tactical reading, a true football nerd. This opponent instantly starts calculating distance, speed, and exact reaction time. He even uses trigonometry to find the perfect space, calculating exact coordinates for his pass. When he fires the long-distance cross, the ball travels flawlessly, dropping right onto the visiting striker's foot. The forward finishes it without giving the defense any chance at all, opening the score right away for the Seoul Academy. Oh Sung-min, the central midfielder known as the pass mathematician. The night before, Yoo-jung heavily researched this exact guy. Turns out, Sung-min ranks #1 in pass accuracy and holds the tournament MVP. When it comes to passing, this guy sits on another level entirely. Since he plays central midfield, matching Yoo-jung's exact position, he is naturally the absolute main candidate for the U17 World Cup spot right now. If Yoo-jung wants his place, he needs absolutely absurd passing quality, something that felt entirely impossible in the past. But now he has the golden zone, and Hyung-min, unfortunately, he's playing this match completely without him. He tries forcing passes to the center forward time and time again, but it just will not work. The guy is heavily marked and cannot reach the ball. Watching this, Dongju High School striker Gudo Gun actually questions what kind of passes those even are, considering Yoo-jung currently holds a 0% accuracy rate. Without Hyung-min, he cannot see the golden zone at all. And without seeing that path, a killer pass is literally impossible, meaning he cannot even dream of the U17 World Cup playing like this. Amid this sheer desperation, he loses focus and drops his mark, and the guy advancing against him is precisely Sung-min. Watch him work. He easily shreds past Yoo-jung's defense, whipping a nasty cross straight into the danger box. The Seoul team striker nearly scores off it, barely missing. Yoo-jung thinks to himself if that pass went to Hyung-min, he absolutely would have scored. Yoo-jung starts doubting if he can ever make that kind of play without his golden pillar. Right then, Coach Jong-won actually shoots Sung-min a thumbs up. Seeing his rival get that kind of recognition leaves Yoo-jung utterly desperate. He knows he must pull off an even more incredible pass than that. Up in the stands, a player asks Hyung-min if he thinks their midfield is getting completely swallowed whole. Yoo-jung mentions things are only this bad because they are benched. Hyung-min agrees without their two main strikers, creating chances is rough, and because of that, the midfield is buckling under the pressure. Plus, the other side still has their human calculator Seong-min distributing passes non-stop. It really looks like a living hell out there, basically a lost cause. But Hyun-min refuses to see it that way. Right then, Yoo-jung finally catches a break for a counterattack. He dashes forward with everything he has, totally convinced this is his golden opportunity. If he can just slip a direct pass to Do-gun, he will absolutely catch the coach's eye. The opposing defense sets up a ridiculously tight lane, while another teammate further ahead calls for the ball, obviously the smartest and safest play right here. But Yoo-jung is fully convinced he needs a risky play to impress the trainer. He forces the direct pass straight to Do-gun. The problem? The ball deflects and lands right at the feet of a Seoul Academy player. It gets passed perfectly to their math genius. Seong-min calculates the exact coordinates and sends a flawless cross right to the striker, boom, back of the net. Yoo-jung instantly feels the crushing weight of his terrible blunder, a completely fatal blow to his reputation. Once the first half wraps up, he drags himself over to the stands, absolutely devastated for feeding them a free counterattack goal with that awful pass. The crowd is clearly not feeling his performance either. That is exactly when his best buddy Hyun-min tries to cheer him up, literally bopping him on the head with a real-life lollipop. He asks if Yoo-jung is intentionally trying to mess up with those weird passes. Yoo-jung snaps back, asking what on earth he means. He just really needs to do his absolute best to grab the coach's attention. But Hyun-min simply asks why he stubbornly insists on only passing. Yoo-jung firmly argues that passing is his best skill. Hyun-min gets annoyed, snaps the lollipop, and reminds him they already talked about what his actual talent is. He warns him not to complain later from here on out. Yoo-jung has to figure it out entirely on his own. This leaves Yoo-jung completely baffled, wondering if he really does have some other hidden skill. As the second half starts, he walks onto the pitch completely spaced out. He just wants Hyun-min to give him the answer already, because he is clueless. And Hyun-min was totally right to criticize him. Yoo-jung zones out so hard he drops his mark and the ball sails right past. Now watch this flip the entire game. He realizes he absolutely cannot let Seong-min's deadly passes carry that team anymore. So, his new plan is to intercept every single ball aimed at that guy. He runs with pure focus, pressing every pass with totally insane speed. He jumps from one player to the next in mere seconds. Accelerating right alongside the ball, he refuses to let anyone receive it cleanly. On one play, Seong-min finally breaks through the midfield. He takes control. But Yoo Jung tells himself he just has to push his legs even faster. He aggressively marks everyone even thinking about passing to his rival. He is turning into an absolute relentless nightmare out there, running endlessly until Song-min starts looking completely wrecked, basically panting and dying of pure exhaustion. Yoo Jung stays glued to him the entire time. By the time the striker actually receives a pass from Seong-min, the pass precision has completely tanked thanks to the fatigue. Meanwhile, as this wild pressure changes the game, Jung-hwan calmly watches from the sidelines, sipping his coffee, until Dongju's coach walks right up to him. He asks for his thoughts on Yoo Jung's performance. Jung-hwan admits he was honestly torn between him and Seong-min regarding their passing skills. He assumes the earlier mistake made the passing specialist panic, turning it into a stamina battle before simply giving up. But then the coach drops a bomb on Jung-hwan. Yoo Jung is actually a box-to-box midfielder, not a pass specialist. Jung-hwan definitely did not see that coming. Running on the pitch near total exhaustion, Yoo Jung suddenly realizes something. He actually forgot his own best trait because of his current position. But he remembers back in his past life. While drinking together, Hyunmin called him an absolute beast of a midfielder, specifically for his crazy stamina and fighting spirit. So Yoo Jung goes back to what he does best, limitless pressure. He sticks to Seong-min like absolute glue. The math genius is completely spent by now, whining that Yoo Jung is acting exactly like a leech. The rival tries to intercept a pass first, but his legs are so fatigued he just loses his balance. He throws out a weak pass, quickly intercepted by a Dongju player. He and Yoo Jung charge forward with absolutely everything, sprinting straight toward the penalty area. Seeing his friend press nonstop with that insane stamina finally makes Hyunmin super proud, because this right here is Yoo Jung's true maximum potential. Once the ball loops back to him, he realizes the clock is at the 88th minute. This is officially his very last chance to impress Coach Jung-hwan. Crossing or passing from this tight angle is going to be incredibly tough, especially since he is completely surrounded. Completely surrounded and out of options. But right at that split second, the golden zone suddenly flashes in his mind. Right there by the goal, deep inside the 6-yard box. How is that even possible with Hyunmin sitting on the bench? He does not overthink it and just whips the cross in anyway. He honestly has no clue who might actually be waiting there, until Dugan launches himself into a wild diving header and finds the net, sealing the game right there with Dong-gil Hai pulling off the draw. Up in the stands, Jung-hwan watches that exact play unfold. He firmly decides right then who his central midfielder for the Under-17 World Cup will be. Later that night, Yoo Jung is lost deep in his own thoughts. He keeps replaying how that golden domain actually showed up during the match, meaning it can totally trigger in other spots, even when Hyunmin is not on the pitch with him. Just incredible. He sits there analyzing highlight reels of Hyunmin, watching the absolute insane footage that earned the guy his call up to the national training camp. Proving his friend is just spectacular on the ball. Honestly, he does not even look like a high school level player anymore. Staring at the screen, Yoo Jung realizes something huge. The golden zone strictly equals a high probability goal scoring chance. Dugun is a tough, resilient guy who holds his line rather than aggressively creating chances, making him pretty terrible at actually exploiting that open space. On the flip side, Hyunmin constantly shifts around to receive passes in open pockets. He is literally the absolute perfect fit for the golden zone. He quickly realizes that without the right striker, even a totally broken skill like his gets entirely wasted. So it is clearly not some all-powerful standalone technique. Right then, Young-gon steps into the locker room to have a quick word with him. Fast forward to dinner time, Yoo Jung sits at home, bravely facing down yet another culinary abomination cooked up by his mother. Whatever is sitting on his father's spoon honestly looks alive. The poor man even asks out loud if she is practicing dark alchemy. She sharply fires back that it is just stewed fish. Meanwhile, his dad notices that Yoo Jung is looking kind of miserable tonight. In reality, he is just completely lost in his own head. When his parents ask what is wrong, he casually drops the bomb he just got called up to the under-17 national squad. His dad gasps in shock, asking if it is actually the real national team and if he is finally going to be on television. Yoo Jung tries to play it cool. He tells them he might not even start, so it is honestly not that massive of a deal. But his dad is already way too hyped about seeing him on screen. He instantly grabs his phone and starts calling every single friend to brag. Watching that pure excitement, Yoo Jung gets a heavy flashback. In his past life, His parents suffered terribly when they found out his playing career was over. His mother proudly chimes in he worked incredibly hard for this and totally deserves it. Soaking in that incredibly warm family atmosphere, Yu Young realizes something. Making the hard choice to lace up his boots and play football again was completely worth it. He is absolutely certain they will live happily this time. The next morning, during physical training with Hyunmin, his buddy somehow found out about his choice to join the Under-17 World Cup roster. Now he is aggressively rubbing it in his face, claiming that without his genius advice, none of this would have ever happened. Yu Young fires right back, stating he only got in because he actually has real talent. But Hyunmin smugly insists he should at least be saying thank you. Out of nowhere, a loud voice in the background aggressively shouts that thank yous do not exist here. Someone calls the other guy an absolute piece of garbage, revealing a totally nasty argument between Doo-jong and Jong-soo, who look entirely ready to throw punches. Hyunmin casually mutters that the powder keg finally blew up. Yu Young just stares, completely failing to understand the situation at first. His friend looks at him sideways, asking if he somehow forgot their club is split into two rival factions. Slowly, Yu Young starts recovering his fragmented memories from back then. He remembers now. On one side stands the elite Under-17 World Cup crew, featuring guys like Hyunmin and Doo-jong. Then you have the bitter anti-Under-17 squad, proudly led by Jong-soo. There are a few rare guys on the roster, though. Guys like Yu Young, who somehow managed to stay neutral with both sides. But stubborn players like Jong-soo absolutely despise the national team crew. Hyunmin points out that Jong-soo already hates their guts, and Doo-jong just never stops provoking him. Yu Young totally agrees. He thinks to himself that Doo-jong is just as insanely stubborn as he used to be. Suddenly, he catches a bizarre red glow flashing in Jong-soo's eyes. He sharply gasps, praying his mind is just playing tricks on him. Or maybe a terrifying red domain actually exists alongside his golden one. The coach storms in to break up the scuffle, screaming at the kids. Hyunmin immediately whispers a warning they need to get out of here right now, before they get dragged right into the mess. They quickly go back to running laps, but Yu Young remains deeply intrigued by that bizarre red glow. Hyunmin snaps him back to reality real quick, though. He heavily reminds him that the Under-17 national team training kicks off tomorrow morning. Yu Young gets a bit nervous, asking if the big national team will also be packed with all this toxic faction fighting. And Hyunmin, flashing a ridiculously huge grin, confidently assures him that there will absolutely be zero factions there. Yu Young can instantly tell he is completely faking it, though his tone sounds totally hollow. The very next day, they arrive at the Under-17 National Training Center. Coach Young Hwan officially introduces his brand new midfielder. Watch closely here, because the kid gets greeted by absolute dead silence. Every single player glares right at him. Yu Young quickly realizes there are no factions here. Instead, it is just one heavy wall of pure discrimination. This place is just another massive challenge to clear. On day one, while trading some light passes to warm up, he just cannot shake this heavy atmosphere. There is no way Coach Yunwan is completely blind to this. The coach is just letting it slide, and honestly, Yu Young cannot figure out why. Right then, his training partner speaks up, says he heard Yu Young took Oh Sung-min's spot on the squad. Meet Kim Min-sung, a right back. Just like Yu Young, he's a prime candidate for the U-17 World Cup. Min-sung casually drops that the old guy's stamina was garbage, but hey, his passing was pretty solid. Yu Young fires back that his own passes are the real deal too, promising to give it his absolute best out here, so he will not drag this team down. But out of nowhere, he has to whip back as a ball rockets at his face. Min-sung claps for the quick reflexes, but then drops the brutal truth. Yeah, he aimed that shot entirely on purpose, because this team does not need guys who just jog around in the back. They want players who actually deliver. Yu Young bites his tongue. Now the coach's total silence makes sense. This is a very clear message for him. Prove your worth or get out. Later on, Yang Han announces the afternoon session is entirely focused on tactics, and the squad needs to follow the assistant coach's exact blueprint. Through it all, Min-sung keeps throwing jabs at Yu Young, but Yu Young knows exactly who this annoying fullback is. He remembers the future this guy is going to become, a national team fullback for the 2022 World Cup. An absolute top-tier defender who, despite being pretty short, packs a seriously absurd burst of speed. Even if he did completely blow a few plays during that same tournament, Yoon-won yells at the squad to hurry up and stretch kickoff in 5, but he quickly pulls Yu Young to the side. The coach lays it out clearly. For this training match, he is playing as a free-roaming midfielder, floating right between attack and defense with zero fixed spot. It takes wildly creative passing, smooth dribbling, and real finishing. You need crazy versatility for this. It is a brutally hard job, but Yu Young is suddenly totally fired up. He figures this means no holding back, time to unleash his actual skills and show them what he can do. But get this, as soon as he steps on the pitch, reality hits hard. He can barely touch the ball. He cannot even get within breathing distance of a play. Sure, he is the rookie, but this is getting ridiculous. Think about it, if his own team refuses to pass to him, how can he ever prove his actual worth? Out there, he keeps losing focus, getting completely thrown off. He almost looks like he is dealing with ADHD or color blindness, until another player completely blindsides him, slamming hard into his shoulder. But instead of blowing him off and walking away, the guy actually apologizes and pulls him back up. Meet Moon Jung-won, a fullback and another U-17 World Cup hopeful. Yu Young waves it off, saying he is fine. Jung-won notices the midfielder looking dazed and explains he just could not break. He says sorry one more time and wishes him luck. Game on, and Yu Young realizes, okay, not every national player is awful. Hyunmin jogs over to check on him too, but Yu Young tells him to drop it, it is just a tiny bruise. Hyunmin quickly clarifies he's not talking about the hit itself. He's talking about how these guys refuse to pass him the ball. He knows if they actually saw Yu Young pass, their jaws would hit the grass. This whole group is just acting toxic. Yu Young figures just getting the ball is the most practical fix here. Hyunmin even offers to go confront the older players. But Yu Young cuts him off. He guarantees he will prove his worth right here using pure skill. If he lacks the teeth, he will bite with his gums. If they refuse to send the ball his way, he will hunt it down himself. He needs to abuse the fact that Coach Yeonwon gave him that exact free-roaming midfielder role. The guy in the blue vest holding the ball just laughs. Mocking him asks if he is that so-called free-roaming star. Yu Young bluntly warns the guy, I am taking that ball from you. Obviously, his opponent is not giving it up easily, quickly linking up with a teammate. They pull off a flawless 1-2 pass, blowing right past Yu Young with insane speed. Yu Young sprints to shut down the open space, but the guy just passes backward, sending a clean cross into the box. The striker buries a heavy shot that violently rattles the crossbar. But honestly, Yu Young does not care about the near goal. He is obsessing over what just happened. He got completely humiliated. Every single guy here has way better physical strength, speed, vision, passing, and snap decision-making. This is an entirely different monster of a league. You can see him questioning if he even belongs here. Next play, he is out there running like an absolute madman, throwing himself into aggressive tackles. But it is brutal. The U-17 squad's passing rhythm is blindingly fast. Normally, that entire passing process. A perfect play takes 3 steps. First, receive. Second, scan the field. Third, make the pass. But these guys, they completely skip step 2. They just fire the ball blindly, already knowing exactly where everyone stands. The pace is absolutely insane. With Yujin's current skill level, keeping up with that tempo is flat out impossible. Even so, he refuses to just watch. He charges in to press the ball carrier one more time. The opponent asks if he ever gets tired of lunging blindly like that. Pointless effort, he adds, it won't change a thing. He fires off a solid pass, but Lee Jong-suk, holding down the midfield, completely intercepts the ball mid-flight. Some things can only be earned through pure persistence, he remarks, admitting he actually respects the rookie's raw grit. While the Blue Vest squad frantically drops back to lock down their defense, Jong-soo sends the ball straight to Yujin, purely to see what this kid can really do out on the pitch. Sensing the electric energy in the air, the young man finally catches fire, bolting down the flank like an absolute bull. Right then, a bizarre sensation washes over him. Before he can even process what is happening, 3 distinct golden pillars suddenly erupt from the grass. This is next-level vision, but those promising sweet spots are sitting way too far out. He needs a second to think or push forward before passing, but planning is out of the question right now. Min-sung suddenly cuts across his path with flawless marking. Yujin hits a massive wall, facing a serious on-field dilemma. He has to choose fast risk, a direct dribble, or play it safe and pass the ball immediately. But that hunger to prove himself wins out. Honestly, watch this kid's nerve. He tells Min-sung to step aside, calling him a total loser. The veteran shoots right back, guess the new kid prefers public humiliation. Yujin ignores it and goes hard for the dribble. He blows right past his opponent at first, but his rival is wildly unpredictable, instantly recovering and sticking to him again. Suddenly, the boy spots a weird red glow radiating from Min-sung's left leg, almost like the limb is charging up pure energy. The split second that energy maxes out, a visual arrow appears and Min-sung's leg strikes the ball with brutal force. The ball is completely stripped from Yujin's control. Getting thrown totally off balance, the young man somehow manages to scramble back to his feet and secure the ball. He quickly pieces it together that red zone signals an incoming attack. A heartbeat later, Min-sung's right leg flashes that same toxic red, and a curved arrow maps out exactly where the ball is heading, broadcasting a vicious sliding tackle. Relying on his lightning reflexes, Yujin drags the ball back at the absolute last millisecond and fires back a taunt, telling his rival exactly what he said earlier. That move was way too predictable. Without wasting a single breath, he launches a massive cross toward the final golden zone. The one sitting furthest away, the ball drops like a guided missile straight onto his friend Hyman's foot. Hyman hammers it home with a gorgeous first-time volley. That play is so undeniably spectacular that even the blue team guys have to admit this rookie is seriously talented. Jongwon watches quietly from afar, realizing the boy is holding his own remarkably well. He is surviving against national-level athletes, fueling some massive expectations for the upcoming Under-17 World Cup. The whistle blows, and Min-sung marches right up to Yoo-jun, sporting that exact same dangerous red glow in his eyes. Yoo-jun mentally takes a huge step back. The last time he saw a look like that, the whole thing ended in a fistfight. But to his shock, the veteran just holds out a hand. He officially acknowledges the kid, admitting this rookie is the very first person to crack his marking so easily. From here on out, they can actually get along. But this little truce exposes the defender's completely unhinged side a second later. When he grabs the ball to restart the game, he deliberately punts it point blank, smashing it right into his own teammate's face. Yujin spots the pure malice instantly. Min-sung calmly justifies it, saying he only did it because he does not recognize that guy's skills yet, leaving our protagonist with one obvious conclusion. His new teammate is a complete psychopath. Maybe it was that incredible first assist, or just the newfound respect, but the scrimmage's second half goes a whole lot smoother. He starts pulling in a solid number of passes, using that red zone logic to dodge Min-sung's absolutely brutal tackles and landing another pinpoint assist through a golden pillar. The boy finally sees his first national team training session come to a close. Fast forward to the evening. Sitting on the bus ride back, Yujin feels the crushing weight of pure, extreme fatigue settling into his bones. The tempo of these training camps is just absurdly demanding for him. His battered body can barely even twitch, even though all the pros around him look completely unfazed. Hyungnim notices his teammate's miserable state and asks if he is totally unfazed, wiped out. He points out that Yujin's sheer exhaustion is painfully obvious, but reassures the kid that surviving day one is an achievement. Everyone around me was also totally racked with pain. The veteran admitted it was actually pretty impressive for a rookie like me to get recognized on day one. It took him 2 whole days to show off his skills. Joking around, I just had to ask, did that mean I was way better than him? He playfully told me to go straight to hell. I just grinned and thanked him for the backhanded compliment. Settling into my seat to catch some sleep, I felt a real surge of pride finally getting recognized. But I knew the truth. The major turning point had been the zone. That crazy power mapped out everything. The attack angle, the exact leg they would use, and the perfect timing of every opponent's move. I still had no clue why this weird phenomenon appeared, but its logic felt pretty obvious. If the golden zone meant a totally clear chance, the red one flashed for hostility or incoming threats. It made perfect sense, especially since it popped up while a defender rushed me. Thinking about those colors, I wondered if new marks would appear later. Why exactly was I thrown back into this life? I had so many massive mysteries to solve, but I would handle each one slowly, step by step. The very next morning, though, the pace was absolutely brutal. Things accelerated instantly. Sung-soo, our under-17 fitness coach, pushed those physical drills until I literally almost died of exhaustion. During our measly 10-minute break, I collapsed flat on the dirt, literally begging the universe for mercy. It suddenly hit me 3 whole weeks had passed since I joined the national squad. Over this intense stretch, I trained like crazy and built real friendships. I even developed a huge respect for guys like Jung-sok. He was our insanely talented midfielder, already representing Korea and touted as a future German Bundesliga star. During that quick breather, Moon Jung-won walked over and tossed me a cup of water. He jokingly demanded I pass him the ball next play to return the massive favor. I gladly took the sip of water. It was completely unbelievable to think about. Back in my past life, this very same guy eventually became the all-time top scorer of the entire K-League. Soon enough, Min-sung and Hyun-min joined the little crowd swarming around my exhausted body. I ended up groaning, asking why everyone loved crowding around me like bees to a damn hive. Hyun-min totally ignored my complaining. He just asked if we had all packed our bags for the Sendai tournament. I nodded, confirming we were flying out the day after tomorrow. It was a pretty standard youth football-friendly tournament. Held over in Japan's famous Sendai region, it brought together the national squads of Brazil, France, Japan, and us from Korea. Back in my original timeline, Korea got completely wiped out by Brazil and France. We only managed to scrape together a painfully narrow victory against the hosts. Sure, I knew this was just a basic youth-friendly, but for me, this was the ultimate chance of my entire life. My performance on those Japanese pitches would literally decide if I stayed or got booted from the main under-17 squad. Glancing to my side, I clearly remembered seeing Hyunmin explode into a massive global star with my own eyes during my previous existence. That memory heavily fueled my determination. I was going to leave my mark on the Sendai Cup, whatever it took. 2 days later, our delegation finally touched down in Sendai. Half the guys were buzzing with excitement over their very first international trip. Taking advantage of the schedule, I pointed out our free time. I asked everyone what they actually planned to do during this break. Hyunmin deadpanned that he needed to go analyze the economic trends of the Japanese candy market. I just stared at him, totally baffled by why this guy took candy so damn seriously. Honestly, this kid literally always had a lollipop in his mouth or some random hard candy tucked in his cheek. He kept this exact same habit, going back in my original timeline. It was definitely going to earn him diabetes later on. Wanting a way more normal afternoon, I decided to stick with Jong-suk. He could only think about finding a solid place to crush some ramen. By the end of our giant meal, I was in a pretty tight spot. I awkwardly asked if he could cover me, confessing I left my wallet back at the hotel. Jong-suk stared right back. He was completely broke too. Stuck in this absurd situation, I could really only sit there and laugh to myself. I swear, us professional players only remember our own heads because they are firmly attached to our necks. Right as panic set in over dodging a massive bill, a true blessing fell straight out of the sky, a local street challenge. A local player outside was shouting at the crowd. If anyone could steal the ball from his feet, he would pay out 10 times the bet. I instantly knew this was our one ticket out of trouble. Without a single second of hesitation, Jong-suk throws down the only 200 yen left in their pockets. A crazy risk, but they absolutely need the cash right now. A small crowd quickly gathers to watch this street showdown unfold. The Japanese player steps up and lays out the rules. He tells them the challenge ends if they cannot steal the ball within 30 seconds, but he promises a crisp 1,000 yen to whoever bets just 100. Jong-suk stands there completely lost. He does not speak a single word of Japanese, but Yujin translates every single detail flawlessly, leaving his teammates stunned by his perfect fluency. Turns out Yujin picked it up from his dad working in foreign trade. Yujin steps up first, and right at the starting signal, he charges forward with absolutely everything he has. Dead stop. He realizes the ball never even moved. The Japanese guy flashes a tight smile. He was just messing around to test the waters on that first fake out. This leaves Yujin feeling pretty embarrassed, but it only fuels his fire to take absolute control on the very next attempt. The 30-second timer officially starts, and Yujin gets dribbled around like an absolute beginner. He notices his rival supposedly losing balance on the left side for a split second, but it was just a dirty trick. The guy masterfully rolls the ball and flicks it right to his back foot. Yujin desperately tries to swipe it from behind. Time is up, 30 seconds gone, and the Japanese player respectfully praises his solid hustle. Yujin immediately apologizes to Jong-suk for blowing it, but the talented midfielder just pats his friend on the shoulder. Jong-suk calmly explains he was just studying the rival's footwork. Now that it is his turn, he knows exactly how to disarm him. The timer restarts, but the Japanese player immediately notices Jong-suk standing completely still, just coldly tracking his every single twitch. Those massive, unblinking eyes send a deep chill down the dribbler's spine. The dynamic of this entire street match just completely flipped. The Japanese player is suddenly the prey here. He feels totally trapped, like a fly caught up in a web. But here is where the tension spikes. The opponent wants to test this so-called predator, launching into a blur of rapid footwork. He shows off a dribbling speed way beyond some random street amateur, but despite the insane skill flashing before him, Jong-suk stays dead in his tracks, stone cold. He just silently reads the pattern, forcing a much bolder push. Desperate to break that solid stance, the guy throws out a lightning-fast feint behind the midfielder, but the Korean midfielder intercepts it with surgical precision, trapping the ball effortlessly against his back leg. Yujin instantly screams out in hype. He praises his teammate, yelling that he always knew Jong-suk would save their skins today. True to the bet, the Japanese player steps up with a 1,000 yen bill, openly praising the kid's incredible vision. Jong-suk lets out a huge sigh of relief while doing the math. At 500 yen per ball, their lunch is officially paid for. Yujin smiles and thanks the guy for the fun match, stepping in as the designated speaker since Jong-suk does not know any Japanese. The defeated rival simply wishes them a great rest of their trip. The sun is already starting to sink below the horizon now. Suddenly, a friend of that mysterious street player comes sprinting over. He yells that the coach is frantically searching everywhere for him. The street player jokingly asks if his buddy saw him just lose. The friend shoots back that dropping a match here is no shame, especially since he is actually wearing heavy-weighted ankle straps that killed his real speed. But what Yujin and Jong-suk never realize is that this street kid was actually the genius midfielder, Satoru, a top prospect for Japan's under-17 national squad. Finally, the massive opening day of the Sendai Cup arrives. It kicks off with a brutal clash between Brazil and Korea. Yujin locks in, clearly remembering this exact day from the original timeline. His country took a harsh 3-1 loss back then. But watch him rewrite history today using that overpowered golden zone. But right before kickoff, total shock. He finds himself glued to the damn bench. He was completely scrubbed from the starting lineup against Brazil. Jump back an hour before the whistle inside the noisy locker room. The vibe in there was super relaxed. Moon Youngwon even tossed a piece of candy to Yujin, playfully asking for some extra love on the field. But Yujin just shoots back a grumpy stare. Hard pass. Completely sick of this guy constantly begging for clean passes. Striker begged for just one perfect setup to score. But Yujin instantly shot down that hope with brutal honesty, telling him straight up with aim that terrible, there is no way he gets the ball. Right as that tension hits its peak, Coach Jun Kwon marches in to drop the official lineup. Human scans the list, immediately demanding to know why Yujin is missing from the starting 11. The coach just barks back that the kid was intentionally excluded from today's active roster specifically for this matchup. Yujin just sits there frustrated, wondering if he somehow failed to train hard enough. Even though he knows he gave his absolute best in every single drill session. He tried to make sense of the coach's decision, but then the young man noticed a mysterious golden glimmer. It flashed right in Jun Kwon's eyes, something he could not quite understand. Later, settled on the bench to watch the game, he thought about that weird color. He knew golden light always meant a massive opportunity or a lucky chance. The commander clearly planned to put him on the pitch eventually, but only if one very specific condition was met first. 25 minutes down in the second half. Tick-tock. Still, absolutely nothing was happening out there. Then the deadlock finally shattered. Brazil scored a beautiful strike by their number 9 striker, Dudu Barbosa. Korea regained possession in the midfield right after that goal. Since Brazil was the heavy tournament favorite, tipped to lift the Under-17 Cup, conceding just a single point meant the defense was actually holding up pretty well. Down by just 1 goal, and if you think they were done, no way. It was way too early to throw in the towel. Go Min-chan tried sparking a counterattack. He surged forward, fast. He passed the ball toward Jung Suk, but the Brazilian marking was totally relentless. They broke up the play instantly. The interception came from Ezequiel Vitor da Silva, Brazil's wildly talented midfielder. He quickly fed his teammate Dudu Barbosa, leaving the top scorer poised to easily find the back of the net again. From the bench, Yujin watched the whole sequence, absolutely blown away by their absurd speed. The transition time between their passes was insanely short. Korea had a decent rhythm, but Brazil was playing on another level. Imminent danger. Watching this, the young man silently begged Jung Suk to read the play in time. He hoped his friend would do exactly what he showed off during that street challenge. Jung Suk had this incredibly uncanny ability to read opponents just by watching them, using every tiny piece of data he gathered out on the pitch. Thinking about it from the sidelines, Yujin realized something huge. He could try to do the exact same thing. He wanted to learn the method right there, concentrating incredibly hard to mimic his teammates' focus. But he noticed something fast. He was no threatening spider in that mental web. The hard truth, pure tactical reading made zero sense to him. He figured it was much smarter to just focus on what he actually knew how to do. He remembered his ultimate weapon, the golden zone. This visual indicator showed him in advance exactly where a goal could come from. Honestly, pay attention here, this vision changes everything. It let him stay one step ahead of everyone. He seriously wondered if the Brazilians could see it too, or if they always moved to the perfect spot, purely because of all their crazy experience and sweat. Bam. Yujin snapped right back to harsh reality. He admitted to himself if he had joined that frantic rhythm right from the start, he wouldn't have done a single thing out there. Honestly, he felt pretty relieved. He started on the bench. He figured Coach Jun Kwon probably saw this exact scenario coming when he benched him. But right in that reflective moment, Dudu scored another nasty goal. Once again, the lethal number 8 and 9 duo worked together to absolute perfection. A quick assist, and the ball was in the net again. Number 8, Ezequiel, passed it like a literal flash right behind Dudu. The number 9 cushioned it back. He didn't even have to look. It instantly triggered a super smooth passing play in the purest tiki-taka style. Yujin realized right away that those two guys were the real heartbeat of the entire Brazilian attack. Suddenly, Commander Jun Kwon broke the heavy tension on the bench. He told the boy to get ready right now. He announced a substitution. Yujin was finally going into the game. Things were so critical that the Korean narrator in the broadcast booth practically gave up on air, complaining it wasn't even worth it to narrate this total blowout anymore. But the color commentator beside him still held onto a tiny thread of hope. Soon, they got word of the change. It was the young midfielder's official debut in an international tournament. He was subbing in to replace Min Chan. As he stepped onto the grass, Hyun Min instantly hit him with some banter. The guy joked the slacker finally arrived late, but Yujin shot back right away. When you show up late, that is when you have to run twice as hard. He warned the team he was about to run like a madman, and they really better try to keep up. With the scoreboard stuck at 2-0, Heung-min felt the crushing weight of failing Ashby to create real opportunities. Brazilian football, it was just on a completely different planet from theirs. He tried his best to motivate the squad, even with their morale in the absolute gutter. But just Yujin stepping on the field was enough for everyone to suddenly liven up. On the very first play, Moon Jong-won dragged his marker away, plowing through people like an angry bull. He passed to Jung-suk, who almost got shut down immediately by the... He completely lives up to his sharp observer reputation, slipping a lightning-fast pass straight toward our protagonist. Over on the broadcast, the commentator points out this is number 17's very first international tournament debut. The announcer chips in too. They barely have any data on this kid, but everyone is completely anxious to see what he brings. Across the pitch, even Brazil's star striker Dudu feels it. The entire mood of the match just shifted the second this rookie stepped on. Dudu realizes right away this is no standard substitution, and they are about to find out exactly why. Just moments later, Korea misplaces a crucial pass up front. Dudu traps the ball instantly, launching a ridiculously deadly counterattack. But Yujin is already hot on his heels. He sprints at absolute max speed, playing a perfect box-to-box style. Yujin quickly does the math. The entire defense right now comes down to him and just two center backs. Glancing forward, he spots Ezekiel and Vandrick making dangerous runs to offer Dudu some passing options, meaning he has to cut that ball out right here before Brazil breaches the penalty box. The young midfielder yells out for backup. Min-sung hears him, sprinting hard down the flank to corner the opposing striker. Dudu actually scoffs out loud at that. He asks if they seriously believe just two guys can stop him. Yujin just tells the guy to stop speaking Portuguese to him. He completely locks his focus onto the play. Min-sung dives in first for the tackle, but he gets completely turned inside out by a totally demoralizing flick right over his head. Yujin tracks the move instantly. He tries to anticipate the run and sweep up that loose ball. But the Brazilian number 9 is way sharper. He pulls off a spectacular double lob, taunting number 17 that he is basically nothing special. Even after getting fully humiliated by that dribble, both Korean players just keep fiercely chasing the forward. Dudu just smiles. He figures he is doing his job flawlessly, wasting their time and drawing all the pressure while his squad organizes. Brazil instantly initiates a far more aggressive pressing game. Their tiki-taka is honestly incredible. They execute this lightning-fast triangular passing sequence that completely baffles both Min-sung and Yujin. Up in the booth, the commentator warns everyone the Brazilians are already fully in position. Where will Ezekiel send the ball? The Brazilian midfielder knows it. The very second this triangle closes, the play turns absolutely lethal. Their short passing trio is just way too fast. It is practically impossible to stop without a perfect prediction. If any defender tries to intercept, they just pop it back to the midfield. It makes the ball look like it literally vanished right before their rivals' eyes. This is their absolute signature move, the Bermuda Triangle, and right on cue, the final target for the pass is their top scorer, Dudu. He readies up to put on a clinic inside the box, but he gets caught totally off guard by a surgical slide tackle from Yujin, intercepting it flawlessly. Here is the secret. Yujin already deciphered this exact triangle because he saw the identical play back in his past life's original timeline. Plus, watching intently from the bench earlier, he noticed the final pass always goes straight to their number 9. Using the sharp observation skills he learned from Jung-suk, he completely neutralizes the danger. He sends the ball straight over to Heung-min. The attacker had dropped a bit further back, screaming at the absolute top of his lungs for his friend to start running. The Korean winger bolts straight for the goal. He heavily capitalizes on that completely wide-open Brazilian defense. Since all their guys pushed way up to support Dudu, it is finally Korea's turn for a massive counterattack. Heung-min runs completely free toward Brazil's empty box. It is a pure one-on-one against the goalkeeper. He unleashes an absolute rocket, but the Brazilian shot stopper pulls off a spectacular save. Seriously, that goalkeeper honestly looks like he is at least 40 years old. Yujin genuinely questions in his head if this tournament was not supposed to be an under-17 category. Min-suk Jong recovers possession on the rebound, but he just freezes, totally unsure what to do as the Brazilian defenders rapidly track back. Seeing his teammate hesitate, Yujin surges forward at maximum speed and immediately screams for the pass. Without even trapping it, he crosses the ball directly into the middle of the box, right where the glowing golden zone sits. He has no idea who will finish this play, but he is absolutely certain someone will push it in and claim Korea's first goal. To his pure joy, Heung-min perfectly anticipates the marker and connects with that beautiful pass. That veteran keeper fully extends his arm for the save, but the ball slips right through his fingers, just barely rolling over the goal line. The entire Brazilian side of the stadium goes dead silent. Up in the booth, the Korean narrators can hardly believe their own eyes. The strongest national team in the world is undoubtedly Brazil. They are the undisputed kings of youth football. But Hyun-min ignores all that heavy favoritism. He scores a stunning goal to narrow the deficit, leaving the narrator speechless. The commentator screams that forward movement was absolutely incredible. He adds that the credit for this goal belongs almost entirely to Yujin. That pass was pinpoint accurate. This newly formed duo is looking extremely promising for the country's future. Over on the opposite bench, Coach Getulio, commander of the Brazil U-17 squad, furrows his brow in pure annoyance. He refuses to let these two boys ruin a game that is already decided and resting firmly in their hands. Now seems like the perfect time to sub Gonçalves right into the match. Following that scare and some quick tactical adjustments, the match continues. But now it shifts into a much slower, gridlock battle through the midfield. The Brazilian players start intentionally wasting time. They are completely shameless about it, trying to win simply by running down the clock. There are only 10 minutes left in the game, but Yujin refuses to let that happen, stepping up to press them hard. He pushes until the final second. Even against the opponent's rapid passes, Yujin stays glued to them, constantly annoying them and forcing them to move the ball. Dudu is actually dissatisfied too. He has no desire to win using such a cowardly strategy. Besides, he remembers how Yujin went in hard on him earlier, and he still hasn't gotten his revenge yet. Suddenly, Yujin manages to steal the ball right back, proving his insane stamina really is his greatest strength. The Brazilian defenders rush back toward their goal in total desperation. Ezequiel screams out for them to close in on him, and the defense scrambles to do its job. However, thanks to the red zone, Yujin predicts both defensive movements perfectly. Bright arrows indicate exactly where his opponent's hostile feet will go. Reading this, Yujin delivers another pass to the golden pillar, but the ball does not go all the way in. That is when Mun steps up at the very last moment, striking it with everything he has. Yujin already knows the goalkeeper will save it, so he has to act fast by predicting the exact rebound path. He remembers Jang-sok and how he used to play, constantly observing the ball's speed, the position of the surrounding markers, the defensive angles, the goalkeeper's stance, and the ball's spin. Taking every single bit of this data into account, he sprints straight to where the ball will drop, right at the 84th minute of the match. There is only one option left for him, since reaching the ball normally is completely impossible. So he goes airborne for a bicycle kick, trying to score the goal himself. Everyone watches in sheer agony, and against all odds, he pulls off the absolute unbelievable. Yujin just scored the equalizer against Brazil. Back in his original timeline, he was a total failure. But now he just scored right on his debut, and he did it against Brazil, the absolute strongest national team in the world. Mun runs over, asking since when he learned to shoot like that. Min-sung just chimes in that was complete and utter madness. Meanwhile, Yujin calculates the odds. They only need one more goal to beat the best in the entire world. Over on the other side, the Brazilian defense is stunned. What the hell was that? And since when is Korea this terrifying? Dudu calls everyone out, shouting that this is a total embarrassment. They are Brazil. Football literally runs through their veins, and there is no way they are going to lose. After all, their style of play was never about just cooking the clock, so as long as that ball is rolling, they will never stop. The entire team gets instantly fired up by his speech because this is the real Brazilian national team. Right then, with only 5 minutes left on the clock, Brazil pushes forward once again. It turns into an electrifying battle where nobody yields a single inch. Neither side is letting up on their heavy marking. Yujin is running neck and neck with Dudu, but one of the Brazilian players manages to steal the ball away and passes it straight to Ezequiel. Yujin knows he has to block him at all costs. Otherwise, they will just execute that nasty triangle play again. Min-sung tries to step in and block the path, but they successfully run their triangle strategy anyway. Dudu surges straight into the attack. Dudu quickly notices that the space ahead of the other forward is completely wide open. If he slots the ball right through there, it becomes a massive goal-scoring opportunity. But Yujin throws his entire body into the passing lane. Dudu knows the objectively right move here is to ignore his rival and pass it to Vendrick, but he desperately wants revenge for that earlier slide tackle. He cannot stomach being defeated and wants to completely run Yujin over. Yujin knows stopping this play will be incredibly difficult, but he carefully observes every single movement. At first, he thinks Dudu will cut to the right, but Dudu's center of gravity drops low, revealing it as a nasty body feint. Watch this carefully. Yujin manages to block it anyway, and to top it off, he beautifully nutmegs Dudu. The Brazilian players scramble to close in, but Yujin breaks right through their tackles. He bolts forward for South Korea's final, desperate chance to turn this entire game around. Going absolutely all out, Dudu screams in sheer desperation for someone to mark him. Yujin immediately faces heavy pressure, and the golden zone does not even appear. One of the Brazilians steps right in front of him, warning him that there is a limit to this. Cocky as he was, Yujin found himself completely surrounded, with defenders on his right, behind, and directly in front of him. But he fought the heavy physical pressure by carefully following those glowing red zones on the pitch. One Brazilian defender even thought the guy's dribbling style looked incredibly awkward and weird, yet he was somehow slipping past everyone anyway. It was like Yujin knew exactly where they would step next. Spotting that golden pillar, he had absolutely zero time to overthink. He shot. Young Seok brought the ball perfectly under control. Young Seok completely shredded the Brazilian defense, smashing home an epic 90th minute comeback goal. The match ended right after that massive strike, closing out 3-2 for Korea and somehow taking down the strongest national team worldwide. Yujin seriously wondered if they had actually beaten Brazil, finishing his own game with 2 assists and a goal, a totally absurd debut record. This was just the start. His true life as a football player was officially beginning. Jeong Kwon quietly realized that 20 minutes was all Korea really needed to erase a 2-0 deficit and snatch a crazy victory from Brazil. The absolute star of the show was undoubtedly Yujin, dominating his very first official match. His performance was so unreal it basically demanded an investigation. Later on, back at the Korean national team quarters, the whole squad celebrated with a massive feast. The guys were absolutely stuffing their faces with fresh fried chicken. But for whatever reason, Human was shoving lollipops down his throat instead. Seriously, look at this guy eating nothing but candy and looking practically diabetic. Truly wild. Jeong Kwon told everyone to seriously calm down for God's sake, but then noticed Yujin was totally missing. He asked Moon why he had not called him down, since they were roommates. Moon just replied that Yujin was totally exhausted and preferred to sleep. Back in their room, Yujin was actually trying his hardest to sleep, but he could not catch a single wink. Honestly, it made total sense. Sure, this was only a friendly game, but it was still his official debut that pure adrenaline simply refused to fade away. A whole lot had gone down right after the final whistle blew. This crazy whirlwind of events actually kicked off the second the match ended. While heading to the dressing room, a KBC Sports reporter named Jung Soo suddenly jumped out, asking for a quick minute to do an interview. Yujin easily agreed, since it was the very first real interview of his life. He was actually so insanely nervous that afterward he could not even remember what he had muttered. The second post-game episode? Pure, absolute shock. Dudu pieced together some broken English and asked Yujin to swap jerseys. Yujin actually froze up from pure nerves, making Dudu wonder if he wanted to back out. Yujin finally snapped out of it, quickly replying that swapping shirts was absolutely no problem. He seriously never expected the absolute biggest star in Brazil to ask for his shirt. Luckily, Dudu actually knew how to speak a little bit of English, and that made Yujin feel like he honestly had a real shot at getting somewhat closer to him. So the two of them ended up forming a pretty solid connection right there. As for the third and final crazy episode, it happened when the coach approached Yujin alongside Kim Soo-cheol, the president of the National Team Strategy Committee. This guy basically walked in wanting to send Yujin off to study out in Spain. In return, Yujin just had to say the association proudly sponsored him later on. Simple as that. Nothing more. On the surface, it honestly looked like an incredible deal. But pay close attention here, Yujin found it super suspicious that Soo-cheol pitched this immediately after the final whistle. It was clearly an impulsive move, a quick attempt to buy up his rights for cheap after such an insane debut. If they were offering a direct spot on a professional Spanish roster, sure, but just studying abroad was a hard pass. So, he politely told the committee president he needed a serious talk with his parents before making any massive choices. All this absolute chaos unfolded inside a 3-hour window postgame. It left Yujin totally drained, both physically and completely mentally. He just desperately wanted to rest. But then the coach knocked on his door, and he obviously had to answer it. The coach gently asked if he was resting, offering to return later if Yujin preferred. But Yujin quickly replied, "No, sir," apologized for the mess, and welcomed him inside, asking what he could do for the boss. The coach casually mentioned it was not overly urgent, but asked if Yujin had seriously He directly questioned if Yujin would jump straight to the pros or choose high school. Yujin quietly thought it over. He had obviously considered high school before, but that route would delay his real breakthrough as a top player way too much. His mind was made up. In this life, he would risk absolutely everything and jump straight into the pros. Jeong Kwon asked if he had any solid offers yet, mentioning that if he needed it, he could personally lend a hand. Yujin was totally stunned to see the coach offering personal help to turn pro. With his massive heavyweight career, this coach could definitely make things happen. Behind closed doors, Yujin remembers that in this timeline, the year is still 2009, way before Korean players started moving abroad in droves. So the coach is probably talking about recommending him straight to the K-League's first division. But Yujin wants to play at a much higher level. He asks Jungwon if he means the domestic league. The coach just laughs, absolutely not, kid. We are talking about going abroad. The manager then asks if he knows the Super League, the Turkish league, explaining that there is a club over there where he actually played back during his own active days. Eugene knows the Turkish league incredibly well. South Korea's greatest defender in history once played right there, which basically means a path with a proven track record. Even so, Jungwon notices the clear disappointment on his face and comments that he doesn't seem all that interested. Eugene quickly tries to play it down, saying that is not exactly the case. Jungwon chimes right in, telling him it is totally fine to aim higher. He also played in the J-League. Eugene replies that since this recommendation comes directly from his coach, he promises to think it over. Jungwon just smiles, knowing full well that is a polite way of saying no. If the kid turns down the Turkish league, he will never settle for the Japanese one. The coach points out that he is going to get endless offers like this and needs to learn how to choose, carefully weighing each one. Eugene silently agrees, fully aware of how incredibly difficult that is going to be. Then the coach states facts. He is young, inexperienced, and barely knows the real world yet. So while he cannot instantly drop him into a major European league, he can introduce him to someone who will guide those exact decisions. If Eugene is ready, he will connect him with a professional sports agent. Pay attention to this detail. Getting an agent is a massive step, securing a professional to handle absolutely every deal. And contracts. Managing everything from giant club negotiations right down to the tiny details of professional life. It requires total trust, meaning you cannot just hire anyone off the street. But Jungwon is offering a completely trusted contact. Eugene accepts the offer instantly. There is simply no way to turn down a massive recommendation like this, especially coming from his own coach. Jungwon totally jokes with him, asking if he plans to reject this one too. Considering he already shot down every single league proposed, Eugene ends up awkwardly apologizing, laughing off the whole situation. The coach hands over agent Kim Jio's business card. He promises to make the official introduction very soon, right after the Sendai Cup, the second they return to Korea. Eugene thanks him deeply for this massive opportunity. Everything is finally aligning for his pro career. The coach says goodbye, telling Eugene to get some serious rest. But right at that exact moment, Moon bursts through the door, accidentally slamming the coach against the wall. Poor Jungwon doesn't let that slide. He smacks Moon on the head. Moments later, Moon cowers and apologizes, asking what the boss is doing in their room anyway. Eugene fakes an excuse about a surprise inspection, making Moon instantly panic. Now he thinks the coach holds an eternal grudge against him. Eugene calms his friend. Eugene tells him to relax and just pass him the ball tomorrow so he can score. Moon totally loves that idea, saying he is absolutely counting on him. But to make up for the scare, he instantly steals his partner's snack, shoving it all into his mouth. Eugene complains that it was his, telling him to actually share. Enjoy this calm before the absolute storm. Match day against France arrives, and the commentator is already incredibly hyped. The historic victory against Brazil has everyone riding high. Meanwhile, France brings their traditional, flawlessly consistent hexagonal tactics. A completely clinical team. They make zero mistakes and never waste a single chance. But South Korea changes things up, dropping their previous formation. Now they are betting on rapid wingers with crazy acceleration to break through the tight French midfield. Pushing hard down the flanks, both teams step onto the pitch. The stadium is absolutely packed today. Beating Brazil made a massive impact. Now a huge crowd is out here actively cheering for the Koreans. Reporters and broadcasting crews hold prime spots. Korea has truly gained the global spotlight. This is absolutely perfect for Eugene, the best possible chance to show the world exactly who he is. Match starts. France's left winger Kevin and their midfielder Anthony push aggressively forward, playing that famously consistent French 1-2 pass, but Eugene is actually stunned. He finds the French players way too slow. He easily steals the ball mid-sprint and bolts straight for the other side. Mid-match. Making his way up the pitch, Eugene spots two golden pillars lighting up, one right in the penalty box, another inside the 6-yard area. Hyunmin and Moon are the closest options. Figuring the bigger zone has to be Hyunmin's spot, he decides to slide the ball over to Moon instead. Moon charges forward like an absolute bull. He fires a heavy shot right at the net, but here is the catch. Eugene realizes at the very last second the guy who actually tapped it in for the goal is Hyunmin, not Moon. Moon pops up right behind him. He is totally furious, yelling that he was in a way better spot. Then it hits Eugene. He completely forgot one crucial detail. That massive zone actually belonged to Moon, South Korea's very own world-class winger. The only reason a guy with his insane talent is still stuck in the K-League, his awful habit of completely sabotaging games whenever he throws a tantrum. Whining that Eugene never even wanted to pass to him, Moon threatens to just quit playing altogether. The guy immediately starts causing major problems. Here is the crazy part. The biggest threat in this match is not the French squad, it is Korea's own internal drama. Still, South Korea keeps up the pressure. France looks totally lost out there. Stepping up to mark a player and steal possession, Yujin notices the French players are moving completely stiff. They look incredibly nervous. Glancing around the stadium, he figures out why. The flashing cameras, the intense reporters, these guys are literally just 17 years old. Yujin has the mind of a seasoned veteran from his past life, but his opponents are just kids. This heavy media pressure and massive crowd noise is completely new to them. Making things even worse, they are now losing to a massive underdog like South Korea. Their morale is totally crushed. They just do not have the mental strength for this yet. Suddenly, two more golden zones flash before Yujin, one huge, one small. And there goes Moon, charging forward like a bull again. Feeling anxious and totally unsure where to send it, Yujin decides this pass has to go straight into the 6-yard box. But the second he sends the ball flying, Jungwoo steps up to take the shot. The French goalkeeper easily shuts it down. Jungwoo quickly apologizes for messing up, promising to nail it on the next run. But Moon marches right up to Yujin. He sounds like a completely broken record, furious that he did not get the ball again. From that exact moment, the idiot starts throwing the game on purpose. His performance totally tanks right under heavy French pressure. He is actually sabotaging his own squad. Taking full advantage of the massive gap he left behind, the French push straight into the 6-yard box. The Korean defense completely misses a clean French 1-2 pass. Their striker buries it right in the back of the net. The score is tied up at 1-1. Yujin watches them. France is playing entirely differently now than they did earlier. They are finally getting used to the pressure. This match is about to get brutally hard. The whistle blows for halftime on that equalizer. Sitting on the bench, Yujin stresses over this total disaster of Moon throwing the game. He seriously considers begging the coach to bench the guy, but he knows that will never work. Back in his original timeline, nobody caught on to Moon's childish habit of throwing matches for 3 whole years. Before then, everyone just assumes he is slightly inconsistent. If Yujin demands a sub right now, the team will think he is completely crazy. But if he keeps ignoring him, Moon will just keep throwing the match, leaving Chad wide open to push down the wing. It is an absolute recipe for chaos. That gives the French striker all the room he needs to completely flip this game. There is no other option here. Going into the second half, he has to force that whining idiot to score a goal. The second half kicks off with Yujin holding the ball. His plan is to play smart, slowly building an advantage while managing Moon's temper. But the French squad already caught on. They know every play runs through Yujin and his insane passing vision. Because of that, they start pressing him way more aggressively. The French players are hyped up now, energized by that tying goal. Their confidence is soaring, bringing that heavy, true European defense straight onto the pitch. Chad, their fullback, is not just locking down the defense, he is hyping everyone up. France launches a quick play. Kevin catches the ball completely unguarded on the left wing, while Chad sprints up ahead to receive a pass. Chad cuts inside, taking the ball near the penalty box before crossing it hard into the center. Pierre smashes a brutal shot at the net, but out of nowhere, the Korean goalkeeper pulls off an absolute miracle save. By the way, this goalie barely ever shows up. It almost makes you want to know a little more about the guy. But the script just ignores him, which makes sense since he has zero direct interaction with Yujin anyway. Yujin mostly hangs in the midfield, working with the center backs. Meanwhile, the Korean commentator screams about France looking like an entirely new threat. They are relentlessly bombarding Korea's goal. Team morale is tanking fast and pure exhaustion is really kicking in. Crushed beneath all that pressure, confidence was tanking fast by the minute. Yujin knew the clock was totally against them. His only real option was to somehow serve up a goal on a silver platter, making it entirely effortless for Moon to just finish it. Jun-suk suddenly popped up out of nowhere. He asked if Yujin was trying to force a goal for Moon. Yujin fully expected him to catch on. After all, when Moon threw his little tantrums, he pretty much ruined the entire game. It showed right through his speed, his stride, and even his posture. The whole thing was just painfully obvious. They had exactly one way to shut down those overlapping runs from Chad. Just let Moon score a goal so he would finally wake up. Once again, Jun-suk's insane observation skills left Yujin completely impressed. The guy could read everyone, teammates and opponents all at the exact same time. With a bit of help, Yujin figured he might actually drag Moon right out of this slump. He rushed forward to win back the ball. He remembered his golden zone showed exactly where the scoring chance would trigger. It never revealed exactly which player would take that final shot, but he genuinely wondered if he could predict it right then. To steal the ball on defense, he borrowed that observation trick from Jun-suk. The French player shifted his center of gravity low. That meant a dribble was coming. Yujin instantly read everything about him, from his breathing straight down to his next step. He threw in a perfectly timed right tackle and stole the ball. then he just watched how the other athletes were flowing. He predicted their tactical shifts, realizing he could apply this exact logic right to his own teammates. Seeing the fullbacks close in, he figured out how the defense would react. He quickly noticed Junju actually had the best opening. His partner moved exactly the way Yujin predicted, but that long pass just came out way too heavy. That handed a simple throw into the French team. Yujin realized his reading skills were not exactly perfect yet, but he was slowly getting the hang of things and still had time to adapt. The throw went straight over to Chad. Junzio closed the gap and marked him hard, forcing a desperate pass to Kevin. Suddenly, it was a one-on-one situation. Kevin cut sharply inside and passed back to the French offense, but Min Sung read the play beautifully and snatched the interception. He muttered about the forwards playing way too soft on defense, then launched a cross toward the left side. The Korean fullback barely managed to control it at the very last second. Yujin was playing box-to-box across the whole pitch and secured the ball again. He spotted 3 zones up ahead, 2 tiny ones, and 1 massive target. Keeping his focus locked, he read the entire flow of the match. Hyungmin was totally open, sitting near 2 other zones of similar size and position. The spot meant for Moon simply had to be one of them. Tracking the movement flow, he put all his faith into the idea that the zone on the right belonged to Moon, and the absolute idiot, despite having no real clue, luckily dashed right into that space. An old memory from the Korean under-17 training camp suddenly flashed back. Hyungmin had fed a perfectly open Moon on a flawless counter, but the guy's ball control was absolute garbage. He ended up punting it entirely out of bounds for a throw-in. Right then, Yoojun decided he should probably stop sending aerial crosses over to Moon. His first touch was just beyond terrible. Back in the present moment, Yoojun knew this pass had to drop flawlessly into Moon's golden zone. He yelled out to his teammate, and despite being a total pain to deal with, Moon actually shot on his very first touch. The ball looked like it was sailing wide past the post, but it curved like magic and slammed in, locking down Moon's very first goal in the Sendai Cup. Moon realized he actually scored and went completely wild celebrating. That strike secured the 2-1 comeback lead for Korea over France. All that intense mental gymnastics left Yoojun completely and utterly drained. Moon actually ran over to thank him personally. He admitted he only scored because of that pass, praising his friend for the massive effort. Meanwhile, Yoojun just thought about how if Moon wasn't such a massive idiot, he wouldn't have nearly killed himself trying to set that up. The second half rolled on with heavy pressure piling onto France, seeing as Korea now held the lead. Chad won back the ball and barely stressed about that 2-1 score. He figured one solid overlap would instantly tie up the match. But Moon just charged in like a complete bull, body-checking Chad hard. The French fullback tried to shove back, but he easily took the worst of it. Now check out this turnaround. Earlier, Moon was playing like an absolute clown, but now he was defending aggressively, completely shutting down Chad from making any push. Finally, the whistle blew, and Korea officially took the match 2-1. Yoojun celebrated they had actually taken down Brazil first, and now France. He knew just one single game stood between them and hoisting that Sendai Cup. Later, walking out of the stadium, the physical and mental crash just hit him incredibly hard. But the stress definitely wasn't over. A huge swarm of reporters and paparazzi were waiting outside, flashing cameras and begging for a quick interview. Yoojun felt a little nervous, but also pretty hyped up, genuinely unsure of who he should even talk to, until he spotted the specific journalist who, back in his original timeline, became the chief executive of KBC, the exact guy who did his first interview back then. He heads straight over the second he spots the reporter. Knowing the kid is in a serious rush, the journalist only asks a few quick questions, mainly focusing on whether he expects to win the upcoming match against Japan. Eugene remembers that even in the original timeline, without him around, Korea had already crushed Japan. Now that they just took down Brazil and France, he is absolutely certain they will win. He gives a totally confident answer. Later that night, back in the dorms, he stays glued to his laptop, recalling every little detail, especially the Japanese players and their old formation. Even back when he got that terrible diagnosis about his eye disease, along with the color blindness and progressive vision loss, he just could not bring himself to quit the sport. He used to study every single game and watch Hyun Min while cheering for him. But right now, something is very strange. The lineup the coach hands out features a completely different player from the guy he knew in the past, a guy named Sato Ren, a name he feels like he heard somewhere before. Meanwhile, over on the streets of Japan, this Sato Ren is completely schooling some poor soul with a ball. The kid is actually the #1 freestyle football player around. At the exact same time at the Japanese U17 training center, midfielder Shinji is totally hyped about the tournament. All of this happens right under the watchful eyes of the staff assistant coach Takagi Hideto and head coach Ito Masaki. Hideto excitedly comments that Shinji carries the heavy weight and title of being one of the absolute biggest prospects in current Japanese football. and expectations are only soaring higher right now since the grand event takes place the very next day, the highly anticipated Sendai Cup final. This massive clash is against the incredibly powerful South Korean national team. They already left giants like Brazil and France in the dust, promising an extremely difficult and tense match ahead. Since this game naturally draws everyone in, reporters and the media are about to completely pack the stands and all the broadcasting booths. With this in mind, Masaki points out that any single player who actually manages to shine on that pitch gets the chance to become a major star overnight. Hearing this, Hideto suggests they just deploy their usual lineup, keeping the strategy revolving entirely around Shinji and his talent. But Masaki counters, saying this is actually a golden opportunity, a chance to test something new. Hideto questions if it is not too early to put so much responsibility on the kid right now. But his partner firmly replies no, guaranteeing this is the absolute perfect moment. Now watch closely. They want to showcase that bold tactic to the entire world, a new formation that could become Japan's ultimate weapon, dubbed the Black Hole. Right after the Japanese practice ends, Asahi Leon, who plays as a right winger for the U17 team, looks at his teammate and asks if Shinji ever actually gets tired. He reminds him the big match is only the next day, but the star player arrogantly replies that he has to push himself to the absolute limit to evolve, because that is how he helps the team. Secretly, though, he thinks to himself that the real reason he trains so much is to avoid playing with a piece of trash like Asahi once he turns professional. He mentally curses his teammate out as a lazy loser. It is right then that Asahi notices the official starting lineup list has just been released. Shinji opens the paper with absolute certainty that once again, the entire team tactic will be built around him. After all, he never considers himself equal to those other losers on the team and knows he will shine tomorrow, becoming a true star and the main protagonist of the night. But as his eyes quickly skim through the names, oh, this hits him hard. He is shocked to find he is not listed among the starters. Furious, he storms straight into the manager's office demanding answers, basically yelling to ask if there is some mistake on the list. But inside, standing right alongside the coaching staff, is Sato Ren. Hideto immediately apologizes for the misunderstanding and admits they really should have informed him about the change beforehand. He explains that specifically for this huge match against the Koreans, Ren will start in his place. Shinji snaps back angrily, reminding them all that up until this exact point, he has always been the absolute focal point of the entire team. Sensing the heavy tension, Sato Ren calmly steps up to greet him. He tries easing the situation, saying he has absolutely no intention of stealing anyone's spotlight today. Completely blinded by pure rage, Shinji just shoves his teammate aside and slams the office door, storming out fuming. His perfect plan was to beat Korea, blow up in the mainstream media, and get famous enough to lock down a contract with a top-tier professional club. But everything is completely ruined now by that freestyle clown. To him, the manager is losing his mind because that new guy is not better than him in any single way. In a moment of pure hatred, Shinji vents his frustration by literally spitting on someone else's locker inside the dressing room. But he quickly has to hide inside an empty locker when footsteps echo down the hall. Sato and Nagai stroll right into the room. Sato tells his buddy he is going to practice some freestyle right here. He has to warm up and unwind before a massive match. If he does not, his anxiety completely eats him alive. Outside, Nagai is totally fine with the practice but warns his partner. He tells him to avoid causing street trouble. Above all, do not get injured. If anything bad happens to him, the entire team is totally screwed. From inside the locker, that one word clicks. Injured. A dark smile creeps across Shinji's face. He realizes this is the absolute perfect plan to crush his rival and clear the path. Miles away, the vibe is entirely different. The Korean players are enjoying free time, tasting takoyaki for the very first time. They are just eating, having a blast, and getting their minds right for the upcoming match. Then the bill arrives at the table, 6,000 won for each guy to pay. But Min Sung wants to play it smart. He asks the table who wants to eat all this takoyaki for free. The guys light up and say they are totally in, demanding to know how he plans to pull this off. Min Sung tells them it is incredibly simple. They just need to smash the high score on that kicking machine right out on the sidewalk. Jun Suk immediately complains, telling him to quit acting like an absolute idiot and just split the bill. Ye Jun entirely agrees, saying he refuses to waste time just lingering around on the streets. Moon jumps right into the conversation to provoke them, asking if they are simply too scared to lose. With their pride on the line, the rest of the group accepts the bet immediately. Competition always makes these guys completely reckless. Moon strictly reinforces the game rules. Whoever places dead last pays the entire 30,000 won bill completely alone. He takes the first kick. He absolutely shatters the machine, scoring an impressive 991 points. Watching that, Yi-jun swallows hard. He thinks to himself that idiot is way too strong. He desperately tries to calm down. He figures he just needs to aim properly and strike hard to avoid finishing at the very bottom. But things instantly change. Everyone else lands absolutely absurd scores right after him. Hyunwoo scores 989, Jun-suk hits 988, and Min-sung secures 987. With options running thin, Yi-jun realizes he will definitely take last place without a literal miracle. Under massive pressure, he gives it his all. He channels his entire body weight into one vicious kick. The machine flashes exactly 975 points. His fate is sealed as the official dinner sponsor, his entire allowance completely drained. He stares in utter disbelief, wondering if these guys were always such freaks of nature. After paying up and totally emptying his wallet, Yi-jun gets distracted. He looks up, his teammates have completely vanished into the heavy city fog. Walking alone, he passes a massive crowd gathering on the street. He comes face to face with that exact same guy from the ramen shop. It is the talented freestyle player. He is busy winning cash off yet another helpless victim on the sidewalk. The talented kid runs his usual hustle. He loudly challenges the crowd. Whoever takes the ball within 30 seconds wins 10 times their original bet. Another brave soul steps into the circle to test his luck. Sato Ren patiently explains the challenge rules to the crowd. Watching quietly from afar, Ye-jun analyzes the entire scene with his own eyes. He realizes this is going to be his first genuinely dangerous challenge since facing Jun-suk. But something else catches his attention. A strange, sinister red glow surrounds the man who just accepted the footballer's street challenge. That dark aura means just one thing. He is ready for a dirty move. But watch what happens next. Up in a nearby restaurant window overlooking the sidewalk circle, Shinji stands watching the scene with perfectly cold eyes. He is completely satisfied. He paid that street thug to severely injure Sato Ren, ensuring he misses tomorrow's game and leaves the spotlight open. Just 1 hour ago, Shinji met this thug in disguise. The guy happily agreed to do the dirty work, provided the cash was right. Shinji pointed at the freestyler nearby. He ordered the criminal to shatter his legs so badly he would never play competitive football again. The thug laughed, absolute piece of cake. With the cash already secured in his pocket, the brutal attack finally begins. This guy is clearly not aiming for the ball. He launches a vicious tackle aimed directly at Sato Ren's legs. Sato Ren panics. With 12 seconds left, he realizes he must stall, not by dodging the ball, but by dodging the attacker himself. Watching from afar, Song Yi-jun knows his dark suspicions were completely right. Spot on. The second he caught that nasty red glare in the thug's eyes, he knew right away this guy didn't care about the ball at all. He was just there to injure the player. Right then, the attacker slammed straight into Sato Ren, knocking him backward. That gave him a wide-open chance to sweep his leg. But just when Sato braced for impact, Song Yi-jun completely launched his entire body at the criminal. As the rest of the Korean squad started rushing over, the thug bolted in a panic, shouting back that this definitely wasn't over. Sun Heung-min checked if Song Yi-jun was alright, totally confused about who that guy even was. Meanwhile, Sato Ren walked up. He recognized Song Yi-jun right away from the ramen shop earlier and quickly bowed his head to thank him. He admitted that without that save, his leg would have been completely shattered. Song Yi-jun felt bad for just crashing into the fight like a maniac and asked the guy for his name. The kid proudly introduced himself as Sato Ren, literally the absolute best in freestyle football and a core rep for Japan. He played for their under-17 national team, calling it a real honor to meet everyone. Right then, Song Yi-jun froze. This Sato Ren was the one exact player on the roster he couldn't recognize from his past life. But the second he heard the word freestyle, it all came flooding back. Back in his original timeline, Sun Heung-min had heavily smacked him right on the head, waking him up just to shove a phone screen in his face, pointing wildly at Sato Ren, the Japanese freestyler exactly their age. And he was just ridiculously good. Song Yi-jun remembered seeing his crazy ball control, making every single movement look basically magic, earning him the massive title of the youngest player ever to completely dominate the freestyle scene. The pure shock hitting him now was intense, because he had never once heard of this guy stepping onto a real football pitch. So he just straight up asked if he normally played actual field matches too. Sato Ren shook his head, no, dropping the bomb that tomorrow's Sendai Cup was going to be his massive official debut. Hearing that, all the puzzle pieces suddenly fit together. After all, back in the original timeline, Sato Ren totally missed this match against Korea, completely stuck on the sidelines. Trashed by that cowardly street fight injury. By stepping in and changing the future today, he totally saved Sato Ren's entire football destiny. The last time they went head-to-head, Song Yi-jun couldn't even manage to touch the ball once. Even knowing taking the ball off him today would be ridiculously hard, He refused to just let fear hold him back now, because he had honestly leveled up a ton during this Sendai Cup too. Returning the respect, he apologized for being a bit slow, then proudly introduced himself as the core midfielder for Korea. Sato Ren looked hyped, boldly claiming Japan was taking the win. But Song Yoo-jun fired right back. They had absolutely zero intention of losing this game either. The two shared a solid handshake, locking in a promise to face off tomorrow directly on the grass. Then, the actual day of the big clash finally arrives. You can feel the tension in the air. The stadium is absolutely packed out today for this massive Sendai Cup final between Korea and Japan. Both nations march onto the pitch for this long-awaited final showdown, with Son Heung-min hyping up his squad hard, reminding everyone that this game already belonged to them and they just had one very simple job today: win. The Korean players step up looking insanely motivated, and as the lineups form, the stadium announcer gets the crowd screaming, asking everyone who's going to be the legendary hero of this crazy duel. The whistle blows, and Young Suk takes first possession. Waiting to see exactly how Japan plans to press, the Koreans push up pretty slowly, eventually feeding the first touch to Song Yoo-jun. He notices the Japanese defensive line is sitting way back, guessing they might be running some ultra-defensive strategy today. Fully determined to shatter that game plan, he decides to just charge ahead himself. The announcer notes how incredibly tough piercing that solid barrier will be. And stepping up first to block the Korean push is Shuhei, Japan's heavy-hitting midfielder. But Song Yoo-jun blows past him so insanely fast that the guy literally does not even see the ball move. Driving forward, he honestly thinks these Japanese players are way too slow, lacking the raw individual talent of monsters like Brazil or France. He realizes if they maintain this rhythm, a win is basically guaranteed. Shuhei is just left standing there, totally in the dust. He zips a clean pass forward toward Moon Jung-won. Then Captain Son Heung-min finds an opening, smoothly receiving the following pass. But Japan's marking suddenly collapses on him super fast, leaving him completely boxed in. At that exact same second, Song Yoo-jun gets totally swarmed, locked down tight by an entire sea of defenders. They eventually strip the ball in a brutal 2-on-1 tackle, firing a rapid pass straight to Sato Ren's feet right in the midfield. Right then, Japan's formation totally shifts open, proving their whole defensive setup was actually brilliant. But they are painfully slow at transitioning into an attack, leaving just two lone guys up front. Watching this unfold from the sidelines, Takagi Hideto quietly asks Ito Misaki if this strategy will actually work out, looking toward the coach. He fired back that would fail for an average player, but Sato Ren is far from ordinary. The prodigy charges entirely solo against the Korean defense. The backline swarms him, but this kid drops his shoulder and breezes past one. Then he effortlessly dusts another, juggling the ball right at his feet with insane lightning speed. By the time Korea actually registers his trick, the rest of the Japanese squad has already completely pushed up to join the attack. Sato Ren dragged the markers just long enough to open the field. With two defenders totally glued to the Japanese star, the attack gets so much easier. Hikaru, the under-17 national forward, takes it on the wing and crosses perfectly into the box. That ball looks dangerously high, but it drops absolutely perfectly for their tallest player, Nagai Ryo. Nagai Ryo rises and smashes a stunning header. Standing 1.94 meters tall with totally absurd jumping power, he hammers in goals exactly like that. Song Yoo-jun stares at the scoreboard in pure shock, finally understanding their trap. The setup means dropping their defensive line until it gets impenetrable, stealing the ball back, feeding it to Sato Ren to stall the play entirely solo, and waiting for the giant Nagai Ryo to rise up and finish. Over on the bench, Ito Misaki proudly notes that they possess the super tower Nagai Ryo alongside the world-class control of Sato Ren. Think about it, this black hole strategy literally only works because they have those two specific monsters. Ito openly challenges Korea to break this invincible tactic. When Japan draws first blood, the commentator is completely blown away by the absolutely absurd chemistry between Sato Ren and Nagai Ryo. Meanwhile, Korea realizes they urgently need a real powerhouse of a backup plan. They have to neutralize that duo, but Song Yoo-jun honestly has no clue where to even start. As soon as the match resumes, Song Yoo-jun tries everything to mark Sato Ren closely, but that desperate movement ends up leaving their midfield completely wide open. This forces the Korean center backs completely out of position to step up and challenge. Song Yoo-jun panics if this fails. He urgently needs to cook up another strategy right now. They even try stopping Nagai Ryo by sticking multiple guys right on him, but that is way easier said than done against a literal giant. On the exact next play, the big man almost buries a header, but the Korean goalkeeper manages to pull off a spectacular save. The keeper punches it right back out to the defensive line, but Sato Ren is just sharper. Sato Ren snatches the ball immediately, sparking a massively dangerous situation. On the bench, Ito Misaki goes absolutely ecstatic. Ito Misaki yells to keep pulling Korea straight into the black hole. The strategy is working flawlessly. Sato Ren advances and draws everyone right toward him. He bypasses the markings so easily, dribbling and shifting his weight incredibly fast, that Song Yujin cannot even register the cutback to the opposite side. In the end, the Japanese star shakes off 3 defenders entirely by himself, leaving the Korean defense completely shattered. Nagai Ryo actually looks pretty unremarkable inside the box, but this time the goal avoids his head. It comes straight from the wing. Hikaru, the Japanese forward, suddenly appears out of thin air and slots it into the net before anyone notices, extending the Japanese lead to a brutal 2-0. Song Yujin deeply feels the heavy blow, finally realizing that Nagai Ryo was used as pure bait. Panic sets in. He starts thinking absolutely nothing will work and they are completely out of viable options. Feeling like his game sense is too weak and intensely frustrated by his failure to stop a single player from infiltrating, he questions if he is even cut out for football. Right then, Son Heung-min charges in out of nowhere. Sun Heung-min boots him straight in the ass. "Wake up," he yells. "Stop acting like a total idiot." Song Yujin openly complains, calling his teammate a jerk for talking so much. Son Heung-min fires back, "He better figure this out. Otherwise, that ball will never reach the front line in proper shape." While those two bicker, the rest of the squad rushes over to break up this brewing internal conflict. Young-suk steps up, asking if everything is actually okay, and Song Yujin quickly apologizes. He heavily admits that the harsh scolding from Sun Heung-min genuinely snapped him straight back to reality. Looking back out at the pitch with a much calmer mind, he notices something crucial. The ball just keeps funneling towards Sato Ren. This massive realization lights a spark in his brain, and he tells Young-suk he finally has a plan to save them. Korean squad sets up for the restart. Seeing his opponents in total chaos, Sato Ren figures the game is a complete breeze from here. Now watch closely. Korea takes the kickoff and instantly charges the defense, while Song Yujin analyzes that, aside from those 2 massive Japanese stars, the individual talent of the other players really is not all that impressive. But their collective play somehow halts the Korean attacks because the forwards keep falling straight into a numerical defensive web. This lets Sato Ren buy enough time to flip the game. It looks totally invincible, but it has one fatal flaw. Song Yujin, he sprints hard, planting himself dead center in the passing lane between the ball and Sato Ren. Right then, his mind flashes back to his quick chat with Jung-suk minutes earlier. Jung-suk asks why they keep the rest of the team completely in the dark. The answer from Song Yujin is simple. This kind of play demands absolute insane mental focus, and only the 2 of them can actually pull it off together. The master plan? Song Yujin uses his body to block defenders, squeezing the passing routes exactly to where Sato Ren always receives the ball. Then Jung-suk just has to pop up in that blind spot for the steal. A completely brutal job for Jung-suk, forcing him to track the exact position of the rival non-stop. They definitely cannot keep this up all game, but it is worth a shot, and man, it actually works. The second they try to find Sato Ren, Jung-suk appears like an absolute ghost, snatching the ball before the Japanese number 10 even blinks. Song Yujin cracks a smile. Their combined vision just created this insane dual spiderweb reading of the entire field, and it is paying off. They explode forward together in a blinding rush, launching a totally lethal counterattack. The massive Japanese defensive wall is still the biggest hurdle, but Jung-suk decides to take this one step at a time. He feeds the ball to a wide-open Song Yujin. Knowing they bled for this chance, the midfielder locks in completely. As the Japanese defense dives in, he predicts every single danger zone and tackle angle, dodging them with pure agility. The announcer loses it as Song Yujin invades the Japanese half and breaches the so-called golden zone. He knows exactly who is waiting there. The pass is dead accurate to Sun Heung-min, who controls it beautifully, and fires a perfect curling shot straight into the net. Korea is officially fighting back, shrinking the score down to 2-1. Song Yujin runs over to ask if the striker is satisfied, only for Sun Heung-min to immediately fire back. He jokes that talented guys always need a push and that Yujin only plays right when someone is nagging him. Song Yujin laughs, calling the forward a total rascal for never apologizing for the kick, and warns him he's absolutely toast later. Sun Heung-min loves the banter, calling him the classic Song Yujin. Playing with raw grit, he tells the team to show the true power of Korea. The match resumes. Oddly enough, Japan shifts their entire stance, pushing 3 attackers up high to totally smother the counter. But Song Yujin stays sharp, perfectly covering their best offensive passing lane. When they try forcing it to Sato Ren, Jung-suk reads it flawlessly and intercepts the play again. Song Yujin celebrates the success of the plan in his head, but right at the very end, he spots a Japanese player charging incredibly aggressively at Jung-suk, trying to win the ball back with pure brute force. Luckily, The referee blows the whistle right then, ending the first half. The second he hits the substitute bench, Song Yujin totally collapses from sheer exhaustion. The toll is not even physical, since his stamina is absolutely top tier. But observing and calculating so many variables at the exact same time, that mental strain is draining way more energy than he ever expected. Jung-suk walks over with a water bottle, telling him to pace himself out there, because one tiny slip up at a crucial moment ruins everything. Song Yujin takes a long sip. He looks back with fierce determination, tells him not to worry. He guarantees they are flipping this match in the second half, no matter what. The second half kicks off, and Sato Ren is already completely alert to the plan from Jung-suk. He begins feeling the pressure right at the tail end of the first half. But now he knows for sure Song Yujin is controlling every passing lane. He just cannot figure out how. I mean, think about it, not long ago, this kid could barely touch the ball during that ramen shop incident. Now, Song Yujin is completely locking down his style. Instead of getting mad, Sato Ren finds it intriguing. He wants to see exactly who the real prey is on this field. This time, the pass to Sato Ren goes further ahead. Jung-suk cannot track back in time for the steal. Kim Min-sung has to rush over and help block, sparking a totally aggressive battle for the ball. Like a pro, Sato Ren manages a dribble and squeezes the ball through a millimeter-wide gap between both defenders. But the eyes of Song Yujin are just as sharp. He predicts the play entirely, snatching the ball mid-route. The announcer screams that Song Yujin is reading Sato Ren like an open book. With the ball, Korea surges forward into a full-throttle attack. Jung-suk advances alone, visualizing the golden zone. The coverage is heavy on Son Heung-min, pushing him way out of the play. But Jung-suk pushes past his absolute limits, sliding right in for the tackle and launching a picture-perfect cross straight into the penalty box. The star striker Son Heung-min finds the back of the net again, tying this crazy game up. Song Yujin and Son Heung-min are playing totally out of their minds right now. Glancing at that scoreboard, Nagai Ryo points out that this match has gone completely off script from their original game plan. Sato Ren fully agrees with him. He is genuinely shocked at how fast that kid read his exact movements out there. He planned to hide his real strength until the Under-17 World Cup. But injury risk or not, holding back is simply no longer an option. Changing out his boots right on the sideline, he confidently declares he only needs 10 minutes to shut this whole joke down. You can physically feel the tension here, guys. The stadium is totally sold out, and the fans are absolutely raging. For the last 10 minutes of the Sendai Cup, not a single person knows who takes the trophy home today. Mirroring the first half, Song Yujin slips right between the Japanese players, actively looking to steal that pass straight from midfield. And with Jung-suk sticking to his assigned man like glue, Sato Ren's passing lanes look completely dead. The Japanese squad actually thinks about passing to Han. Forcing the ball to their number 10 just means turning it over again. But then they see it. Song Yujin is running on pure fumes, sporting massive dark bags under his eyes mid-game. Spotting a clear chance to abuse that fatigue, the Japanese midfielder decides to rush ahead himself instead of passing. Song Yujin spots the push, but his physical balance is failing. His focus drops, and he stumbles a bit on defense. And while Jung-suk aggressively sprints over to cover the gap, the sudden shift catches him completely off guard. That tiny window is all Sato Ren needs to secure the ball. Surrounded by Korean defenders or not, the momentum instantly shifts. Jung-suk got completely used to the guy's earlier pace, but wearing those fresh boots, something incredibly weird goes down. Sato Ren hits the absolute afterburners. He blasts through defenders like practice cones and slides a quick pass to Nagai Ryo. The backline totally fails to block the big guy, but as he launches a powerful header toward the net, Moon Jung-won jumps right alongside him, knocking the ball hard out of bounds. He loudly screams at his teammates to lock down the penalty area. The ball stays live right in the center of the field, kicking off an absolute dogfight for possession. Through all the sheer chaos, a wild clearance sends the ball sky high, only for it to drop perfectly at Sato Ren's feet again. At this stage, Japan's defense has pushed way too high up, leaving them exposed, but the Korean side is equally unprotected. Not a single person can check Sato Ren, except for Song Yujin, sprinting hard to stay glued to his hip. A totally gassed Korean playmaker going head-to-head against a Japanese ace running on all cylinders. Song Yujin knows letting his rival blow past him here is just an automatic game over. He has to shut him down right now. Even with his focus slipping and his vision literally going blurry from pure exhaustion. Gasping for air, he desperately tries reading the ace. Is it a left cut, a right cut, or a quick pass? He fully understands the reality. Even at 100% energy, matching Sato Ren's pure technique is basically impossible. So he pulls out the exact same mental trap the Japanese star used against him back in that local ramen shop. Song Yujin violently throws all his body weight left. Sato Ren expects the fake and reads right, but he guesses completely wrong. Song Yujin snaps the other way, reads the cutback, and cleanly steals the ball. He is totally done playing someone else's game. Right here and now, he takes over. He will carry this squad and set the true tempo of the match. The Korean roster doesn't even stop to think. They just lock in and chase Song Yujin's explosive burst of speed. The Japanese defense scrambles backward in absolute panic. Their net is sitting completely wide open. With a single minute remaining on the clock, this is the very last chance to skip a brutal penalty shootout entirely. Korea desperately needs this comeback goal. Spotting a huge golden opening on the pitch, Song Yujin perfectly tees up the pass. Sun Heung-min takes the feed and fires an absolute rocket on the final do-or-die play of the entire match. The ball flashes clean past the keeper's hands, slamming right into the net. Goal for Korea, up 3-2. What a truly historic run. The Korean squad takes down Brazil, crushes France, and breaks Japan to win the Sendai Cup. Down on the grass, the players celebrate in pure shock. They are incredibly proud of Song Yujin and his mastermind assists. Son Heung-min locks in as the top scorer of the tournament, while Song Yujin fights back heavy tears. They actually won the Sendai Cup. The exact moment he desperately dreamed about in his past life is unfolding right in front of his very eyes. Man, it feels insanely good playing real football again. But while Japan parties, back in Seoul, businesswoman Kim Ji-ho is glued to the sports news, slowly realizing that Song Yujin had just cemented himself as the absolute hero of their comeback victory. She knew she had to meet this kid immediately. Down on the pitch, the Korean national team goes absolutely wild during the awards ceremony. Dudu Barbosa applauds their massive achievement. Meanwhile, the French team just stands there, sour with sheer frustration. Sadaran honestly feels they genuinely deserve the win. Because let's be real, anyone capable of outperforming him on the grass is more than worthy of the trophy. And just like that, this intense summer of football finally wraps up with the Sendai Cup. Leaving behind a moment that feels exactly like a dream, Song Yujin jumps right back into his ordinary teenage routine at school. But instead of paying attention to the lectures, he spends all his time doodling football tactics inside his notebook. Strangely enough, right next to him, Sun Heung-min looks entirely focused on studying, suspicious. Song Yujin sneaks a peek at his friend's notebook, only to discover he is actually researching Japanese and Korean candy. He just laughs to himself, thinking the kid is definitely headed for diabetes. There's no other explanation. When classes finish, while most guys plan to hit the PC bang or just go rest, Song Yujin and the Donju Club crew march straight to the pitch for practice. Since rejoining the school squad, Song Yujin's pace is noticeably faster. His direct passes to Sun Heung-min come off at a genuinely sinister speed. The two return from the tournament at a level way above the entire school, so much so that they utterly crush the opposition during the practice match. Now, sitting on the bleachers after training, Song Yujin admits that practice always leaves him completely exhausted. Sun Heung-min playfully teases his friend, calling him a total weakling and a scrub. Then the assistant coach walks over, letting Song Yujin know Coach Lee Jung-won wants to see him. Later, he goes to meet the coach at a diner, totally startled to find his own father sitting right there at the table. Thoroughly confused, he asks what his dad is doing here. The older man replies, with a playful gruffness, claiming an important meeting like this obviously requires an adult present. When Song Yujin asks what kind of meeting this is, the door swings open. She steps inside, leaving everyone utterly starstruck. Talent agent Kim Ji-ho. This incredibly beautiful woman right in front of him is precisely the agent Coach Lee Jung-won promised to introduce once they return to Korea. She elegantly sits at the table, highly praising the boy, saying she was extremely impressed by his stellar performance at the Sendai Cup. True to his usual style, Song Yujin's father slams a large glass onto the table. He bluntly asks if his son genuinely has the profile of a competitive player. To explain her vision, Kim Ji-ho opens a laptop, pulling up a highly colorful PowerPoint slide she specifically prepared for the player. Song Yujin looks at it, thinking that while this woman is indeed meticulous, the slide design is genuinely hideous. Honestly, it looks exactly like that classic internet meme about graphic design being my passion. Despite her undeniably tacky taste in presentations, the agent keeps her cool. She announces that from this exact point on, she will outline what Song Yujin's true competitive edge is in today's football market. This leaves the young athlete quite curious to finally see how his own brand of football is truly perceived from the outside. Kim Ji-ho starts by explaining how nowadays, the role of a traditional attacking midfielder is heavily shrinking in modern football. Collective tactics are becoming increasingly organized, and the pressure on the ball carrier has grown immensely. But she assures them Song Yujin is different. The boy possesses a unique ability to shield the ball, combining stamina and movement to withstand intense pressure, and above all, the pure talent required to change the course of a match with goals and assists. In short, He is the perfect player for the future of football. Song Yujin, who literally came from the future, knows this businesswoman is dead on. Spot on analysis. She's genuinely skilled. After all, he knows that years later a famous player will emerge with those exact elite characteristics in passing, ball control, coordination, and exceptional vision, the Belgian phenom, Kevin De Bruyne. He was considered the ultimate evolution of the classic number 10, a style of athlete that simply does not exist in Song Yujin's current era. Deeply impressed by this precise analysis, his father asks if she already has a specific club in mind for his son. Kim Ji-ho replies that she has several options, but there is one she treats as a massive top priority, a Premier League club whose ownership just changed the previous year. She explains that while the team is still viewed as a lower table side, she is fully certain they will become one of the biggest powerhouses within a few years. Asked if this team is famous, Song Yujin smiles. He realized this woman seriously knew her stuff, mainly because she was talking directly about Manchester City. That was De Bruyne's future club. His mind racing, Song Yujin knew right then he absolutely had to sign with her. Picking up the paperwork and spotting the Manchester City logo, he remembered something key. Right now, they were just a mid-table squad, but they were about to become massive. He knew perfectly well that even if he totally crushed it at the U17 World Cup, getting a direct offer from a top-tier elite club was super unlikely. So his smartest play was targeting a solid stepping stone like Manchester City. Since this was an era where barely any Korean players went overseas, and nobody really understood the foreign market yet, Kim Ji-ho's global vision was actually unreal. It gave Song Yujin the total confidence he needed to finally seal the deal. Just a week after signing with her, Song Yujin was already playing way better during drills over at the U17 national team's training center. Right in the middle of practice, he actually caught himself spacing out, just thinking about his new agent. She was an absolute genius regarding football, but honestly a total disaster with literally everything else. Constantly spilling her coffee everywhere and making those completely awful, hideous slide designs. Suddenly, Son Heung-min walked up holding a newspaper. He announced that yet another article about Song Yujin had just dropped, and this was already the 10th one. The whole squad was completely hyped up over all this insane media buzz. A little jealous, the striker demanded to know what made his buddy so incredibly special to score that many headlines. Song Yujin definitely wasn't passing up a chance to tease him. He replied it was obviously just because he was better looking, cracking up at his friend's face. Making things even worse, Kim Min-sung chimed in, happily pointing out that Son Heung-min had only gotten 5 articles so far. That betrayed look on his friend's face was so completely hilarious. Song Yujin actually spit on him from laughing so hard. Absolutely furious, Son Heung-min grabbed a training cone, glared straight at Kim Min-sung, and ordered him to keep watch. He angrily told him to count exactly how many more articles dropped by the end of the day. He yelled he was going to beat Song Yujin's face until he physically became a headline himself. Running for his life from that speed demon, Song Yujin realized the U17 World Cup was never really this massive of a deal. Sure, the main World Cup was the absolute biggest and most prestigious global event out there, watched by billions. But the second you add a youth category onto that title, things completely changed. During a standard U17 World Cup, the vast majority of these athletes haven't even made their professional debuts yet. The crowds are tiny, there is zero TV broadcast, and honestly, nobody cares. But for some reason, this specific tournament was dragging in crazy amounts of attention. He realized his own actions must have somehow altered the future again, totally shifting the timeline. Knowing all this extra spotlight could land him a massively better contract if he played well. He swore to himself he would crush any opponent, no matter who they actually were. But right in the middle of this totally epic internal monologue, he got distracted and took a violent plastic cone straight to the face. Later in the locker room, right as the official group stage draw was about to kick off, Song Yujin and Nagai Ryo still hadn't shown up. They finally dragged themselves in from the infirmary, with Song Yujin rocking a seriously swollen face thanks to that brutal cone assault. Once everyone gathered around, the U17 Cup group draw finally kicked off. Song Yujin kept telling himself it shouldn't matter who they played, but honestly, snagging an easy group just to catch a breath would be really nice. When Group C was announced, Moon Jong-won told his teammates that getting Korea drawn into that exact spot would be pretty awesome. Except, the very first country drawn as the top seed for Group C was Argentina, making Moon Jong-won instantly change his mind. He loudly declared he didn't want that group anymore. The next team drawn? Senegal. Watching this, Song Yujin figured the situation was already looking incredibly rough. And then, to cap off the nightmare, the third national team drawn was Germany. Group C had officially just evolved into a legitimate, brutal group of death. And you won't believe their luck, the absolute final ball drawn was none other than Korea itself. This tossed the team straight into the worst possible scenario of the tournament. Fast forward, and the U-17 squad was already training hard over at Nigeria's National Training Center in Enugu. The heat was absolutely brutal, getting so intense that Moon was nearly dying from pure exhaustion. He whined, asking if it was genuinely necessary to go through such grueling local adaptation training, but Young-won quickly snapped and cut him off. He sternly explained that their bodies absolutely needed to adapt to this muggy weather, just so they could play at full strength on match day. He ordered everyone to just keep running without complaining. Right after the U-17 World Cup groups were locked in, the delegation had flown straight to Nigeria. It was the tournament's official host country. This was already their second day there, and honestly, adapting was clearly a massive challenge. A massive challenge. But the whole group pushes past their limits. They know exactly who waits first, the feared Germany. Eugen's real headache started 2 days ago, right in the middle of their flight from Korea to Nigeria. He finds something completely shocking inside a document. Jiho hands over a thick folder. Detailed data on every single Group C player, playing styles, recent records, plus a summary of their latest matches. Eugene actually asks if compiling this is part of her agent duties. She confirms it. Analyzing opponent performance falls right under her job description. But the young woman is in a massive hurry. She tosses a quick goodbye so she avoids missing her flight, showing just how scattered she can be. Scanning the papers, Eugene realizes one terrifying fact: if this data is real, deep trouble. The absolute best future players in the world are all stacked right on this German squad. He wonders what happened in 1992. Did every kid born then become a football prodigy? Korea is facing one of the strongest German generations in history. That night, inside the team dormitory, Min-sung asks the guys, "Isn't everyone getting totally wiped out by these brutal practice sessions?" Jungwoo agrees. The team's other midfielder points out the stifling heat just drains their energy. But the coaching staff is definitely pushing them harder than usual. Moon joins the chat. He complains about the brutal weather here, confesses he does not even have an appetite, forcing food down just to survive dehydration. Then Min-sung looks around and asks where those two idiots Yoo-jun and Hyung-nim are. Moon thinks that is silly. You know exactly where this is going. At this hour, those two are out on the pitch, and they really are. Yoo-jun spends his time practicing finishes against a training wall. On one hard attempt, the ball violently rattles the crossbar. Hyung-nim never misses a chance. He kicks his friend and mocks him. How can he still be this bad? Even after taking private lessons from him for an entire month, he takes zero pride in such a clumsy student. Yoo-jun actually begged for his help. He realized his shot was way too weak back when they played in Japan. But now his friend just uses that to rub it in his face. Completely annoyed, Yoo-jun sets the ball. Right on the mark. He challenges his teammate to do better, betting that if he misses, he becomes his personal servant for an entire week. But right while he is finishing that sentence, Hyung-nim runs up. A missile. He smashes a strike straight into the net. Laughing hard, Hyung-nim immediately starts celebrating. Yoo-jun is officially his personal slave for the next 7 days. That leaves Yoo-jun pensive and quite frustrated. Is the gap in their skill levels really this insanely wide? Think about it. Hyung-nim plays an incredible game but has not received any major European club offers yet. His own situation is even worse. His chances in the market are basically zero if he does not improve fast. The two stay out there, training for an extra 2 hours. Even after baking all day under the brutal sun, Hyung-nim finally asks to stop because extreme hunger kicks in, but Yoo-jun warns him he intends to stay. Just a bit longer. His friend advises him to take it easy so he avoids getting injured. The young man replies with pure determination he will do absolutely everything within his current power to get better. Hyung-nim finds that super weird. He says it sounds like cringe cliché lines from a manhwa protagonist, but he quickly follows up. He cannot leave his new slave behind, so he decides to stay and train him, just for a bit longer. On match day, Namji Stadium is completely packed for the Group C openers, the Under-17 World Cup. Korean commentators in the broadcast booth are already preparing the massive audience, warning everyone this will be an incredibly tough battle against Germany. The channels begin their live coverage. Athletes walk onto the pitch. Korea wears their traditional red kit, while Germany sports their classic white jersey. Just look at them. The sheer physical size of the Germans catches everyone's attention, ridiculously tall and strong, the result of an intense training system benchmarked worldwide. The German goalkeeper looks to his side. Thinking the Koreans look like a bunch of little kids, the other European players chat casually among themselves, discussing their post-match meals. Zero concern. They treat this entire game as a guaranteed easy win. On the other hand, Eugen feels the heavy responsibility. He knows the whole world is watching this moment. The match is on, and Eugen is fully determined to leave everything on the pitch. He needs to evolve his game and catch a scout's eye. A sharp whistle blows. Instantly, the game explodes with an absolutely suffocating German pressure. Yujin suddenly finds himself facing off against a blonde guy with cold grayish-blue eyes. Jiho's data analysis immediately flashes into his mind. The target is Thomas Richter, a beast possessing refined dribbling and massive individual skill. Her report warned him clearly. The moment the match starts, this guy has an 87% chance of just tearing right through the first defensive line. Not today. Yujin reads the movement perfectly and lands a beautifully clean tackle. He celebrates mentally. The young woman's data is proving completely reliable, and his own raw skills are actually merging perfectly with all those sharp tactical insights. But that joy doesn't last long. Luigi Getz is already breathing down his neck, and the German defender flies in with a lightning-fast slide tackle. Yujin clearly sees the red zone mechanism flashing, but the actual play is too fast. Gone. The ball gets completely stripped away. Sprinting back to cover, he desperately tries to figure out how he even lost that quick exchange. Theoretically, his system works flawlessly. A black arrow perfectly indicates the incoming slide tackle's trajectory. Then the red light starts quickly filling that space, and the exact moment it completely covers the arrow. The physical tackle actually hits, basically making his reaction timing impossible to miss. But out here, the World Cup reality is totally different. Those guys he faced in the Sendai Cup were nothing like this. Here, the speed of that red light filling the arrow is just infinitely faster, which means he has to think and move way quicker if he actually wants to survive competing at this crazy high level. The ball gets played back to Yujin, and Luigi instantly applies his absolutely relentless marking. Yujin knows perfectly well that his current dribbling skills are just too weak to escape this rival's pinpoint slide tackles. He literally watches the red zone warning flash and tries dodging to the side, but he still gets dispossessed all over again. Pure chaos. Yet at the final second, Yujin clumsily manages to poke it to Jiang-Woo. The pass is completely crooked and entirely off balance, dragging his teammate into a brutal, fierce battle for possession. Luckily, Jiang-Woo shows some serious resourcefulness and clears the play with a beautiful roulette. The commentator is totally impressed by that sudden ball control evolution. The midfielder spots Seo Jin. Brutal. The forward is simply run over by a force of nature named Anthony, who blasts it. Oliver, the German midfielder, smoothly chests down the rebound with pure class and immediately feeds it right back to Max, their center forward. Jong-suk completely anticipates the play, but realizes he is way too far away to tackle. Right then, Min-sung flashes his speed, beats his man, and quickly passes it to Yujin. Yujin immediately kicks off a coordinated press alongside Jong-suk, but the relief dies fast as that dreadful red zone starts flashing once again. Luigi launches a blind spot slide tackle right from behind. It totally catches Yujin off guard, but he shields the ball at the final millisecond. The German defender actually praises the kid's reflexes aloud, but then he instantly drops a taunt asking how long Yujin thinks he can keep dodging like this. Total shift. The tactical scenario suddenly changes, with multiple red arrows popping up everywhere instantly. It gives this terrifying impression that his opponent covers every single space, with completely irregular reaction tackle timings. The midfielder begins losing his balance, instantly opening a gap for two eager German players. But check this out. Right in the middle of that chaotic bottleneck, Yujin actually spots a golden zone glowing straight through a razor-thin corridor. The German defense doesn't even imagine this could turn into real danger. Not a single one of them notices Hyung-min making a sudden run. He is already sprinting full speed toward that sacred space. The forward runs in total amazement, wondering how his teammate even saw such an absurd gap. Too slow. The Europeans try pulling an offside trap, but Hyung-min completely breaks free, flawless. Right as he steps into the golden zone, he unleashes a marvelous curling shot incredibly tough to save. The problem is the guy in the net. Spiegel is a literal wall, using his massive height and incredible wingspan to pull off a spectacular save. Hyung-min regrets the missed chance, quietly praising his own beautiful shot. Meanwhile, Yujin thoroughly digests the play. He realizes that maybe even a pixel-perfect pass isn't enough to score. One goal. From now on, his sole obsession shifts to feeding that exact golden zone. Now watch the stands, because the real game is happening up in the VIP section. One specific man follows every single move with redoubled attention. He is visibly impressed by the Asian's composure. That is Mark Nicol, Liverpool's chief scout. Definitely not expecting to find athletes of that specific level here today. Of talent on the pitch, deciding to keep a very close eye on them. Meanwhile, back in the locker room at halftime, Yujin completely collapses onto the Korean bench. Pure, crushing mental exhaustion just washes right over him. This whole situation is getting totally ridiculous. Ever since he forced that first opening, the golden zone kept flashing right before his eyes, again and again, but almost half of his attempts ended in a sloppy, misplaced pass or a hard physical block. He always knew his technical skills had hard limits, but he never imagined the sheer tactical gap would be this massive. The physical wall between his squad and these European monsters is just insane. Reaching that top-tier level, gonna be a brutally long road. Second half kicks off. Yujin steps right back in, driving the ball forward and trying to command the formation. He spots the golden zone perfectly, only to get cleanly tackled halfway there. And on the very next drive, exact same story. Shut down completely. Another charge up the field, another hard interception. The perfect space sits right in front of him, but the assist just will not connect. Total frustration eats away at the kid. He just cannot swallow the bitter fact that he has not pulled off one single clean play this half. Caught up in his own head, he gets completely swarmed. Luigi steals the ball right off his feet again. The Korean squad tries to suffocate the counterattack, but this German ace easily shreds their high press with blinding speed, crashing straight into the danger zone. Min Seong totally trusts his heavy backline here, but Luigi somehow threads an unreal pass straight through the defensive wall. The ball drops beautifully to the German striker. He smashes it on a flawless volley, but Cho Seong-min pulls off a total miracle. The Korean goalie gets a hand on that absolute rocket, deflecting it away for a corner. Watching this unfold, Yujin gulps hard. He realizes his rival can engineer a masterclass assist like that, without relying on any special visual tools or magical golden zones. Dribbling, positioning, passing, this European prodigy is operating on an entirely different plane of existence. Up in the VIP boxes, Mark stays glued to the Korean squad, while right beside him, the chief scout for Chelsea, Dean Reeves, casually sips his wine. He smugly asks if the Germans have finally bothered to open the scoring. As far as Dean cares, a match like this only has one real outcome. Absolutely no reason to burn brain cells watching it closely. His whole game plan was just checking the physical stamina of these kids, then hitting the bar for a drink. But then Mark drops a serious question about why this under-17 bracket actually matters. Sure, this specific tournament does not pull in millions of viewers or massive paychecks, but this is exactly where the real monsters are born. Dean immediately catches on to the hype. He asks if his buddy is keeping tabs on that number 17 Yujin, pointing out that every scouting report on the kid looks completely average. Now feeling a bit curious, the Chelsea scout finally observes the midfielder, right as Yujin uses his insane vision to ruthlessly steal back the ball in midfield. Dean starts dictating his tactical notes out loud, grading the boy as just a standard B-tier player on defense. He points out an incredibly awkward body posture whenever he actually drives or holds up the play. The short and long pressure passes, pretty acceptable, backed up by a fairly solid engine. He wraps up the assessment with enough luck, this kid might barely scrape into a European B team on his very best day. He smirks, teasing if the legendary Liverpool scouting instinct is finally losing its touch. Mark just cracks a knowing smile and fires right back, telling him the real show is only just starting. The clock is brutally ticking down on the Koreans, pushing right into the final 3 minutes of dead stoppage time. Yujin forcefully drives the ball straight toward the German danger zone, but this heavy defensive wall set up by the Europeans looks completely unbreakable. They dropped everyone back, ruthlessly locking down the entire penalty area without a single gap. Korea has one final shot at victory, and it rests entirely on Yujin. He feels the crushing pressure. He can perfectly visualize that golden zone shining on the pitch, but the block is so incredibly dense, he has no idea how to force a pass through. Crossing it, over the top, the massive center back easily clears that, and trying to dribble through a space this painfully tight is just tactical suicide. Up in the stands, Dean points out the total lack of passing angles. He claims this hesitation to make a play just firmly proves the kid is a third-tier player. But get ready, because this Chelsea scout is totally unprepared for the absolute genius about to unfold. Shocking the entire stadium, Yujin suddenly strikes the ball right then and there. A flawless, spectacular trivela cross off the outside of his boot. The ball curls like pure magic around the heavy marking. It drops alive directly at the feet of Hyunmin, who savagely smashes it home on a brutal volley. The explosive shot ripples the net, leaving the German keeper staring at completely empty air. The referee blows the final whistle, 1-0 for Korea, a completely monumental, historic victory against the undisputed giants of Germany. Back in the VIP booth, Dean sits there with his jaw dropped. He admits that play had absolutely zero passing angles. Yet this kid somehow orchestrated and mapped out a lethal passing lane through pure chaos. He is forced to acknowledge that while the overall technical skills of Yujin look pretty ordinary, his raw ability to read the game and create wild plays is absolute, undeniable genius. Elite-level performance. Coach Young-won just couldn't hide his pride today, enthusiastically hyping up the entire squad. He praises their massive effort against a powerhouse like Germany. As a reward for their grind, the coach announces 2 full days completely off from practice, a real chance to rest up and recharge. But look at this. The locker room vibe is anything but festive, every player just staring down. They look completely crushed. Yujin instantly figures out the reason behind this heavy, collective gloom. He knows it makes perfect sense. They just experienced that brutal gap in pure technical skill firsthand. For 90 minutes, Korea won as a united team, but individually, every guy feels they lost their personal duels. Makes total sense, considering over half the German roster is stacked with world-renowned prospects. The midfielder knows the harsh truth. Aim for football's highest stage, and literally everyone becomes your rival. One single slip-up leaves you permanently in the dust. It is a wildly frustrating realization for him to swallow. But Yujin bites his pride, admitting his own skill set needs an urgent, massive evolution. No other option. He has to give everything and push past his limits right here, right now. Driven by that pure urgency, he tracks down his teammate Jung-woo later for a serious talk. Pushing all his shyness aside, he begs the guy, "Please, teach me how to dribble." By next morning, they are already walking side by side through the completely packed, incredibly noisy streets of Nigeria. Yujin realizes he never truly noticed his teammates' raw talent before, mostly because Jung-woo stays so painfully quiet. But the reality? Jung-woo actually possesses an insanely impressive and highly refined dribbling technique. Imagining that perfect control, Yujin suddenly notices his friend leading him somewhere completely different. The two walk the exact opposite way of the training grounds, ending up right inside the chaotic Enugu Central Market. Stopping dead, Jung-woo smiles. This massive human anthill is exactly where his dribbling truly evolved. He recalls his childhood days. He was actually terrible at football back then, running on pure enthusiasm alone, until one day the neighborhood kids invited him to fill a spot in a local match. He was shaking. The local boys even joked about being exactly one player short of a full team. But Jung-woo lacked dribbling skills and lost the ball way too easily. The group completely sidelined and excluded him. Totally embarrassed, the little guy brushes it off, making up a quick excuse to leave. He claims he must help out. Inside, his mother finds his quick return highly suspicious. She asks why he came back so fast, wondering why he is not out enjoying the day with friends. Lying through his teeth, the boy claims everyone is busy, so his mom sends him to fetch cabbage. Grabbing the list, he locks it in. 3 cabbages, lettuce, and soy sauce, repeating it relentlessly. Halfway down the street, he spots a neighbor tossing out an old, completely battered football on the sidewalk. Little Jung-woo stares. An absolute, uncontrollable urge to kick that abandoned ball simply takes over. But he still has an important delivery to make. Torn between duty and pure passion, he makes a bold choice. Diving straight into the market, he dribbles the ball while gathering ingredients. Back in the present, he explains. At first, it took him over 5 minutes just to reach the house straight ahead without losing the ball. Day after day, year after year, he repeated that absolute grind for 5 straight years. He literally learned to dribble past the entire Enugu market. Now, he crosses the whole place in those same 5 minutes. Yujin just stands there admiring his friend. The ball progression is absurdly clean, graceful, and deadly efficient. Then Jung-woo kicks the ball over to his partner. He warns Yujin that it is finally his turn. The main objective of this totally crazy training, get this cross the market without bumping into a single person. Challenging his friend to start whenever ready, Yujin takes a stance right inside the massive flow of people. Thinking the crowd moves pretty slowly at first, he actually doubts if this even counts as real, heavy training. He barely moves. Suddenly, a pack of kids comes sprinting past and plows right into him, making the young guy nearly bite the dust. Right after that, a fishpole almost smacks his face. Startled, he wonders what kind of insane market this is. People literally pop out of nowhere and shatter his balance. But then it clicks. He realizes this chaos is the perfect training to simulate tackles at unpredictable tempos, and he learns to react instantly whenever his physical balance breaks. Yujin absolutely loves this dynamic. Throwing his body and soul right into it, he spends the whole morning at the market. Following that up with solo training at lunch, he only wraps up his grind long after night falls. He is physically broken and totally exhausted when his phone rings an incoming call from his agent. Even running on absolute fumes, Yujin picks up. Jiho gets straight to the point. She knows he is exhausted, but warns him the agency just received a massive bombshell call from a top English club. The kid is in complete shock. He cannot believe a single elite performance on the pitch was enough to immediately attract English football's attention. Still feeling a bit hesitant, he asks her if this inquiry actually came from a third division team. Jiho quickly fires back and says no, because it is a Premier League side, the absolute elite of world football. Hearing the name, Yujin feels his heart racing fast. He asks if Liverpool truly made contact, marveled by the idea of a club that massive looking for him after one match. He desperately wants to know if the contract terms and figures are already sent. But Jiho reels in his excitement. She explains that this does not constitute an official bid just yet. She details how powerhouses like Liverpool use countless internal filters before formalizing any real offer. Before navigating all that bureaucracy, this call simply puts a firm stamp on his name, leaving a clear statement of interest so he will not fade from their radar. Yoojun realizes he definitely got ahead of himself. Keeping his feet firmly on the ground, he tells his agent that he will push himself and train even harder from now on. Jiho warmly advises him not to overdo things. If he maintains this current level, official offers will surely arrive. She wraps up the call, telling him to get some real rest. Yoojun hangs up. He reflects. Think about it, if he merely maintains his current level, his opponents will absolutely crush him from here on out. Mentally apologizing to his agent for disobeying, he goes right back to training hard well into the early morning hours. Finally, the day of another decisive Under-17 World Cup clash arrives to shake up Group C. Korea and Senegal stand face to face. After shocking the entire planet by taking down mighty Germany, the Asian squad knows they must keep this momentum going and prove they are no fluke. Korea takes the pitch lined up in their typical 4-2-3-1 formation. Meanwhile, the Senegal squad, famous for colossal physical strength, athletic builds, and sprinter speed, deploys an aggressive 4-3-3. Pinning a three-man front line, the African team promises a highly vertical and attacking game. This will test Korea's unbreakable fighting spirit against pure opposition power and pace. As soon as the duel kicks off, the VIP booth once again hosts Mark Nicole and Deem Reeves. Deem already uncorks another wine bottle to enjoy the spectacle. He comments that this match promises absolute greatness, also noting that the stands are completely packed with other European scouts today. Mark agrees, pointing out that this heavy scouting presence directly results from Korea's triumph over Germany. This piques his Chelsea colleague's curiosity. Deem eggs his friend on, asking if he thinks Yoojun can pull off some magic again today. The Liverpool scout silently reflects. Since the press called their previous victory a total miracle, you have to wonder, was it all just pure luck? Or is this kid truly the real deal? Eager to see how the midfielder fares from here, one thing is certain, Korea left their underdog status far behind them. They are now playing toe-to-toe against the Giants. But life starts tough for number 17. Yoojun gets the ball easily stolen by Senegal's midfielder Poppies. He celebrates the play, thinking that, exactly as expected, simply cutting off passing lanes is enough to completely neutralize the Korean threats. The African players quickly map out Korea's predictable movement and begin dominating all midfield actions. They anticipate plays, intercepting the ball before it even reaches the Korean playmaker's feet. Yoojun realizes the trap. He notices this is the exact same tactic the Japan national team used against him back in the Sendai Cup, a strategy focused exclusively on isolating him, taking him entirely out of the game. Game over, right? He smiles inwardly. They clearly picked the wrong target. He begins strategically running away from the epicenter of the play to drag his markers with him. Poppies follows him closely. The Senegal midfielder thinks the Korean player is completely desperate, mentally swearing to stick to his back as many times as it takes. He wants to ensure Korea creates absolutely nothing in this matchup. The nullification tactic works perfectly on both. Both sides battle it out as the clock relentlessly ticks into the middle of the second half, the score still deadlocked at 0-0. It is an incredibly physical and tense match. Honestly, guessing who might find that first breakthrough is nearly impossible. Ape stays firmly glued to his rival, but fatigue is finally taking its toll. Yoojun has an absolutely unreal engine and seemingly never tires. The exact second he notices his marker hitting a physical wall, the Korean turns on the burners, pushing his pace to an entirely new level. High up in the stands, the foreign scouts quietly discuss the promising Korean midfield. One of the guys completely downplays the kid's talent, judging him as nothing more than an average box-to-box midfielder. He claims those clubs are just wasting their time. But right as those critical words leave his mouth, watch this. Yoojun shatters their entire tactical system, breaking straight through the defensive line with a spectacular burst of speed. Moon reads the play perfectly, triggering a totally flawless pass right into the feet of his teammate. Number 17 controls the ball, looks up, and whips a magnificent cross into the penalty box. He places it surgically into the golden zone. Yoojun himself ghosts in at full speed, ready to capitalize on the very chance he created. Beating the backline entirely, he smashes a firm header into the back of the net. He opens the scoring with an absolute world-class goal. This absolute masterpiece on the pitch causes an immediate uproar in the VIP section. Several scouts scramble to pull out their phones. They start dialing their respective clubs immediately. Everyone is totally stunned, realizing a pixel-perfect play like that never comes from some ordinary kid. They label the entire sequence as ridiculously genius. Dean is left perplexed, openly admitting that the build-up was complete insanity. It gives the very distinct impression that this boy can foresee exactly where the opposing defense will crack. Mark smiles proudly, jokingly confessing he just wants to hide the kid's talent so nobody else can ever sign him. He is fully convinced Eugen has finally proven his worth. That victory against Germany definitely was not some random stroke of luck, pure technical competence. Now, the only real question is which European giant will actually secure his signature first. Regulation time expires shortly after. Korea officially confirms a massive 1-0 victory against a very strong Senegal squad. Down on the pitch, Moon hugs his teammates tightly, completely unable to believe they truly beat another global powerhouse. Meanwhile, Hyung-nim celebrates ecstatically with the group. He loudly praises how Korea just managed to run over Germany and Senegal back-to-back. They just stamped 2 consecutive historic victories in this tournament. The world quickly realizes Korea has already qualified for the round of 16. Meanwhile, Ji-ho just keeps receiving endless messages on his computer. On the flip side, Coach Young-won does his job, deeply analyzing the recent matches for the very first time. He watches a clip of Eugen aggressively advancing straight through the center of the opposing penalty area. The kid slots a precise pass right in front of the goal. Young-won realizes Eugen was largely responsible for sorting out their entire mess during the qualifiers. He already knew the youngster was incredibly special, but honestly, he never imagined the boy was this far above average. At that exact moment, the coach sits there waiting to meet with Mark, the main scout for Liverpool. Now check out this dedication. Eugen heads back to the Dongdaemun market for individual training, trying to dribble while dodging random people in the crowded area. Once again, he bumps hard into someone along the way. He fails to reach the other side, quickly noticing just how insanely difficult this drill actually is. The real issue happens whenever he spots the golden zone. He loses way too much time trying to overcomplicate his evasion with flashy dribbling. The objectively correct move is just keeping his center of gravity completely steady, lightly dodging the incoming tackle, and shooting straight for the zone the second he breaks free. He takes a very deep breath, desperately trying to keep himself perfectly calm. He figures if he just keeps walking without stopping, he will reach it eventually. But his focus breaks when Young-won suddenly shows up to have a talk. Later, the two are eating mangoes together. The coach casually points out that the boy is completely overdoing his daily routine. He is already practicing his dribbles with Young Suk, handling team activities, doing solo workouts, and still practicing his finishing with Hyung-nim late at night. The trainer seriously warns him about the risk of total burnout. He tells him to slow down and manage that intense exercise load. Eugen agrees, but quickly asks what the commander is even doing out here at the market. Young-won brings up an old conversation they previously shared regarding the athlete's professional future. He reveals that the Liverpool scout officially approached him earlier today, asking for deep background information. It makes perfect sense. Scouts usually speak directly to the coach because it is the absolute fastest way to evaluate new prospects. Getting straight to the point, the coach confesses he does not want to see the youngster join Liverpool. Yoo-jun instantly understands the exact reason why. The huge star of that English club is Steven Gerrard. He is a complete legend with perfect attributes, playing in his exact same position. And he still has many years left in his career, which guarantees sitting on the bench. The coach was clearly worried. Eugen is completely honest here. Liverpool is a fantastic opportunity, but given the current situation, it would take absolutely forever to actually earn a starting spot. Switching positions entirely might even be necessary. Asked if he has another club in mind, Eugen thinks it over. A very specific setup is what he needs. A team just like Manchester, currently flying under the radar. But in the future, total explosion. A perfect place to learn from a solid squad. Saying he is from the future is obviously out of the question. Right then, Coach Jung-won drops a major bombshell. Paris Saint-Germain has also reached out. Eugen knows the French club is still pretty weak in this specific timeline. But give it a few years, massive investments will turn them into absolute giants. This is a huge opportunity. Excusing himself, he literally sprints back to his room. He makes it crystal clear to the coach just how much he loves this idea. Running back, Eugen does the math. Paris Saint-Germain will become a powerhouse, sure, but their real peak hits a year or two after Manchester. Since time is absolute gold for him, France is not the final answer. Still, he cannot just let a chance like this slip away. Meanwhile, his agent Ji-ho is desperately counting down the minutes. She just wants a peaceful lunch. The exact second she opens her lunchbox, her phone starts ringing. So much for getting any rest. It is Eugen, casually asking about Paris Saint-Germain. Completely caught off guard, Ji-ho demands to know how he found out. She explains that several clubs have called, but she was planning to give him the official report tomorrow. Eugen admits his coach spilled the secret. Then he gets straight to the point. Did the French side send a formal proposal? Not yet, Ji-ho says, but they are showing way more interest than Liverpool, and they promise an update very soon. Immediate contracts are rare. However, they could absolutely push for a provisional agreement right now. Seizing the moment, Yujin makes a massive demand. He wants a guaranteed playing time clause. Jiho actually feels pretty proud of his firm stance. She agrees to pass the bold demand along. The kid knows this kind of clause is incredibly valuable. Clubs almost never accept it, usually reserving it only for rare, proven football gems. But since Paris Saint-Germain is a top-flight club just like Manchester, it is definitely worth a shot. If the French agree, he can demand the exact same deal from the English later. Now, just train hard at home and wait for the call. Over at the Paris Saint-Germain headquarters, executives are already talking. And honestly, they find this kid's pure confidence incredibly interesting. Fast forward to match day at Namji Stadium. The Korean squad desperately tries to block the relentless Argentina advance. Yujin watches from the stands with Moon and Jungsik. Korea has already securely locked up their spot in the round of 16. They fielded the reserve team to give the starters a break. The big problem? The reserves are playing absolutely terribly. 3-0 for Argentina, still the first half. It is honestly just embarrassing to watch. The biggest flaw sits right in the creative midfield with Juchin. He is talented, sure, but he completely fails at reading spaces or distributing the ball. That alone causes the entire formation to collapse. Watching from the outside, Yujin realizes just how much his absence hurts the team. He silently promises to push himself even harder in training, and that is despite already running on his absolute final fumes of exhaustion. 4-0. Brutal. But thankfully, the Korean qualification is already totally locked in. Coach Jungwon gathers everyone to celebrate topping their group, then he drops the heavy news their round of 16 opponent is going to be England. The difficult bracket leaves the whole locker room incredibly tense. Yujin knows the English practically invented this sport. Their fundamentals are terrifyingly good. Scanning the roster, he immediately looks for Harry Kane, the very guy who dominated the global football scene until Yujin died in his past life. Surprisingly, he is not even on the roster yet, but even missing their future star, England remains incredibly strong. Then Yujin spots a specific player on their squad. Suddenly, he gets a feeling they actually have a real shot to win. Later that night, Yujin goes back to practicing curveballs. The veteran Human casually mentions his shot has improved a tiny bit. This sudden praise catches Yujin totally off guard. He actually asks if his teammate is feeling sick. Human groans loudly. He calls Yujin an absolute brat for complaining right after getting a rare compliment. But he quickly points out Yujin still has a long way to go. The ball is just not curving nearly enough yet. Yujin is simply not putting enough raw power into his ankle. Human orders him to repeat the exact same motion. Talking back, Yujin insists he is using plenty of power. He tries again, but Human just keeps aggressively criticizing his form. Trying again, he kicks once, twice, over and over under his teammates yelling. Eventually, the kid is just flat on his back on the ground, completely exhausted. Training this seriously is pure hell, he admits. Still, he really admires how Hungmin looks like an absolute monster executing that technique. Completely dead for the day, he finally taps out. Before wrapping up, Yujin warns that he has something. He makes sure to warn him about the massive upcoming game against England. On match day, the stadium commentator hypes up the crowd, shouting that the moment is finally here, and everyone is tuned in for the ultimate decider. This clash decides who punches a ticket to the quarterfinals, giving off pure knockout energy. Yujin absolutely knows this match carries way more weight than the rest. With the Premier League sitting as the absolute peak of English football, those heavy hitter clubs are definitely sending out their scouts today. They want a front row seat for top-tier talent, and the young Korean has to win these guys over. Up in the stands, a scout named Dean speaks up, placing his bets on an English win today. His buddy Mark fires back with total irony, reminding him he was just begging to sign Yujin from Korea, yet here he is backing the English squad. Dean defends himself, pointing out that this match is not going to be a walk in the park for the kid, especially since he is going head-to-head with number 35, the absolute menace known as Bogart. The whistle blows. England struggles to link passes, but Bogart? He instantly throws his weight around on defense. Number 35 throws out a lightning-fast feint to shake off the defense. That leaves Jerry Bogart wide open for the setup. Yujin rushes in to intercept the play and shut down that passing lane completely, but he actually bites hard on another one of Bogart's tricky fakes. The pass connects flawlessly, keeping England right in the driver's seat. Yujin already knows all about Jerry Bogart and his massive reputation. He is fully aware of that insane off-ball movement and ankle strength, fueling those dangerous mid-range strikes and rapid dribbles. But this rival's true weapon is his wide field of vision and lightning-fast one-touch passes. The ball flies way out of Yujin's reach again, landing right at Oliver's feet, who unleashes a mid-range cannon that absolutely rattles the crossbar. Seeing the ball constantly jam up against their defensive block, Yujin realizes he has to shatter that wall straight through the midfield. Flashing back to Korea's bitter loss against Argentina, he charges forward, putting the entire burden squarely on his own shoulders. He visualizes that first red zone, ducking right past a sliding tackle. Even trapped on multiple sides, he breaks loose. He buys enough precious time to pass to Jung-woo, sparking Korea's fast break. Up in the stands, a rookie scout with a laptop complains to his partner. He claims that no matter how you look at this, you know the type, he says, the skill gap is too huge. South Korea lacks decent players, so the match is basically already decided. He suggests they just treat this like a paid vacation. He asks the veteran Gary if they should honestly just go watch the game from the VIP lounge. Gary turns to ask exactly how long this young guy has worked at the club. Hearing it has only been 6 short months, the veteran drops a heavy piece of advice. He explains that sure, talent always shows up in the basic statistics, but the real game changers, the ones who alter the future, only emerge through the sweat, the screams, the burning air, and shaking eyes when forced to face a crossroads. You will never see that from behind the clean glass of some VIP lounge. He finishes by saying whoever catches those fine details becomes a top-tier scout. That man is Gary Eakes, the academy director for Manchester United. Meanwhile, back down on the pitch, Yujin and striker Heung-min lock eyes. It is time to execute the master plan they stayed up drafting the night before. Back then, our midfielder handed over a tactical sheet. He told his teammate to sprint right behind a specific defender the exact second he got the signal. The striker confidently agreed. But right now, Heung-min is genuinely struggling to shake off Harry Maguire. The massive center-back is guarding him like a completely untiring brick wall. That is when Jung-suk manages to slip the ball over to Yujin. He instantly signals for Heung-min to push up. The striker bolts forward. Even with that massive defender breathing right down his neck, he manages to carve out a tiny pocket of space. Watch this. Coming from 2023, Yujin knows Harry Maguire's fatal weakness all too well. It is that massive space he always leaves behind him, plus his slow pace. Yujin's pass is absolutely flawless, perfectly tailor-made for Heung-min, who strikes it on the first touch. The ball barely grazes the keeper's fingers before forcefully shaking the net, cracking the scoreboard open for Korea at 1-0. During the wild celebration, the striker praises his teammates' crazy precision, realizing Yujin knew exactly how that big defender would react. Up in the stands, the rookie scout with the laptop is left totally speechless by that sudden Korean goal, straight against England. His boss Gary agrees that Heung-min is highly skilled, but points out something else. Yujin's setup pass was direct, deadly, and delivered with crazy coldness for a rookie. It was almost like he already knew the goal was guaranteed. Completely resolute, Gary pulls out his phone. He needs to report what he just witnessed straight to the legendary manager, Alex Ferguson. In that exact moment, every single scout in the stadium has their eyes glued to the young Korean finally seeing his true value. They had to secure this victory at all costs. The clock already hits 87 minutes in the Under-17 World Cup, a massive tournament known as the Olympics of Prospects. The entire world is watching this match. One good game here completely changes a young athlete's life, so nobody gives an inch, especially England. As the historic cradle of football, they carry serious weight. Losing is just not an option for them. Conceding a goal would totally shatter their pride. The English attack pushes back sharper, faster, way more aggressive. Harry manages to force Korea's defensive line back. The opponents are advancing in heavy waves right now. Yujin gets genuinely concerned. He knows if they lose control of the midfield, the penalty area is completely doomed. He tries absolutely everything to halt that push, famous for his insane stamina. Yujin manages to track the fierce English attack. He yells out, demanding the defensive line block the play right now. Center back Min-seok feels instantly motivated by that command. He jumps into action, quickly directing Heung-min. He tells him not to drift wide to the wings. Instead, he needs to completely lock down the center. Now at 92 minutes of play deep into injury time, Yujin feels his heart practically bursting from pure exhaustion. He remembers his past life. Even back then, the Korean team made it straight to the quarterfinals. So crashing out in the round of 16 right now, it would be a massive embarrassment, especially with him actually on the pitch. Deeply focused, he holds his ground. He is absolutely certain they can secure this spot. The official commentator reacts, noting Yujin receives the ball looking completely out of breath. This instantly prompts the English defenders to push their defensive line way up, trying to press the exhausted kid. This moment right here is intense. Under massive pressure, with thousands of eyes glued to him, the young star shows pure class. He perfectly shields that ball until regulation time finally runs out. Game over. The final whistle cements a heroic 1-0 victory for South Korea over mighty England. Right as the match ends, his teammate Jung-woo sprints over to him. He desperately asks how long Yujin just held that ball by himself. Moon replies in total awe it was almost an entire minute. Minshir quickly adds that Yujin is just absolutely insane, but Yujin asks them to save all those compliments for later. Right now, the only thing he desperately wants is some rest. Before hitting the locker room, the whole team goes wild. They loudly celebrate this historic victory, successfully dethroning the literal cradle of football. This massive feat is guaranteed front-page news tomorrow. Up in the stands, KBC network reporter Jung-seo looks down with pure pride. He thinks to himself his gut instincts about this boy were completely right. Yujin just proved he could topple mighty England. He genuinely has everything needed to become Korean football's next big hope. Down below, Yujin himself can barely believe this crazy result. He runs the numbers in his head. They're only 3 solid victories away from becoming the grand Under-17 World Cup champions. Later, back at the hotel room, he feels absolutely shattered. He pushed his body way past its limit today. Every single muscle aches heavily from pure physical exhaustion. Right in that quiet moment, his agent Jiho calls him up with some major updates. She tells him Paris Saint-Germain sent over an official proposal. They even partially accepted his guaranteed playing time clause. The agreement clearly states that once he turns 18, the French club mandates his participation in at least 5 official matches, a minimum of 30 minutes per game. Eugene evaluates this specific deal as highly favorable. He figures the specific age restriction is mostly because his young body is still going through a major growth phase. He considers using this exact framework to heavily negotiate with other rival teams. Jiho also mentions his incredible performance is trending across the entire country. Numerous articles are praising his display. Eugene casually replies the actual scoreline was pretty narrow, just 1-0. But his agent shoots that down. She says his crazy ball control at the end left a massive impression on all the fans. She openly confesses that even she felt completely captivated watching that live broadcast. He thanks her for the awesome news and hangs up the phone. Honestly, being right in the spotlight feels unbelievably good. Fans are a player's ultimate fuel. In this brutal industry, fame translates straight into serious money, which basically means securing absolutely everything. To him, this whole situation is an excellent, unexpected windfall. If fame is the steep price to pay, he will gladly accept it. But watch how fast things turn. He quickly experiences the annoying downside of newfound success. While leaving the hotel for a quick bite, some unknown guy with an ID badge abruptly grabs him and pulls him aside. The team's security guard steps in fast. He barks at the intruder to leave immediately, citing zero clearance. While getting dragged away, the man desperately begs for just 5 minutes to ask a few quick questions. Eugene just watches, quietly reflecting. These strange people are already trying to take advantage of his hype. He decides he must be way firmer going forward. His privacy protected from then on. Sitting in the restaurant, Eugene eats, feeling a little down. It wasn't exactly his mother's cooking he missed, but her presence, especially since these local dishes are absolutely terrible. Out of nowhere, an older gentleman approaches his table. He asks for a chat, claiming the coach actually gave him permission to come inside. Highly suspicious, the player tells this guy to stop lying. Otherwise, he calls security. Caught totally off guard, the man asks if he would seriously call the guards on someone like him. A few minutes later, venue security returns. They confirm the old man's access pass is completely official and totally legitimate. Dying of pure embarrassment, Eugene apologizes profusely. He explains he never imagined someone of such immense importance would actually seek him out in person. Accepting the apology, the visitor notes that a promising young athlete absolutely needs to protect himself. The young player knows the truth. He absolutely must stay cautious. After all, the Manchester United of 2009 is a legendary squad completely packed with superstars. They are still commanded by the historic manager Alex Ferguson. The visitor then formally introduces himself as Gary Eakes. He is the academy director for Manchester United. Eugene introduces himself too, before the director gets straight to business. Praising the boy's incredible skills, he offers an immediate 5-year contract with a base salary around €4,000 per week. They also promise an annual meeting just to renegotiate those figures. The boy mentally calculates that money. Back then, €4,000 meant about 20 million won monthly. You can see how badly the English side wants him. Playing for Manchester United would be absolutely perfect for his professional growth. There is zero reason to refuse, but there is one crucial catch here. The man sitting across from him directs the academy. Eugene asks exactly where his club trajectory would begin. Gary explains the current plan is to integrate him right into the under-18 team. He can move straight up to the under-20s or the reserve squad if he delivers truly strong performances. This confirms the protagonist's suspicion. He still has a massive way to go before ever making a real professional debut. He understands the heavy demands of a giant club, but he has zero intention of just passively accepting these terms. Responding firmly, he clearly states he refuses to be limited to the youth level. Instead, He demands a fully guaranteed opportunity on the first team. Gary pours some coffee at the table, smiling. He says he absolutely loves the sheer audacity of a rookie negotiating like this. Honestly, the more he talks to the kid, the more he likes him. The director stops him. Their current conversation has to end here. Guaranteed playing time requires consent from the first team manager, and convincing Alex Ferguson will definitely take some time. Saying goodbye, he promises to reach out through the player's agency. Eugen politely thanks the man for this massive opportunity. The midfielder thinks about how totally exhilarating it feels. Getting offers from major scouts after every single match is wild. He feels incredibly hyped for the upcoming quarterfinal challenge against Spain. He is completely determined to shine and secure a victory. Spain is home to powerhouses like Barcelona and Real Madrid, a nation competing right at the apex of world football. They rival the English Premier League directly. To any sports lover in the year 2009, the Spanish national team represents one single phrase: tiki-taka. The match begins. Right away, they put their famous tactic into practice with absolute mastery. Midfielder Alejandro Sierra commands the technique perfectly. He receives short passes, advancing quickly. He precisely distributes the ball to his next teammate. Using this mesmerizing style, Spain dominates possession, completely preventing Korea from playing. They naturally build offensive moves, hunting for a goal. Their perfectly integrated tactic bridges attack and defense. Left winger Jose Barala attempts a deep cross, but Eugen intercepts the ball yet again, leaving his opponent completely irritated. The reason is simple. Eugen knows tiki-taka's biggest weakness. The Korean national team builds a literal defensive wall around whoever holds the ball. They bank on an ultra-defensive brand of football to heavily counter the Spanish style. Facing a well-structured defense like this, tiki-taka becomes an endless passing loop right up until the team gets caught in a vicious counterattack. Eugen knows this because he literally comes from the future. Back in 2009, absolutely nobody had a single clue that things work this way. He fully intends to keep that secret to himself. Watching from the bench, Spain's coach Ricardo Soler notes how completely overwhelming this defense is. The coach genuinely wonders if this kid truly knows the weak points of his system. In reality, Eugen himself feels curious about the final outcome. This kind of heavy defensive football is exactly what theoretically weaker teams use against stronger opponents, and Coach Yongwoo simply chose this option out of pure necessity. He stayed cautious, not necessarily knowing the rival's weak spot, but right in that quick moment of distraction, Ferran Lopez manages to push forward. He drags 3 Korean defenders with him and unleashes a thunderous strike. Luckily, the ball just rattles the crossbar and bounces out. Eugen takes a deep breath. No matter how this plays out, at the end of the day, these are just 15 to 17-year-old kids on the pitch. You cannot exactly call this a top-tier defense, but the same definitely goes for Spain's tiki-taka. The second half kicks off at a 0-0 deadlock. Things barely change out there, with the Korean wall still completely shutting down the Spanish game. The Korean goalkeeper screams relentlessly, telling the defense to completely blind the opposing striker's view. That striker still gets a quick shot off, but Seung-min pulls another massive save. But thinking things will just stay under control is a huge mistake. The situation soon begins to fall apart. Yuju notices his team is doing absolutely nothing but defending, and the boys are clearly starting to run out of gas. It is the absolute perfect storm for mistakes to happen. One single blunder in the defensive third, and that turns into a goal instantly. Even playing as an amateur, Yuju knows he needs a solution fast, and he remembers an ace up his sleeve. He can definitely play. With Korea completely pinned back in their own defensive zone, 0 attacking opportunities open up. He cannot even see the golden zone from here. Scoring is just a pipe dream. Even his decisive passes are getting completely cut off, leaving them nothing to do but blindly pass, defend, and control tempo. That is exactly when Eugen remembers the Spain squad that dominated the world from 2008 to 2012. They only had one single enemy who actually managed to go toe-to-toe with them, a guy in his absolute prime, who distributed insane passes while pulling the strings from the deep back. The absolute greatest deep-lying playmaker of all time, Andrea Pirlo. Right there in this match, Eugen decides he is completely ready to mimic the Italian maestro's legendary style. While the match stays completely tied, Korea is showing absurd signs of fatigue from defending all day. In the middle of a short pass, intended for Jung-suk, a teammate's foot completely locks up from sheer exhaustion. Spain instantly intercepts the ball. Capitalizing hard on their rivals' tired legs, Spain pushes their attacking line way up, flooding the entire midfield with bodies. It makes short passing nearly impossible. Meanwhile, up in the VIP boxes, the scout Dean, already nursing his 5th bottle of wine, casually comments that the Korean movements have slowed down significantly. Mark totally agrees, saying their stamina drained way faster than usual because they spent the entire half strictly defending. Down in the stands, Gary adds that meanwhile, Spain is moving the ball at a much faster tempo. They are using a very clear strategy, just wait for the opponent to collapse. Watching everything so intently, Paris Saint-Germain chief scout Golgo Skia notices that Eugen's position seems a lot deeper than usual. He is seriously intrigued by what this kid is plotting. The Koreans immediately set up a pyramid-shaped defensive line. Eugen positions himself right at the bottom apex. He draws inspiration once again from Andrea Pirlo, the most perfectly elegant playmaker in history. Pirlo did not just look at the opponent right in front of him, but at the absolute furthest point on the pitch, commanding the game from the deepest area with passes that genuinely seem like miracles. Like a true regista, if all the short passes get blocked, the only solution is sending the ball way out of the tiki-taka pressure zone. Without even glancing at his direct opponent, Eugen searches for space behind the defensive line. He aims straight for Hyung Nim. The striker, Hyung Nim, is suffering under incredibly heavy marking. He is already completely discouraged, thinking the ball will never actually reach him. He has only received 2 passes this entire game. Honestly, that is the absolute cruelest situation for any forward total isolation. He runs and stops restlessly, desperately trying to shake off his marker. But Spain's shadow marking just completely neutralizes him every time. His morale is totally in the dirt. He knows he will never score if the ball never actually arrives, and he starts thinking this is really Korea's final limit. But right then, Hyung Nim suddenly catches Eugen's eye. Watch this crazy moment. Eugen has that intense focus, spotting something nobody else sees. Way up front, he finally finds the golden zone. Nobody else on the pitch knows what Eugen is planning, but the second their eyes meet, Hyung Nim just feels the ball coming, and he bolts straight toward the Spanish penalty area. The defenders panic hard when they see that ball cross the entire midfield, landing perfectly for Hyung Nim. The defense panics. Even with a guy draped all over him, Hyung Nim firmly strikes the ball, burying it right into the back of the net. He celebrates like never before in his entire life. All around the pitch, everyone comments on how completely insane that shot was. Eugen jogs over joking, asking if his teammate actually read his movement for that clever run, admitting that even he had not expected a finish like that. Hyung Nim is completely speechless, and when Eugen asks him if he just froze up, the striker confesses with actual tears in his eyes that he had already halfway given up on this match. He thanks Eugen immensely for the pass. Eugen finally realizes how much pressure this boy was under. After all, no matter how he moved, the chance just wouldn't come. And honestly, considering Hyun Nim is barely 17 in age where your mental state is still all over the place, he actually looks pretty cute compared to his adult self. To break the tension, Eugen starts yelling out to the entire team that Hyung Nim is crying. He totally mocks him, even waving the reporters over to snap pictures. The striker practically charges at him in response, wielding a training cone like a weapon. Right after Korea scores, Spain shifts into a wildly ferocious press. But with the Korean defense entirely locked down in a 5-4-1 formation, they just keep clearing the danger, successfully running down the clock. Even through a grueling 7 minutes of stoppage time, Korea holds tight to that 1-0 victory. Watching the match, Dudu points out how much the Koreans have leveled up. But Brazil has grown too since the Sendai Cup, and it would be incredibly satisfying to face them in the semifinals for some sweet revenge, since these two squads are clashing in the next round. Now, with qualification locked in, things get crazy behind the scenes. First up, the national team gets a super bureaucratic message of encouragement from the Football Association. They praise this absolute best result in Korea's under-17 World Cup history. But Eugen only has one thought. Instead of a cheap boilerplate text, they should have just sent cash. Shortly after, team security gets a massive boost as crowds swell, and the sheer number of reporters chasing them is bound to skyrocket, bringing a real risk of more crazy pitch invasions. Finally, Agent Jiho has to rush straight to Nigeria. Manchester United just made direct contact regarding Eugene. Over the phone, she actually apologizes to him, explaining that she was hired specifically to handle these exact situations, and she is completely pausing her work in Korea to resolve this right now. Eugen just smiles at that, thinking how incredibly decisive and professional Jiho is. This proves that up to this very moment, everything is going perfectly. The only problem? Even before his agent can arrive, a whole different club reaches out. A representative from Manchester City schedules an in-person meeting, introducing himself as Ali Abdurrahman. He is a direct assistant to the club owner, Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed bin Sultan. Eugen decides to just call him Ali. Eugen immediately remembers that at this point in time, Mansour already owns City. Before diving into formal negotiations, Ali mentions he wants to ask a quick question. He heard some wild rumors that the kid recently spoke with Manchester United. Eugen admits he did, but confirms no contract was signed. Hearing this, the assistant lets out a huge sigh of relief. He calls it excellent news, since that means they will not have to pay out any hefty release clause. Just look at his face. Are their Manchester rivals really that insanely rich? Rich enough to drop a massive buyout fee without even blinking if he had signed with United. Now, all business, Ali starts presenting the proposals. And Eugen gets a literal shiver down his spine facing the sheer power of this empire. Sheikh Mansour is a world-famous oil tycoon. Early on, City fans actually hated him, dealing with terrible press on a daily basis. Reporters constantly mocked the club as some young billionaire's toy. But the reality, back in 2023, right when Eugen was dying in his past life, was totally different. Nobody really hated the owner anymore. They respected him as a true leader, taking incredible care of the club. Back then, Eugen never understood why. But now, seeing Ali casually offer cars and luxury penthouses, meals from Michelin-starred chefs, 24-hour medical staff, and the absolute best legal team in the United Kingdom, he is practically drooling, finally understanding the situation perfectly. The assistant then casually adds that these benefits are standard for any player on the squad. Seeing this kind of heavy investment, Eugen figures it is impossible for anyone to hate a guy like that. He wants to sign right on the spot, but he knows there is one crucial detail left. He points out that the money and perks are great, but he absolutely requires a clause guaranteeing actual playing time on the field. Ali quickly replies that they can guarantee it, since he totally deserves it as a player. But there are definite conditions. First up, he needs to pull off unquestionable results during this current tournament tour. Second, the moment he arrives in England, he has to completely bulk up using physical trainers handpicked by the club. Eugene asks if he is totally serious, and right as he is about to sign, his hand feels completely possessed. He totally freezes. He suddenly sees right through the play. Demanding tournament results is just a tactic to ease club pressure, and guaranteeing playtime solely on merit completely shifts his bargaining power. Walking in with guaranteed minutes as an unknown prospect is way different than arriving as an under-17 champion or MVP. Plus, that requirement to bulk up with their trainers is not some punishment. It is a strictly necessary process. Build the baseline physique required to survive the Premier League. The proposal looks entirely perfect, but he knows he needed to talk things over with Jiho first, so he replied he would calmly review it with his agent before giving a final answer. Ali agreed, shook his hand warmly, and promised to wait for their response. Later at the hotel, striker Hyung Min waited for Eugen, holding 2 soda cans and chatting with his dad. He thought about how, both here and at the Sunday Cup, Eugen was always the one saving the team. He quietly admitted he would have completely lost it in that last match without his friend. The thought set off a massive alarm in his head. He realized he had to step up, reach the global stage relying solely on his own strength. He promised to focus on heavy training the very next morning. When Jiho finally arrived to meet Eugen, she fully admitted the Manchester City offer was spectacular, good enough to sign immediately. Excited, he asked what was holding them back. The agent completely stunned him. They were rejecting the offer. He demanded a reason, especially since the club guaranteed playing time alongside a massive salary and bonuses. Jiho confessed the one thing bothering her was the owner, himself Mansour. She seriously wondered how long a tycoon like that would care about him. Eugene totally got her doubt, knowing everyone back then distrusted the billionaire. They all thought football was just a temporary toy for him. But get this, he knew the future. He knew Mansour would love Manchester City forever, investing relentlessly for 15 straight years and turning the club into a massive global powerhouse. He asked if there was any other issue, and the agent said no. Eugen boldly declared they should make Manchester City their absolute top priority. Jiho hesitated. This was not a simple decision. She asked if he was sure. He just told her to trust him, swearing the owner would never abandon the club. He saw his agent still looked unsatisfied, but unable to reveal he came from the future. He completely changed the subject, saying he was heading to training. Before leaving, Jiho handed him documents listing every single club that made contact over the last 2 days. Since it was too much to review individually, Eugen just asked her to check which ones guaranteed playing time, and to let him know. But right then, he felt a genuinely weird energy radiating straight from Jiho, a bad gut feeling something was hidden in those papers. Back at the National Training Center, Eugen locked his focus on one goal, proving to Manchester City he truly deserved that requested playing time. The results needed to show. He had to win the Under-17 World Cup MVP award, the only thing that mattered to him here. Korea simply had to reach the grand final. The semi-final match against Brazil, however, did not start the way he expected. The opening minutes were brutally difficult. Eugen felt the heavy, crushing weight of his accumulated fatigue. In a sudden sprint, he completely lost his mark on Ezekiel, who quickly passed to Dudu. The Brazilian forward pushed toward the Korean defensive channel, leaving center-back Min Seong frozen, unsure which way Dudu would cut. Then, surprising everyone, Dudu executed a gorgeous flick over both defenders. Yujin never expected such a genius move, leaving goalkeeper Seung-min desperately praying for a miracle, but the ball sailed straight into the net, making it 1-0 for Brazil. Feeling the physical toll, Yujin had to admit the Brazilian rhythm and chemistry were completely sinister. They had evolved drastically since the Sendai Cup. Dudu stood out as the most absurd player in the entire tournament, playing at a level sure to win the MVP award if they kept up. Despite the blow, the Korean midfielder took a deep breath. Panicking wouldn't solve a single thing. He just needed to focus on playing his best. By the 8-minute mark of the second half, fighting for a final spot, the tension between the two teams hit its absolute limit. With so little time left, Yujin knew he had to spark the one play that would change the entire match. Even tightly marked, he managed to receive a pass and knew that this drive was his one real chance. So watch closely. Showing immense courage, he charged straight into the Brazilian defensive wall. He dodged defenders, calculating every single movement as he clearly envisioned the red zones on the pitch. Anyone watching could see Yujin had evolved phenomenally. Since the Sendai Cup, he seemed like a different player, far more stable and secure in his skills. Mentally focused, the midfielder smiled to himself. He finally reached the level he wanted, whipping a perfect cross right into the golden zone. Moon Jong-won seized the chance, rose firmly, and fired it straight into the net, tying the match 1-1. With 35 minutes left from that moment on, the game would turn into an absolute war to see who actually had more gas left in the tank before the final whistle. The Brazilian forward, Dudu, was absolutely livid about that equalizer, but his rage just pushed him even harder to hunt down the win. By the 76th minute, the score stayed deadlocked, and Brazil's pressure felt completely suffocating. Their whole squad essentially set up camp in the Korean half, showing zero signs of backing off. Yujin knew the harsh reality: if he stayed pinned down on defense, nobody would be left to run the midfield, meaning they just couldn't sit back and survive. But man, the exhaustion hit hard. Just trying to keep a leash on Dudu left him gasping for air. Catching onto his rival's heavy breathing, Dudu totally mocked him, telling him to drop the defense and attack, since another kid was covering him now. Yujin fired right back. He definitely wasn't falling for that cheap trash talk. Yet he still lost focus for a split second, which gave the Brazilian enough space to receive the ball totally wide open. Annoyed at his own mistake, the Korean player realized Brazilians were most dangerous, right when they started talking. Meanwhile, Dudu just laughed off the whole thing, shouting that he didn't trust anyone on this pitch anyway, before sliding a pass to Ezekiel. Korea's backline held a clear numbers advantage, so there was no real panic. But Ezekiel yelled out they would need way more than bodies to stop him from his favorite shooting distance. The striker's massive shot clipped a defender's leg, looping high toward the net. Luckily, Seung-min stayed sharp and managed to grab the ball on a second try. Yujin watched the entire sequence, honestly surprised that Ezekiel's shot lacked the heavy firepower he had back at the Sendai Cup. They resumed with a massive long kick for Korea, and Jung-suk won the aerial battle first. He headed the ball straight down to Yoo-jun, who desperately wanted to dominate midfield again. The midfielder planned to slash straight through the Brazilian defense, just like he did a few plays ago. But then he saw it. The red zone vanished, that usual color flashing when an opponent brings direct hostility. Without that signal, if the Brazilians refused to rush him blindly, predicting their next moves became impossible. He realized they finally found the proper way to shut him down, trapping him inside composed, highly calculated defensive lanes. Refusing to just stand around waiting to get tackled, Yoo-jun planted his boots and killed the play right center pitch. Check this out. The commentators and Brazilian players were entirely confused, screaming for the kid to just move forward. Inside his own head, Yoo-jun calculated everything. If his pivot foot shook even slightly at impact, the shot would die. So he hammered his cleats deep into the grass. The whole stadium noticed his stance change, stunned by how completely unshakable he looked. Up ahead, Hyungnam watched with wide, glowing eyes, desperate to witness his teammates' evolution, firing from right there on the halfway line in a perfect arc. The ball smashed straight into the net, sealing an absolute hero's comeback. He had pictured this exact moment endlessly. He even practiced what crazy celebration he would do after scoring in a massive official tournament like the World Cup. But with pure adrenaline flooding his veins, he forgot all of it, unleashing a raw, primal roar straight from the soul. Hyungnam sprinted over to grab him, laughing that the goal was neat, but the kid still couldn't touch his elite level. Yoo-jun cracked a smile, claiming he only scored thanks to his buddy tossing in a quick joke about him being a candy addict, flexing that this finally settled who the better player was. That sweet nickname sent Hyungnam chasing him across the grass for payback. Up in the VIP box, Deem slammed another bottle of wine, asking if that was real or if he was just drunk. Totally stunned, because the kid never once tried shooting from that insane distance before, clearly hiding a major trump card. Over on the side, Mark broke down the play coldly, realizing his finishing stats were real and he was simply evolving too fast, which made it completely impossible to guess his final ceiling before this tournament ended. Brazil threw every single body forward for the remaining minutes, running on pure, desperate survival mode. But Yujin rallied his squad, yelling to just lock down and bleed the clock. For 5 long minutes of stoppage time, the Brazilian team attacked relentlessly, flashing incredible grit to keep their tournament hopes alive. But nothing worked. The referee blew the final whistle, locking in a 2-1 Korean victory, securing their grand final spot. Post-game, Dudu walked over to Yujin, but surprisingly, not to talk trash. The serious forward just stared and asked if the midfielder would like. Dudu actually invites him to link up at Barcelona later on, explaining he is currently stationed at Santos. He plans to join the Spanish squad in a year or two, and together, they could absolutely maximize every single one of Yujin's passes. Yujin finds this whole pitch pretty funny. The Brazilian forward just got here, and he already wants to claim dibs on his assists. He figures unless the Barcelona board sends a formal offer, there is no need to jump the gun. Keeping things open, he just laughs it off and pats Dudu right on the back. He casually mentions that if they do ever team up, he will definitely feed him the ball as long as the forward finishes the job. Dudu completely agrees. Since he still has time left over at Santos, he promises to think the whole thing over calmly. This definitely leaves Yujin intrigued. Is his rival actually crazy enough to put a giant like Barcelona on hold? It hits him right then. The more his skills evolve, the harder these massive European clubs will start calling. Saying goodbye to the star, he makes a quiet promise to himself pretty soon that absolute elite tier will be chasing him. Later on inside his dorm room, the midfielder grabs a tiny notebook to jot down his tactical review. He logs a crucial detail. That golden light flashes more than 10 times per match on average. And honestly, if his passing had been just a bit sharper, he easily could have bagged 3 or 4 extra assists out there. He maps out the weekly grind Monday for pure finishing fundamentals, Tuesday for tight control. He is desperate to upgrade another core attribute. Passing triggers the golden zone, tackling reveals the red zone. That basically just leaves his finishing. Even though banking on a special zone just for shooting might be pushing his luck entirely. Right on cue, Agent Jiho bursts through the door. She says they have to discuss something urgent immediately. Yujin asks if it is about the deals. She nods, dropping the news. Manchester United sent feedback, and City sent a provisional contract. But as she hands over the paperwork, Yujin actually gasps. The documents are completely pitch black. He asks if she printed them on colored paper as a joke. Jiho just gives him a weird look, insisting the pages are entirely white. It clicks instantly. This is a brand new system color that only he can see, even though he has zero clue what it actually means yet. Snapping back to reality, his agent delivers the blow. Manchester United rejected their terms. They absolutely refused to guarantee his playing time on paper. This instantly makes Yujin demand the real reason behind the Red Devils backing out. Jiho breaks it down completely. His passing is perfect, but United sees a massive red flag regarding his actual goal-scoring ability. Because modern football is all about the attacking midfielder now, that crucial pivot linking the center of the pitch directly to the strikers. A forward-pushing player with a real killer instinct. Since Yujin only bagged a single goal in 6 games, United passing on him makes sense. On the flip side, the offer from Manchester City looks completely different. The paper is literally glowing in a soft, light gray color. Curious about this one, he asks for details. Jiho explains City is willing to guarantee 3 full matches and 45 minutes of playtime, right at the season opener. Since it is just a provisional deal, those minutes could easily scale up later. Now check this out. When she asks how to handle United, he tells her to leave them hanging until the Under-17 World Cup ends, because absolutely anything could change by then. Jiho apologizes for crashing his room so late and finally heads out. Sitting alone, he stares at the documents. That deep black hue truly solidifies in his vision. The terrible United contract pulses with that dark void. Meanwhile, the City deal with guaranteed minutes shines in a safe gray. He figures red would make more sense for danger, but he knows the only real way to decode this system is to get back on the pitch. The strange system colors bleeding into his real life are now showing up during actual gameplay. He is incredibly hyped to test this black light out, but during morning practice, Moon is completely blowing off the drills. He just bulldozes right through everyone like an absolute idiot. The assistant coach immediately starts screaming at him to actually focus. Meanwhile, Yujin feels totally normal. He starts wondering if the new ability just has not fully activated yet. Then Moon calls for the very first pass. Instantly, Yujin spots a glowing golden zone, realizing his teammate is finally finding far better positions today. He is ready to shoot from there. But behind the goal, Yoojun spots a heavy black cloud near the keeper. It clearly marks the toughest spots to score. Meanwhile, the light gray zones look far easier. Locking onto his target, he fires the ball straight at the net, a perfect copy of his signature move against Brazil. Everyone watching thinks he leveled up. But no, the ball goes totally wide, flying way up into the sky. Coach Youngwon immediately yells out to cancel that drill for good. Hyung Nim just bursts out laughing. Yoojun watched it fly, realizing he totally overcooked that curve. The keeper was completely frozen, and right then, it clicked. Those black zones he was seeing meant pure risk. This changed everything. He could actually play as an attacking midfielder now. The national squad wrapped up their practice session. He finally cracked the code. The darker the zone, the higher the chances his shot would get blocked. Lighter gray meant an open path to the net. Master this, and he'd have an absolute cheat code. Right after that, the coach called it a day. Tomorrow was the grand final time to rest up. The locker room mood was heavy with dread. Their final boss? The powerhouse squad of Argentina. A golden generation fielding an absolute nightmare offense, spearheaded by Paulo Dybala and Mauro Icardi. Youngwon told them all to sleep, but come on, what high school kid is actually sleeping before a game this massive? It was going to be a long night. Moon stood out on the balcony, completely miserable and sighing heavily. Yoojun walked up with coffee, teasing him, saying those heavy sighs were echoing all the way down the hall. Moon tried to play it cool, but failed. He confessed the anxiety was just chewing him up inside. Losing felt like the end of the world, but Yoojun shot that down, making this final was already historic. The best run in national history. Moon shot back. Unlike Yoojun, he had nothing to show for it. 0 clubs were calling his phone. Seeing his panic, Yoojun knew that playing with this fear would tank a totally winnable match. It would guarantee a loss. He called Moon an idiot outright. Nobody in this world cares about second place. He challenged him to name the runner-up of the 2006 World Cup. Moon recalled it was France, and Yoojun hammered the point home. Taking home the trophy changes your entire life. He told his friend he was plenty good, ordering him to bed. Yoojun figured he should sleep too. Stretching out, he noticed Hyungnam sitting below, lost in thought. He went over, grabbed a seat, and asked what was wrong. Hyungnam dodged the question at first, but after some easy joking around, he confessed his doubts about beating this juggernaut team. Yoojun backed him up, swearing that pro clubs would be chasing him down even if they lost. But Hyungnam had a personal stake in this, a secret reason to win, one he promised to reveal later. Leaving it at that, Yoojun knew stressing wouldn't help. Before heading to bed, he told his senior to trust him with the win. For once, Hyungnam didn't snap back, just smiled. The ultimate showdown was finally creeping closer. Game day at the Under-17 World Cup. Watch closely, all those struggles and hidden dreams are colliding on this exact pitch. The broadcast flared up, calling Korea's run a string of absolute miracles. Now, they were just one step from the global crown. But standing in their way was Argentina, the most lethal offense in the bracket. The guys hit the grass for warm-ups. Right before kickoff, the coach laid down strict orders. Yoojun needed to lock down the midfield. Just distribute the ball, 0 attacking runs. Yoojun agreed in his head. Parking the bus was the smart play. Against firepower like that, sure. But then he just went rogue, leaving his poor coach screaming internally about what this kid was doing. The second the ball touched his boots, Yoojun charged straight at the entire Argentine backline. He knew he leveled up, but he had to test his new vision out here in a real match scenario. He carved into open space, slipped a pass to Hyungnam, and instantly demanded the return ball. The defense collapsed on him. But since Yoojun hadn't looked like a scoring threat all tournament, they gave him space. Even his own coach had 0 clue what was coming. Staring through a thick wall of blue and white jerseys, barely 1 minute on the clock, Yoojun drilled an absolute laser right into the bottom corner, aimed perfectly into the clear space. The crowd lost their minds over the opening strike. His new vision actually worked. Mauro Icardi just stood there, stunned. Paulo Dybala muttered to himself nobody had scouted this kid, having a shot like that. Real panic started setting in, but Madola quickly settled his guys down. He reminded them that one quick goal would reset the entire momentum. This was Argentina, after all. A squad that literally defined every single era of world football. From Maradona running entire games alone, all the way to Messi cementing a legacy passed down through pure talent. They kicked off again, flooding the midfield and cranking up the pace to snatch the game right back. Up in the scout boxes, Dean Mark analyzed every move. He muttered that this was totally wild, since he was so sure. The Koreans locked down their defense, totally shocked by that first-minute goal. Mark completely agrees. But he points out that timing and shot angle that is just pure talent from the kid. Down on the pitch, Yoojun struggles to chase Dybala. He is absolutely stunned by the crazy speed of this guy. At the same time, Dybala feels the heat. He knows he has to stick to Yoojun like absolute glue. He knows it. Letting him break free means another painfully easy goal. Medela receives a pass. Yujin yells for his teammates to close in, and Korea immediately traps him in a 2-on-1 setup, but Medela effortlessly slips right past them. He looks like he is literally surfing across the grass. Eugene seriously wonders how this guy never became a massive global star in his original timeline with skills like that. Medela casually invades the Korean box. The defense scrambles to contain him, but he still threads a perfect pass to Morrow. Morrow blasts it into the back of the net. 23 minutes into the first half, Argentina wipes out the deficit and ties. Eugene realizes their attack is just too heavy. Stop one guy, and two others immediately burst forward. Block two of them, and the third finishes the job. Shutting down three elite forwards feels like a truly impossible mission. Moments later, John tries slipping a pass to Eugene, but Medela reads it perfectly and explosively intercepts the ball. The unpredictable speed bursts from these guys are insane. Forcing impossible plays is just a massive waste of time. Eugene decides he is done dropping back just to take a beating. He ramps up the attack to clash with them head-on. He successfully dispossesses Medela. The Argentine actually looks pretty excited by the sudden challenge, but Dybala instantly latches onto Eugene again. He warns him expect heavy man marking for the rest of the game. Eugene notices those crazy reaction times. He realizes his first goal only happened because no one was actually paying attention to him yet. Bad news. Having a fierce marker stuck to him makes things incredibly difficult. For now, he just tries to circulate the ball, but Hyung-min is completely swallowed up by defenders. The pass ends up reaching Moon instead. He takes a direct shot, but the keeper easily saves the low strike scraping across the turf. Argentina has a clear tactic right now. Stick a marker on Eugene to shut down all his shots and runs. They intentionally leave Moon wide open, knowing his finishing is weak. All remaining strength goes into double-teaming Hyung-min and blocking every path. It honestly feels like he and Moon have to go rescue Prince Hyung-min from this heavy Argentine fortress. 16 minutes into the second half, the score is still tied up. Another pass heads for Eugene, with Dybala breathing right down his neck. With Hyung-min fully neutralized and Moon lacking real accuracy, expecting anything from this current attack feels pretty hopeless. Right then, Medela steals the ball yet again. Eugene knows that if they only play defense, his team will absolutely break first. They desperately need a way to flip this momentum. Up in the stands, Gary watches alongside his assistant. His assistant casually mentions that Korea and Eugene have zero chance of actually beating Argentina today. Gary shuts that down fast. He says impossible is just a cheap excuse for people who give up. Just looking at the pure grit in Eugene's eyes, Gary knows this kid is absolutely not done fighting. The assistant asks what he can possibly do with those blocked passing lanes. Gary just smiles. There is still one move he hasn't tried. Back on the pitch, Eugene cannot find the golden zone anywhere. His stamina is completely hitting its absolute limit. Dybala lunges into a fierce tackle. He dispossesses Eugene, leaving the ball totally loose on the grass. Everyone rushes for it. Argentina is definitely getting there first, but Eugene instantly forms a plan after confirming one crucial detail. It takes them 3 seconds to recover a loose ball. Because he is not a known dribbler, the space around him ends up totally empty. The defense thinks one marker is enough to handle him. They focus way more on blocking passes and tracking the other forwards. Jung-suk forces a pass through to Eugene. He pushes forward, fully aware his entire game relies on vision and hustle, never on actual dribbling. Dybala charges in to mark him heavy again. Suddenly, a red zone flashes in Eugene's vision. A brutal slide tackle is coming right now. Now watch. If he bypasses this specific tackle, the entire area behind is completely open. Remembering Gary's belief about carving his own path, Eugene stares down that dangerous red zone head-on. He maneuvers through the tight space. He evades Dybala's fierce slide tackle and breaks cleanly past his marker. Pushing deep into the Argentine box, the heavy marking suffocating Hyung-min finally shatters. The entire defense cracks wide open. This is it. Hyung-min slips right past his completely confused defenders. With the rear guard shattered, Eugene finally spots the golden zone. He delivers a perfect cross. Hyung-min chests it down and unleashes a massive strike. A total rocket. The keeper is in position but just cannot hold on. South Korea bags their second goal. That makes it 2-1 against Argentina, 34 minutes deep into the second half. Just over 10 minutes left for Argentina to chase down an equalizer. And honestly, this situation is totally backwards. The Argentines are usually the predators on the pitch, but right now they are totally racing the clock. Minute 83 hits. Medela starts feeling that heavy desperation, rushing his play. That split second of distraction is all Eugene needs to swipe the ball clean. He knows these rivals aren't used to being hunted. South Korea just has to survive this pressure. The tension is unreal. Argentina pushes up hard, but the Korean defense forms an absolute wall. 2 minutes of stoppage time drop. The clash gets brutally tough right down to the final seconds. Argentina unleashes one last highly dangerous shot, but Seung-min holds on tight. The final whistle echoes across the pitch. South Korea officially takes the crown at the awards ceremony for the 2009 Under-17 World Cup. Their name rings out as world champions. The players hoist that trophy up with massive pride. Yujin reflects for a second. His only past experience was basic school tournaments and the Sendai Cup. This is his first actual international run, the real start of his story. Then the individual awards kick off. Thinking about the golden boot for top scorer, Yujin glances over and sees the obvious. Hyungnam is already up there looking incredibly smug, claiming the trophy after raining down goals all tournament long. He struts over teasingly, asks if his buddy has ever touched anything like it, offering him a stroke of the prize. Yujin does not hesitate at all and playfully tells his teammate to screw off. Finally, the MVP announcement arrives. Yujin knows winning MVP is the absolute minimum requirement to get into Manchester City. That trophy is undeniable proof he is the best player here. It opens doors to way more offers than just Manchester. His name gets called. Up in the stands, Ali comments that this kid is simply unbelievable. He actually managed to pull the whole challenge off. The grueling Under-17 World Cup is finally over. Now Yujin just has to make a choice about his future. Right after the tournament, Jiho takes off. She heads straight for South Korea, claiming she has some urgent pending matters to fix. But the guy chasing Yujin down right after is Moon. He reveals he just got 3 solid club offers. Yujin congratulates him, but immediately complains does he have any idea it is 4 in the morning. Moon is too anxious to care. He begs for advice on which path to take, so Yujin asks to hear the deals. First up is the Chinese Super League, which gets dismissed right on the spot. Next is Oberhausen, over in the Bundesliga. Yujin actually considers that a pretty solid option, but Moon's real dilemma is the third pitch. A club called Manchester City recently bumped to the 2nd division. You already know where this is going. Zero hesitation here. Yujin firmly states he has to take that one, no matter what happens. Moon asks if that team actually promises something big. Yujin guarantees it, telling him to just trust his word. Moon thanks him immensely for the tip and leaves. Alone, Yujin reflects. Back in his past life, his teammate only played in the K-League. This transfer is a massive stroke of luck, probably driven by the insane performance they just delivered together. And it is definitely something that will pay off for Yujin later. Finally, back in Korea, the very first thing his dad does. During dinner, he just complains, groaning that all those matches took place at awful hours of the morning. He basically died of sleep deprivation dozing off at work. Yujin casually explains the 8-hour time difference, but his mom quickly smacks her husband right on the head. Shut up, she says. Their son just worked incredibly hard and finally came home. Right after, she places a home-cooked delicacy on the table. Honestly, it looks exactly like pure burnt charcoal. Yujin expresses his thanks, but spots something strange. His agent is sitting right at their table, completely smeared with rice. He asks what she's even doing here. Jiho explains she came by to confirm some details and bring updates. Curious why she arrived before him, Yujin listens up. There are 3 pieces of good news and 1 bad. He prefers to hear the worst one first. Jiho reveals that Barcelona actually sent over an offer, which makes him question if that is genuinely bad news. The agent drops the documents on the table and explains. The Catalan club refused the guaranteed minutes clause, mostly because of some intense opposition from the manager. Looking at the document, Yujin notices it is almost entirely covered in black energy. He accepts that if the manager is against it, there is nothing to be done. Moving to the good news, the first came from Valencia, but that contract also glowed in ominous black. They offered 45 minutes across 5 matches. A genuine sign of interest, sure, yet the paper stayed completely dark. Yujin asks out loud, why would a massive club like Valencia be so desperate for a young prospect like him? Jiho lays it out. Despite their huge prestige, their finances are in a total death spiral, wrecking their contract renewals. Star names like David Villa, David Silva, Juan Mata, Vicente, and Joaquin, every single one of them at risk of leaving. Yujin realizes the club is practically collapsing right now. Then he remembers exactly what happened in his original timeline. Valencia actually ended up fighting against relegation. Yeah, definitely not a great place to build his career. The next piece of decent news is a revised proposal from Manchester United promising 20 minutes across 2 matches. Yujin completely scoffs at this. That amount of time just means subbing in late to run down the clock and losing games. Totally not worth it. Finally, Gio pulls out the very last proposal on the table, straight from Manchester City. The second that paper touches the table, the contract glows a really light gray. The dark energy is almost totally gone. His weekly wage just doubled. They threw in incentive clauses, and his guaranteed playing time shot up to 225 minutes. That basically makes him a certified starter. Still, his mind shifts to Hyungnam. wondering if City actually reached out to his friend too. Getting to play together again would be pretty huge. A few days later, they are at the Korea Football Association in Jongno. They are holding a special awards ceremony for the youth national team, officially thanking the kids who gave everything for their country. While the suits drag through long speeches, Moon falls fast asleep. Eventually, the squad gets handed a certificate and some solid cash. The coach proudly holds up a check for 30 million won. Meanwhile, Moon groans out loud, saying this boring bureaucracy is practically killing him. Min-sung agrees. He says he would rather face Argentina again than sit through one more minute of this. Soon enough, the whole team swarms Yujin. They are all asking where he is headed, since rumors say major clubs are literally fighting over him. Min-sung begs him to share the secret, swearing blindly that nobody will leak a thing. Yujin shoots right back. He knows exactly how fast Min-sung would spread the news, so his lips are staying completely sealed. Plus, he honestly has not even made his final decision yet anyway. Right in that brief moment of total distraction, Yujin accidentally bumps hard into a man and quickly apologizes. Then he freezes cold, realizing he just hit Hyo Jungmoo, the legendary head coach of the senior Korean national team, the confirmed commander heading to the World Cup in South Africa. His old corporate employee instincts kick in instantly, dropping him into a perfectly respectful bow. The coach laughs, asking if the kid actually recognizes him. Yujin replies there probably is not a single person around. Anyone playing football in this country would definitely know him. Jungmoo praises the youngster, saying he is clearly skilled off the pitch too. The coach excuses himself to catch up with the other directors, promising to chat again next time. Watching the group leave, Yujin wishes them well, feeling pretty confident that he definitely managed to catch the commander's eye just now. The senior call-up might actually be a real possibility now. Watching this whole exchange, Min-sung and Moon start joking around, saying the circuits inside Yujin's little brain must have completely shorted out. Later on, heading down toward the main building entrance. While waiting for his agent, Yujin bumps right into Hyungnim. He playfully nudges his friend, asking what brings him around here. Hyungnim says he is waiting for his dad. Yujin immediately calls in the promise made before the big final, reminding the guy that he owes a debt and needs to spill the secret. Hyungnim smiles, revealing his bags are already packed. He is heading straight for the Premier League, the wildest, most brutal competition in the world where no team is ever truly safe. Think about how crazy this butterfly effect is getting. Hyunnim originally went to Hamburg, but Yujin completely shifted the destiny of his friend. Diving into English football at 17 takes absurd courage, knowing exactly how hard he had been fighting just for scraps. To get any playing time guarantees in his own contract, Yujin asks if his friend managed to secure a clause like that. Nope. Hyungnim plans to prove his raw talent in training, highly doubting they would ever dare to leave him riding the bench. Yujin smiles. Only absolute idiots alter the future like that, he thinks, joking that his friend really should have negotiated way better. He immediately demands to know which club it is. Hyungnim proudly announces he is joining Tottenham Hotspur. Yujin stammers in complete shock, repeating the team name out loud over and over. It honestly feels like some design of fate, because back in his original timeline, when he was way older, that was the exact same club he ended up playing for. Hyungnim's dad honks the horn outside, calling his son. As the two friends finally say their goodbyes, Yujin quietly laments that they will not be on the same squad together, leaving them with just a simple farewell for now. He warns his friend not to drag Korea's reputation through the English mud, but Hyungnim fires right back, saying he isn't some idiot like him. He drops a final warning to meet again on the senior national team. Watching his teammate drive off, Yujin feels a massive weight lift. His buddy never holds back, yet that blunt talk finally cures his endless overthinking. He realizes he just needs a tiny spark of courage to lock in his future. The moment Jiho pulls up in her car, Yujin gives her a dead serious look. The choice is locked. He is officially heading to Manchester City. Smiling wide, the agent calls it a brilliant move. Fast forward a few weeks to a freezing December day in 2009. They step through the gates of Incheon International Airport. The young prodigy officially leaves Korea behind, flying straight toward his new destiny. Destination Manchester, the absolute heart of football. Watch closely, because Yujin is finally pulling up to City. The setup is on a whole different level, packed with an insane number of flawless pitches. But Jiho warns him not to get distracted. The real prize is Etihad Stadium. That massive stage is where the South Korean rookie will actually perform. Running totally behind schedule, Jiho rushes the kid along. He barely gets a second to take it all in. Director Ali greets him with huge energy, calling it an absolute honor to reunite. Step 1 is the biggest hurdle, the contract. Hands practically shaking from the nerves, Yujin scans the paperwork and signs on the dotted line, making his transfer official. Ali celebrates, welcoming him warmly and confirming he is officially a Manchester City player. A few days later, the rookie reports for his first real session. Basic medical exams come first, quickly revealing his massive fear of needles. Then it is straight to the gym to meet fitness coach Paul Santini. The trainer actually praises his cardio scores, but heavily warns him about those skinny stick legs. He needs serious muscle, bluntly asking if he has ever even touched a dumbbell. The kid awkwardly admits he has zero clue where to begin. Paul completely brushes it off to reassure him. He says most guys start out exactly like this, promising to handle his physical build. Cut to later, and Eugen is dying under a squat rack. The rookie groans. Paul demands he holds steady. Machines are for absolute amateurs. Eugen barks right back that an amateur is exactly what he is. By the end of this brutal session, his legs are pure jelly. Paul tells him to grab a massage, loudly reminding him that horrible pain equals real muscle growth. Next stop is the physio room with health coach Oliver Brand. He just points at the table and tells him to lay flat. Eugen thinks this quiet room feels way safer than the gym. That illusion shatters the second a brutal massage begins, taking a sharp elbow dead in the center of his spine. Oliver casually notes his back is practically made of knots, wishing him decent luck for tomorrow. Eugen now faces an intense afternoon training session with the club reserve squad, the absolute perfect chance to see exactly how strong his new teammates really are. Stepping onto the massive grass pitch, the vibe feels oddly chill. He immediately spots striker Robson, a wildly talented forward who has been battling nasty injuries and a completely awful run of form lately, which tragically dumped him down to the secondary squad. Reserve manager James Barry Murphy quickly introduces the South Korean rookie to everyone. The guys offer up a super lazy, half-hearted clap. James announces an 11-on-11 match, 2 30-minute halves, 0 strict tactics. Starting the drill, Eugen gets a clean touch on the ball, but gets totally flattened by a giant defender. His own squad screams at him to wake up and pay attention. Reality hits hard. He was completely arrogant to think he came to test their skills. These space-obsessed pros are actually the ones testing him. Snapping into a real professional mindset, the boy fights for every single ball like a complete maniac, eating sharp elbows and struggling with his fragile physical frame. But here is where it gets crazy. In a flash of pure genius, he threads an unreal pass straight into the golden zone. It lands perfectly for Robson. The striker controls it effortlessly and buries the shot, totally stunned by that elite setup. That left him staring at an open net. Up in the stands, club manager Roberto Mancini is watching everything, studying the pitch closely alongside head coach Zico. Zico mentions that Robson should be back on the first squad in maybe a month or two, but Mancini ignores it. His eyes are glued strictly to the Korean rookie. Mancini knows the owner heavily backed this specific signing, but he honestly expected zero from the kid, just another totally average midfielder. But witnessing that surgical assist changes his mind instantly. He wonders out loud if academy kids normally train with this much insane desperation. Zico answers that most talents just get totally lazy and fail. Driven by sheer competitiveness, the rookie reveals an absolutely insane routine, tackling 3 brutal physical training sessions every single morning. Before finally hitting the pitch in the afternoon, the staff is honestly amazed by his stamina after that massive workload. Mancini orders them to keep a very close eye on him. If this kid can maintain that wild dedication for a month without getting injured, he would be totally prepared to make his first team debut. Over those next few weeks, Eugen just keeps killing himself in training. He starts off by doing 20 reps of 80-kilogram barbell squats, followed immediately by Oliver digging painful elbows into his back in the massage room to fix tight muscle knots. His legs barely obey his brain. But he sticks to this grind for an entire month, hitting an impressive milestone of 20 reps at 120 kilograms. Watching this progress, Paul figures the boy's physique is developing perfectly. He announces they will wrap up the strength training right there. The trainer explains there is a sudden change of plans. Curious to know who exactly altered his daily routine, the young player immediately heads over to the head coach's office. Manager James Barry Murphy warmly welcomes him inside. He tells him to sit down, asking how the training is going. Eugen flatly replies that it is total hell. A bearable hell, though. He admits he is actually adapting pretty well to the heavy routine by now. Hearing this, James announces they are putting him in a match 4 days from now against the Liverpool reserve squad. The young South Korean leaves the room completely radiant, buzzing with the huge news that his reserve debut is finally happening. Shortly after, the manager is already on the phone with Roberto Mancini, confirming he scheduled this game for a specific date. A day when the boss can watch closely and track the boy's actual development. On the day of the Liverpool clash, watch how he handles real pressure. The scoreboard already reads 1-0 for the opposition. Out on the pitch, Eugen reflects on how he is still a midfielder with so many flaws, openly acknowledging his dribbling is not great. His marking is sloppy, and he still has not mastered the black zone to finish plays himself, even his regular passes. are not quite up to professional standards, but his real specialty is the assist, spotting a golden zone. He ends up taking a cheap punch to the face, brought down hard by a deeply frustrated Liverpool player. That nasty challenge earns the offender an immediate yellow card. Tempers flare wildly. The Manchester City players rush in, ready to brawl. The rival tries justifying it, claiming the rookie only fell because his physical build is awful. Eugene's teammate snaps right back at him, telling him to stop using such good arguments. Everything he said is an undeniable truth. Despite taking that heavy blow, the youngster easily secures a free kick. Since it is way too far from the box for a direct shot, he scans the pitch until he spots a sudden opening in a golden zone. He strikes the free kick straight toward that exact area. The striker, Mike, appears like an absolute rocket. He sends the ball smashing into the back of the net, equalizing the game. Eugene realizes right there, the level here is vastly different from the Under-17 World Cup. These teammates and opponents are so much more powerful, but he feels absolutely certain he will grow immensely in this place. Up in the stands, Mancini and Zeke watch everything unfold. The manager praises the boys' extraordinary passing vision. He asks if there is anyone else in the reserve squad capable of doing exactly that. Zeke assures him that there is absolutely no one in the reserves with that skill. When Mancini specifies he is asking about the first team, the assistant explains that all the senior midfielders are purely box-to-box players. No one shares the South Korean's specific role or elite passing quality, the boss admits. He really needs someone with those exact characteristics. But Zeke reminds him he already requested a highly technical player, and the club already signed David Silva. Mancini ponders this. David Silva is indeed a truly complete and versatile midfielder, capable of initiating excellent plays and heavily exploiting spaces in the defense. But on the other hand, Eugene clearly has many weaknesses, but all of his best attributes are sharply concentrated into a single aspect of the game: pure passing vision. If David Silva is an absolute expert at finding spaces that already exist, Eugene is known for creating attacks that simply do not exist. Think about how crazy that is, comparing a raw rookie to a star of David Silva's massive caliber. The manager tries to calm himself down, but is interrupted by yet another wild play from the boy. Even while closely marked by two Liverpool players, the youngster spots a narrow corridor and delivers the perfect pass. The opponents think the touch is useless, but Mike is already waiting in the golden zone, sprinting forward like a jet to score another beautiful goal, consolidating an excellent duo. Fully impressed, Mancini decrees the club has found a long-term player. He orders Zeke to increase the youngster's training workload even more to build up his physique, plus starting him in every single reserve match from now on. In his very first debut, the boy secures 2 assists. Thanks to his rapid success, Eugen earns his own private place, a cozy house fully sponsored by the club right beside the training center. Naturally, his extremely protective mother insists on tagging along and moves right in. And since the team provides a personal chef, she does not even have to stress over cooking meals. Early one morning, right before dawn breaks, loud backyard construction noise abruptly wakes them both up. The kid quickly remembers what is going on. A few days earlier, Paul Santini warned him about adding another intense workout block to his schedule. Seeing the athlete panic over match-day exhaustion, the trainer simply handed him a paper of full blueprint for a swimming pool right in his front yard. He explains the setup is absolutely perfect for speeding up muscle recovery. Paul warned him outright the second construction wraps up, his daily routine jumps from 3 to 4 brutal training blocks. Eugene is genuinely shocked. Sheikh Mansour is operating on a whole different level, casually building a private pool for a 17-year-old kid. 3 whole months pass, and that intense daily routine just keeps looping. Eugene already has 12 appearances for the reserve team and is now facing Barcelona's secondary squad. During the match, Robson fires a flawless pass straight to the South Korean. Watch this. A Spanish defender lunges forward hard for the steal, but the youngster refuses to back down. He tanks the heavy shoulder impact entirely and just keeps pushing forward. Up in the VIP area, Mancini celebrates his growth. He notes the athlete's physique has hit a completely new level, and it is finally time for the next stage. Heading back home later, the player finds his private pool fully finished. He is pretty happy about it, sure, but he knows those 4 daily workouts are officially starting. Soon after, manager James pays a personal visit. He needs to take him back to the training center because someone incredibly important wants a word. The kid gets escorted straight into Roberto Mancini's private office. Standing right in front of a living legend, an instinctive former striker who won miraculous titles and collected even more trophies as an elite manager leaves Eugene so incredibly nervous that he drops into a ridiculously stiff, exaggerated bow. Mancini just smiles and tells the kid to relax. He praises his recent insane run of 11 assists across 12 games. The South Korean hasn't even stopped to check his own stats. He only thinks about how he still has 0 goals and barely even sees the dangerous red zones, let alone utilizing the black zone against tough defenses. He basically survives on the rare golden zones. Humbly, he tells the manager he is just trying his absolute best out there, but Mancini insists it is pure talent, highly praising the boy's serious grit, especially for surviving 4 daily training blocks while playing at such crazy intensity for his age. Now Yujin is confused. He replies there has to be a mistake, because he hasn't even started the 4-block routine yet. Right on cue, Tiki steps in to warn him those 4 brutal shifts begin exactly tomorrow morning. Mancini looks genuinely surprised, wondering if the kid achieved all that insane physical growth on just 3 workout blocks a day. Totally impressed by this dedication, the manager reaches out and hands the kid his personal card. He tells him to call directly if anything ever goes wrong. The rookie is totally shell-shocked. A direct line to the big boss? He can barely hold in his wild excitement. As they say their goodbyes, Mancini makes it very clear he is eager to see his performance moving forward. Walking out of that office with a massive, silly grin, the South Korean knows he made a stellar first impression. Playing for the first team suddenly doesn't feel like some impossible dream anymore. He is absolutely determined to push himself even harder. The second the boy leaves the room, Taesiki turns to his boss. Why didn't he mention the big phone call from the Korean Football Association about the World Cup roster? Looking thoughtful, Mancini simply changes his mind and brushes the topic off. He notes the kid's training load is about to get much heavier starting tomorrow. Plus, he's already playing at a drastically higher level than he was just 3 months ago. Taesiki reminds him the Korean Federation wants his match records and an internal club evaluation. But the manager is categorical, order them to send absolutely nothing. In Mancini's eyes, sending the youngster to the World Cup now only delays his real first-team debut. It makes 0 sense to burn out a top prospect so early in his career. His plan is to polish the boy exclusively for Manchester City. He is charting a fast, direct path straight to the top of the Premier League. Give it a year or 2, and the entire planet will know his name. Later on, Yujin is practically drowning in his new pool while Paul Santini calmly tells him to just relax. The kid loudly complains how is he supposed to relax when his feet cannot even touch the freezing bottom of the water. But the chaotic training session suddenly gets interrupted. Jiho has arrived. Paul is totally ready to throw a massive fit over the interruption, but instantly fixes his posture seeing the agent. Completely enchanted by her beauty, the fitness coach flashes a charming smile, calls her mademoiselle, and willingly excuses himself. He steps back, telling her to take all the time she needs with the athlete. Yujin actually finds it pretty amusing how easily he can read the trainer. Stepping out of the pool, he asks if she brought any updates. Jiho jumps right in. Does he remember Coach Young-won? The man running the South Korea senior national squad. She reveals they just scheduled a sudden, last-minute meeting with him. The player immediately figures out they are discussing the World Cup. His agent confirms it completely. She explains this rushed sit-down happened purely because Manchester City refused to hand over his data. He finds the club's flat refusal honestly strange, but Jiho breaks it down for the team. Letting a player join the national squad just means bleeding money and prep time with 0 financial return. Even seeing the club's logic, Yujin listens as Jiho heavily insists on his absolute participation in the upcoming tournament. The agent explains how a World Cup offers totally priceless match experience. It boosts his market value, builds a massive Korean fan base, and above all, transforms his whole career. She reminds him that total football legends like Pele and Ronaldo conquered the world at 17, building absolutely unbeatable legacies from that exact moment onward. The young midfielder strongly agrees this is a genuine once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He realizes he actually needs to get greedy here. Snatching a world title as a developing athlete would phenomenally skyrocket his entire career trajectory. He considers how he really hates sacrificing his daily routine with the club, but Jiho guarantees their strict planning will absolutely continue, because they plan to bring Paul himself straight to the World Cup. He definitely has some serious doubts about the national team accepting this. The agent firmly states that hitting the Federation's schedule means absolutely 0 issues, especially since the national team manager fully understands the sheer weight of landing such a massive reinforcement. Sitting at 11 assists in 12 games for European Giants reserves, she makes it crystal clear if South Korea actually rejects these terms, they will simply skip the World Cup altogether, since the athlete's individual career is the absolute top priority. He knows she is right, so he accepts the challenge. Now watch a month flies by, and the Manchester City reserves grab another victory. This time they win 2-0. Right at the final whistle, striker Mike heavily praises the South Koreans' incredible passing. He just modestly replies that it was honestly nothing but luck. Meanwhile, the fans are completely thrilled with this fresh crop of talent, and Yujin's numbers are just overwhelmingly good. From January to April, he played 17 full matches, racking up 13 wins, 4 draws, and 0 defeats. He is personally responsible for practically every single assist on the team's goals. The experienced Robson approaches to thank him for another goal on his tally, but he brings some pretty bittersweet news. This is officially their final match together because he is finally heading back up to the first team. The striker jokes around, asking how he will ever survive without the rookie's crazy assists. He predicts that at this wild rate, the Korean is guaranteed to move up a category by the very next year. The youngster just flashes a smile, saying he will keep grinding hard so they can meet back up there. Deep down, he knows the other players have absolutely no idea about the specific playing time targets already locked into his contract. Just as he gets ready to board the team bus, Yoojin is suddenly stopped by manager James. James calls him over to ride in his private car, heading in the exact opposite direction of the main training center. James comments on the European season ending, bringing up this terrible wave of injuries completely gutting the first-team squad right now. They lost the starting striker and several other key players. The youth finally understands this is exactly why Robson got promoted way ahead of schedule. He knows this stretch between April and May is always brutal for the physical wear and tear on professional athletes. But he is honestly pretty intrigued about why he is hearing this specific information. His suspicions are instantly confirmed the second the vehicle parks. He gets led straight back to the club's main office. Stepping into the room, the youngster tries his absolute hardest to push down the nerves, but that task is practically impossible. He is not just standing in front of Roberto Mancini, he is standing in front of the entire first-team coaching staff of Manchester City. With a rock-solid gaze and a satisfied smile, Mancini actually congratulates the boy. He announces that Yoojin better get ready, the time for his first-team debut has officially arrived. Meanwhile, over at the Tottenham Hotspur training ground, a fierce preparation match is heavily underway. Reserve team striker Harry Kane delivers this incredibly sharp cross right toward the box, sending the ball into a space where absolutely no one seems to be. But the young Heung-min proves them all wrong. Anticipating the whole play, he finds the perfect breach in the defense and slots in an absolutely beautiful goal. The staff on the pitch are completely blown away, wondering what kind of next-level movement they just witnessed, recognizing that the boy truly possesses something special. During the rest break, Heung-min sits down, just completely and utterly exhausted. He reflects on how the reserve level in England is absolutely no joke. He starts wondering how his rival Yoojin is holding up right now, right as Harry Kane walks over holding his phone. The striker asks him flat out if he had not played today with that kid from the Under-17 World Cup and showed him the latest news. The sports pages highlighted Yoojin's incredible performance. Heung-min read it in pure shock. His counterpart was already getting bumped up to Manchester City's first team. It honestly felt like his rival was a literal monster out of fiction. The Tottenham youth pushed all his exhaustion aside. This was no time to stand still. He had to push himself even harder just to catch up to his compatriot. Meanwhile, on the blue side of Manchester, Yoojin stared at the exact same headlines. He asked his agent if this was all some massive exaggeration. The papers were basically guaranteeing his spot on the first team, but his name had only barely made it onto the squad list. Jiho fired back that the technicalities meant nothing. The simple fact that a 17-year-old was even being considered for the senior squad of a massive club like that was plenty to make the front page. She warned him that the entire world would be watching his next match. This was the exact moment he had to prove his actual worth. Korean national team manager Jung Hwan was confirmed to be in the stands. She looked him dead in the eye, warning him he had to play, like his actual life depended on it. The midfielder laughed, saying her tone did not make it sound like a joke at all. But his agent doubled down the situation was incredibly serious. Tomorrow's clash was round 37 of the Premier League. Only a single point separated Manchester City from Tottenham right now. Whoever won this duel would practically punch their ticket straight to the Champions League. A good performance here would easily place the youngster's name right at the summit of world football. Analyzing the whole scenario, Yoojin dug through his memories. He recalled the original timeline for the 2010 to 2011 season. In real history, Manchester City had lost this exact game to Tottenham, completely missing the Champions League qualification zone. He realized he had just been drafted into a match historically destined for his club's absolute failure, which meant he was the one single variable capable of changing the destiny of this entire confrontation. Now watch how this plays out. Game day arrived, and the atmosphere at the Etihad Stadium was totally electric. The stands were completely packed. Manchester City took the pitch in a 4-4-2 formation, with Roberto Mancini seeking a solid and perfectly balanced structure. Harry Redknapp's Tottenham adopted the exact same formation on the other side, but the commentators pointed out something crucial. Despite identical lineups, the two managers had completely opposite philosophies. Everyone wanted to see who would actually leave the pitch victorious. Behind the scenes, as he got ready for the warm-up, Yoojin found himself surrounded by absolute football legends. Emmanuel Adebayor, Craig Bellamy, Carlos Tevez, Pablo Zabaleta, and legendary goalkeeper Shea Given. The sheer presence of this squad hit the kid hard, but he stood his ground, fully knowing this was no time for nerves. Robson walked over with a big smile, joking that the rookie actually managed to make the massive step up. He playfully warned him not to faint from shock in front of the team's stars. The youngster shot back, saying the game could not be that different from what he was already doing. But the absolute second he stepped onto the pit and heard the deafening roar of 50,000 screaming fans, the sheer impact almost made him freeze up entirely. Robson nudged his teammate, reminding him he had warned him about this exact pressure. He told the kid he would get used to it over time. Regaining his focus, Eugen smiled to himself. He realized he had finally made it to the absolute elite of world football. That heavy pressure was exactly what he needed and wanted to feel right now. He would do everything in his power to win. Up in the press box, Korean reporter Kwon Young-soo proudly followed his compatriots every step, already planning to lock down an exclusive interview right after the final whistle. The young midfielder started the match on the bench, but his eyes stayed glued to the pitch, decoding every movement and studying the opponent's defensive gaps. At last, the referee blew the whistle to signal the start of the first half. The battle for Champions League glory officially kicked off.